He was Deep Kin Fan. He was once a god of war. In the god realm, he built a mighty empire. He led millions of warriors against the Honglan Terrace. But just as victory was within his grasp, he was betrayed. His sworn brother, Lang Thap Tam, and his lover, Lak Lin, turned against him. He fell at the Honglan Terrace. Deep Kin Van floated in an endless void. A single question echoed in his mind. Who am I? Fragments of memories flashed before him. He saw another life. He was Diep Kin Van of the Diep family, from Mat Nat Chan. He was once a genius of the Diep family, but he was framed, thrown into prison. His meridians were utterly destroyed. Diep Kin Van's eyes snapped open. No, I am Diep Kin Van, the god of war, Diep Kin Van. He shot up in bed. His face was filled with rage. Lang Thap Tam, Lak Lin, you are truly treacherous. Diep Kin Van stared blankly at his hands. Suddenly, an agonizing pain shot through him. Diep Kin Van collapsed under the table. Then he burst out laughing. I'm reborn. He couldn't believe it. The heavens had given him another chance. He was alive. 100 years later, Diep Kin Van inspected his new body. His face fell. Before, he was an unrivaled conqueror. Now, he was reborn in the body of a weakling. He stared at his own arms. His voice was filled with disappointment. This body is so pathetic. His meridians were broken. He couldn't absorb spiritual energy. Completely useless. He looked deeper inside his body. He discovered his heart had turned black. His expression changed again. A light flared in his eyes. The 10-demon heart. Diep Kin Van was stunned. The 10-demon heart was reborn with him. It was the source of his power as a war god. His legendary might all came from this heart. Diep Kin Van raised his hand and channeled his power. A gentle energy flowed out instantly. He realized something. It was good. The 10-demon heart was still here. Broken meridians were not a big problem. It would just take some work. A moment later, a sharp light flashed in his eyes. At the same time, an incredibly powerful aura erupted from him. Just then, the door was pushed open. A beautiful figure appeared before him. Excitement was clear on her face. Her eyelashes trembled. The girl was overjoyed. Brother, you're awake. The newcomer was Diep Nu, his younger sister. Diep Kin Van's father had found her in the Mat Nat forest 10 years ago. Diep Kin Van looked at Diep Nu, stunned. Diep Nu shyly turned away. She placed a tray of medicine on the table. Here's today's medicine. He saw her covering her cheek. He asked urgently, Nu Nhi, what happened to your face? Diep Nu lowered her eyes. She whispered, my face. It's fine. Don't worry. Diep Kin Van's face changed instantly. His voice became deep and powerful. He grabbed her hand. How can you say it's fine? What happened? Diep Nu was terrified by his intense aura. Tears welled up in her eyes. I saw how bad your injuries were. So I went to the medicine hall for a life-returning pill. But the steward, he refused. And then, he hit me. Diep Kin Van's eyes turned to ice. He looked at his sister's red, swollen cheek. A sharp pain shot through his heart. Though he was reborn, this body's love for Diep Nu had only grown stronger. She quickly covered her face again. She shook her head. It's okay. I'm really okay. Don't fight them. We can't win. We've always had to endure this. Diep Kin Van froze for a moment. Diep Nu wiped away a tear. She forced a smile. Besides, father wouldn't want you to get in trouble. He just wants you to be happy, brother. Before she could finish, a harsh voice boomed from outside. Diep Nu, get out here. I know you stole a life-returning pill for your sickly brother. The voice rang out. With a crash, the door exploded inward. Splinters of wood flew everywhere. Several figures stormed into the room. A middle-aged man led them. The fat on his face jiggled as he moved. He had a large, protruding belly. His small eyes scanned the room, his face filled with disbelief. But he was also pleased. Why does this brat look so healthy, he thought. Did Diep Nu really steal the pill? This man was Lai Kai, the steward of the medicine hall. Lai Kai pointed at Diep Nu and bellowed. The evidence is right here. Diep Nu, you stole the pill. And Diep Kin Van, you've already taken it. Their crimes are unforgivable. Men, seize them. Hearing this, Diep Nu panicked. I didn't steal it. I didn't. Steward Lai, you're framing me. Lai Kai spat angrily. His arrogance was overwhelming. Your brother is healthy now, isn't he? He's out of bed. And you still dare to deny it? Tears welled in Diep Nu's eyes. Her lashes trembled. Her face was full of despair. Brother. Diep Kin Van looked at her gently. Nu Nhi, he said. I know you didn't steal it. Lai Kai's face tightened. He barked at his men. Stop denying it. Seize them. A cold light flashed in Diep Kin Van's eyes. He sneered. You shameless fool. You're dead. The henchman behind him charged forward. Diep Nu froze in terror. She watched the men rush toward her. Die. A murderous light erupted in Diep Kin Van's eyes. They burned with fury. Facing his aura, the henchmen were terrified. They couldn't believe it was Diep Kin Van. This weakling dared to fight back. One henchman grew angry. He snarled and swung a whip at Diep Kin Van. His eyes were filled with contempt. Deep Kin Van's eyes were cold and dark. A large shield suddenly materialized before him. The whip struck the shield. It stopped dead in the air, stuck fast. The henchman pulled, but he couldn't free it. Suddenly, the black whip reversed direction. It lashed back and struck him in the face. Lai Kai was furious. He roared, "Deep Kin Van, you're dead." The henchman's entire left cheek swelled up from the blow. Lai Kai ordered his men. "What are you standing there for? Forget the girl. Get him!" The henchman yelled in response. Deep Kin Van suddenly leaped forward. They couldn't react in time. His figure flickered. He appeared behind them. One of the men looked around, confused. Where'd he go? Deep Kin Van sent one henchman flying with a kick. The man screamed in pain. He thought to himself, "I can still use this move. It's been a long time." A glint appeared in Lai Kai's eyes. He roared like a tiger. His aura exploded outward. "You little bastard, you steal the pill and hit my men. I'll beat you to death." Deep Kin Van spun around. He grabbed Lai Kai by the throat. He slammed him into the ground. Lai Kai's eyes rolled back into his head. Blade edge fist. Deep Kin Van's fist shot out. It aimed straight for Lai Kai's head. Lai Kai saw the fist coming. He stammered, unable to speak. I work for Diep Thien. You can't." Diep Nu was frozen in shock. "Brother," she whispered. Fresh blood splattered everywhere. Diep Nu stared in horror at Diep Kin Van. "Brother," she screamed in fear. After all, she was still just a child. She had never seen anything like this. Deep Kin Van clenched his fist. He thought, the 10-demon heart is only at the Midchuan level, but in Mat Nat Chan, it's practically godlike. The remaining henchmen stared at him like he was a demon. They were filled with absolute terror. He was horrifying. He didn't bother to explain. He looked at Diep Nu. He deserved to die. "I promise, no one will ever bully you again." As for Lai Kai, his face was a mess. His eyes were rolled back. He lay motionless on the ground. The commotion in the room quickly drew the attention of the Deep family. "What's going on?" A middle-aged man with an urgent look ran over. He saw Deep Kin Van standing there. His eyes widened. "Young master, you're awake. This is wonderful." The man was the head steward of the Deep family, Bang Hoai. His eyes scanned the room. Then he saw the cold body on the floor. He looked closer and was stunned. "Young master, this is..." Deep Kin Van spoke coldly. "I killed him. Steward Lai broke the family rules. He even tried to kill me. He had a death wish." Bang Hoai looked up at the young man. A strange light flashed in his eyes. The young master killed him. An intense light shot from his eyes. He looked incredibly excited. "Young master, have your meridians recovered?" Diep Nu waved her hands excitedly. She looked adorable, as if she had won the fight herself. She grew more excited as she spoke. "Uncle Bang, you should have seen it. Brother took them down with a single strike. Just like that, he dealt with all the bad guys." "Young master, your talent has really returned." It took Bang Hoai a moment to process it. He was overcome with excitement. The wrinkles on his face trembled. Even his voice shook. Diep Kin Van nodded calmly. "Yes, that's right." Bang Hoai laughed heartily. "Excellent. Young master, don't worry. I will take care of Lai Kai's death." He looked down at the body. A cold light flashed in his eyes. A powerful aura rolled off him. He waved his hand and shouted, "Men, Lai Kai committed insubordination. His crime is unforgivable. The young master dealt with him personally. Drag this body away." The men respectfully bowed. "Yes, sir." Bang Hoai turned to Lai Kai's remaining men. "As for the rest of you..." Diep Kin Van's eyes flashed. His voice rang out clear and sharp. He was like a newly drawn blade. His aura grew more intense. Though his body was new, his soul was still that of the war god. His voice boomed like a bell. "Those 4 aided the enemy. Their crime is unforgivable. Give each of them 100 lashes, then banish them from the Deep family." One of the henchmen trembled with fear. He begged for mercy. He dropped to his knees in panic. "Young Master Deep, we were wrong. Please spare us. We were forced by Steward Lai." With a crash, the henchman was sent flying. He screamed in pain. Deep Kin Van's voice grew louder. He shouted, "You don't even know who your master is. Why does the Deep family even keep you? Take him out." Another 100 lashes. "Let him go? If my meridians hadn't healed, I would have been the one dead." Bang Hoai gestured to the guards behind him. They nodded and moved forward. They pinned the henchman and dragged him away. Bang Hoai patted Diep Kin Van's shoulder heavily. The light in his eyes grew even brighter. "Good, very good, young master. Your father will be overjoyed when he finds out." Uncle Bang was truly happy for him. Before, Diep Kin Van had incredible talent, but his personality was too soft. Now, Diep Kin Van was like a different person. He was brave and fearless. He had the aura of a true powerhouse. Bang Hoai was genuinely happy for him. He had no idea that Deep Kin Van's soul had merged with that of the war god. Deep Kin Van clasped his hands. "I'll be counting on you in the future, Uncle Bang." Bang Hoai quickly returned the gesture. "Not at all, not at all. It's my duty, young master." You're too kind. Diep Nu waved to him. Uncle Bang, brother, I'm going back now. Diep Kin Van nodded. Go on. After she left, he was alone in the room. He sat cross-legged on his bed. He looked at his hands and wondered, what will my martial soul be in this life? To awaken his martial soul, he needed to reach the 9th level of cultivation. In his past life, he obtained the 10-demon heart. His martial soul was the ancient divine beast, the Azure Dragon. But after his rebirth, the 10-demon heart was even darker than before. Images of countless weapons and strange beasts appeared on its surface. As he probed deeper, he realized it was like a dark, starry sky. Each star was a fixed point. Connecting them revealed complex patterns. He saw the Hoang Van Tiger, the Dark Knight Orchid King, the Diamond Rhinoceros, and even the 5 great elements. Each element then branched into countless smaller paths. Diep Kin Van tried to go deeper, but his path was blocked. He couldn't continue. At that moment, a deep voice thundered down. It exploded in his head, ringing like a bomb about to detonate. The origin of essence, the origin of power, the origin of chi, the origin of momentum. When the origin awakens, the war god will defy the heavens. 3 days passed. Diep Kin Van sat on his bed, cultivating. His eyes were closed. He focused completely. The 10-demon heart was different now. It was even more powerful than before. The power that blocked him from exploring deeper buzzed loudly. It was strong enough to knock him unconscious. As he inspected his body, he felt a surge of energy. It flowed from his limbs and meridians. Wait a minute. This is... A bright light flashed in his eyes. The 9th level realm. Brother, this is bad. The Deep family's martial soul awakening day is here. It's today. Just then, an urgent voice came from the door. Diep King Van turned. Nu Ni. A beautiful figure rushed in from the door. Diep Nu's face was filled with worry. Her lively eyes were full of fear. Brother, the awakening day is here. If the family wants to expel you, her eyes filled with tears. She threw herself into his arms, sobbing. Then I won't stay either. He gently stroked her long, dark hair. He kept reassuring her. Nu Ni, it's going to be okay. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. The awakening day was usually in April, but they were holding it today. It was far too early. Something wasn't right. But his cultivation had reached the 9th level of body tempering. He was ready to awaken his martial soul. He looked at Diep Nu. Nu Ni, we're going to the Hongvo Proving Grounds. She looked up at him in surprise. Brother? He took her small hand. He led her straight to the family's training grounds. He thought to himself, if I'm right, this must be related to Diep Thien. Knowing Diep Thien's personality, he wouldn't let it go. He'd seek revenge for his subordinate's death. But since when have I, Diep Kin Van, ever been afraid? The two of them had just reached the entrance. A ferocious roar suddenly erupted in front of them. A moment later, a fierce beast charged at them. It moved with incredible speed. The beast was about to pounce on Diep Nu. Her face went pale. She was too scared to even scream. Diep Kin Van's expression remained calm. His gaze was sharp and clear. He stepped in front of Diep Nu. Her eyes widened in surprise. He launched himself straight at the poison wolf. He threw a punch. It slammed right into its eye. The poison wolf was slammed to the ground. It howled in pain. Its entire body trembled. It never expected its opponent to be so strong. He had been heavily injured in one blow. The poison wolf slowly got back up. It growled. Its right eye was a terrifying, bloodshot red. It slashed forward with its claws. A triumphant glint flashed in its eyes. It was sure this attack would land. Diep Kin Van remained calm and firm. Spiritual energy surged through his body. Black flames erupted around him. The very air around him seemed to freeze. He stood protectively in front of Diep Nu. He raised his hand, channeling energy, preparing to strike back. DMU screamed in panic. Brother, be careful. Diep Kin Van stepped forward with his right foot. The wolf continued its charge, roaring wildly. In the next instant, Diep Kin Van vanished. He kicked it straight in the eye. Then he used the momentum to leap high into the air. The wolf's left eye was instantly blinded. He moved with lightning speed. He brought his fist down hard on the wolf's head. Diep Nu cried out in surprise, Brother! He knew this was his chance to finish it. He spun around, mounting the wolf's back. He rained down punch after punch. In an instant, the wolf lay dead on the ground. A jet of blood shot 3 meters into the air. Just then, a group of servants arrived. When they saw the scene, their minds went blank. They were terrified and panicked. For a moment, they were speechless. One of the servants trembled. Then he snapped out of it. His face twisted with fury. He gritted his teeth and glared. You little bastard. You killed the poison wolf. Let's see how you'll stay in the Diep family now. Diep Kin Van ignored the fear on their faces. You killed the poison wolf. Let's see how you can stay in the Diep family now. He was unmoved by their words. He calmly wiped the blood from his hands on the wolf's fur. Then, he turned to face the servants. Say that again. Hearing that, every servant's face turned pale. He took Diep Nu's hand and continued forward. Nu Ni, let's go to the Hongvo Proving Grounds. She smiled brightly. Okay. At the Diep family's Hongvo Proving Grounds, a massive crowd had gathered. In the center of the grounds stood a 5-meter-tall martial soul stele. An old man sat cross-legged beside it. His hair was completely white. He looked old and frail. The martial soul stele can connect with the spirits of heaven and earth. It awakens the dormant martial soul within a warrior's body. Diep Thuong, the second elder of the Diep family, spoke up. Silence. The martial soul awakening will now begin. First up, Diep Dong. As the elder's voice faded, a handsome but tense youth walked toward the stele. Before the giant stele, the youth seemed much smaller. Diep Thuong instructed, strike the stele with your spiritual energy. The youth nodded. His eyes held a flicker of hope. He stepped forward and threw a punch. His spiritual energy slammed into the stele. In an instant, a roar echoed from the stele. A phantom image appeared behind him. It was a giant wolf. The second elder announced, his voice filled with disappointment. Grade 2, Red Rank Swift Wind Wolf. You may step down. Martial souls are graded in 12 ranks. White, red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple. Gold, crimson gold, and platinum. A martial soul of this quality is common in Mat Nat Chan. It's not considered good at all. Seeing the result, the youth's face fell. He walked back to his place, dejected. A middle-aged man rushed to comfort him. Diep Dong, my son, don't be sad. Diep Dong hugged his father, sobbing. I've been unfilial. The man continued to console him. Awakening a red-rank swift wind wolf is already excellent. Look at Diep Kin Van. He's the eldest son, yet he can't even awaken his martial soul. We haven't lost any face. Hearing this, life returned to Diep Dong's eyes. Father, how can you compare me to that weakling? He and his father left. It was my mistake. Come, I'll make you wontons. Diep Dong immediately brightened up. Okay, I want to eat a lot. The people behind them looked on with disdain. Just a red-ranked soul. That Diep Dong has no future. Someone nearby immediately disagreed. You're wrong, Diep Jang. The family has an eldest son who can't even awaken his martial soul. Now that's a real weakling. The other man nodded. True, but I heard that weakling used to be. Before he could finish, someone shouted. Look, the genius of the Diep family is here. Next up, Diep Tu Tien. As the elder's voice rang out, the crowd quickly parted, forming a path. In an instant, all eyes turned to Diep Tu Thien, Diep Tien's younger brother. The family's genius stepped forward from the crowd. He was like the moon surrounded by stars. It's finally my turn. Diep Tu Thien was born with incredible strength. A year ago, he captured a poison wolf all by himself in the Boknat forest. I heard he reached the 9th level yesterday. That's why the family moved the awakening day to today. He was the star of today's awakening ceremony. After just 5 steps, Diep Tu Thien spotted something. He looked up. His arrogant gaze fell on a youth in white. The youth had appeared out of nowhere. He chuckled. Well, isn't it my cousin, Diep Kin Van? Why are you here? Oh, that's right. You're 15 this year. This is your last chance. After this, we'll never have to see you again. Everyone followed his gaze. A murmur immediately spread through the crowd. Hey, it's him. He actually showed up? Is he here to try his luck? I bet he's here to beg. Otherwise, he'll be a weakling with no status. Diep Kin Van glanced at him. A mocking light flashed in his eyes. He wasn't worth his time. The kid was just a spoiled brat. He wasn't worth getting angry over. He thought, little brat, you think you can provoke me? Diep Tu Thien let out a contemptuous laugh. The crowd continued to whisper. Look at that. That weakling dares to talk back to Tu Thien. He must still be living in a dream. He's still trying to act like his older cousin. You don't know your place. You're crippled. And even if you weren't, you'd still be nothing. Today, I'll show you what a real genius looks like. Diep Tu Thien walked proudly to the stele. His head was held high. In the next moment, power erupted from his thin frame. He slammed a powerful fist into the martial soul stele. A blinding yellow light erupted from the stone. It was so bright, no one could keep their eyes open. A moment later, a phantom image appeared. It was a beast with a fiery body. A dragon's horn sat on its head. It had a majestic aura. A yellow-rank martial soul. My god, it's yellow. Even Diep Kin Van didn't have this kind of talent 3 years ago. The crowd erupted in discussion. No one expected his martial soul to be a dragon tiger beast. Of course, even if that weakling Diep Kin Van awakens a soul, it'll just be garbage. The dragon tiger beast. Good, very good. The second elder, who always kept a stoic expression, couldn't hide his excitement when he saw the majestic phantom. His voice trembled with excitement. He shot to his feet. All eyes turned to Diep Tu Thien. Every gaze was filled with intense admiration. It was true. The dragon tiger beast. His martial soul was the dragon tiger beast. A creature with the blood of the azure dragon. Feeling their gazes, the smug look on his face grew. He practically looked down his nose at everyone. He looked as if he wanted to swallow the sky whole. In his eyes, this Diep Kin Van was nothing. He's not worth my time. Hey, weakling cousin, want to give it a try? A cold aura surrounded Diep Kin Van. He stood protectively in front of Diep Nu. His face was grim with anger. He glared at Diep Tu Thien. In the middle of the training grounds, Diep Tu Thien crossed his arms. He spoke with a taunting voice. "Weakling cousin, want to give it a try?" Diep Kin Van just sneered coldly. At that exact moment, a panicked voice cried out from outside. A servant pushed through the crowd. He ran up, panting for breath. "Young master, your poison wolf has been killed." Diep Tu Thien's young face twisted with rage. He may have been young, but he looked like a little demon. He threw his head back and roared. His voice was hoarse. "What did you say? Who killed my wolf?" The servant replied, trembling. It was Diep Kin Van." He was shocked and furious. He couldn't believe it. How could that weakling kill the wolf I brought back from the Matnat forest? Diep Kin Van stepped forward. A cold smile appeared on his face. "I killed it. What are you going to do about it?" The servant's face grew even paler. His body wouldn't stop shaking. He looked at Diep Kin Van, completely speechless. A shiver ran through Diep Tu Thien. A sudden sense of unease washed over him. He shouted, "Weakling, how could you kill the wolf?" The servant pointed. His face became vicious. "It was this lowly bastard who killed your wolf." Diep King Van looked up. A cold light flashed in his eyes. He looked down on the servant and spoke in a cold voice. "Lowly?" The servant was terrified by his aura, but he gathered his courage, pointed, and blurted out, "So what? Your mother is from a—" Before he could finish, a bone-chilling wind, sharp as a blade, swept past his face. A moment later, a hand as hard as iron slammed into his face. The servant was sent flying 5 meters into the air. He crashed to the ground hard. His backside immediately turned bright red. He screamed, "Weakling, Diep Kin Van." Diep Tu Thien's face flushed with anger. The rage in his heart burned hotter. Spiritual energy began to surge through his body. Behind him, the phantom of a giant beast appeared. Its aura was overwhelming. It was his dragon, tiger beast martial soul. "First, you killed my wolf. Then you dared to strike my servant right in front of me. I'm going to kill you." Diep Kin Van took another step forward. The corner of his mouth curled into a cold smile. He was facing a warrior who had already awakened his martial soul, but his expression didn't change. It was as calm as still water. That beast went around attacking people. Today, it hurt my sister's face. It deserved to die. He sneered again. "You don't discipline your servants, so I, as the eldest son of the Diep family, did it for you." "What? Aren't you going to thank your big brother Kin Van?" Diep Tu Thien roared. His young face twisted with rage. Though he was young, he was already ruthless. He was vengeful, with a heart as venomous as a snake. "That was my pet, Diep Kin Van, for that lowly girl you found. Because of Diep Nu, you killed my wolf. You're dead." Diep Kin Van's eyes flashed. His voice rang out, clear and strong. "You think you're invincible just because you awakened your martial soul? Fine. In that case, I'll destroy your martial soul on behalf of your elders. I'll teach you a lesson." Diep Tu Thien roared in fury. His fist transformed into a razor-sharp claw. A piercing aura radiated from it. Accompanied by a dragon's roar, it shot towards Diep Kin Van. The second elder frowned slightly. To the crowd, Diep Tu Thien's attack looked like a storm of blows. But in Diep Kin Van's eyes, it was a weak attack. It was full of openings. It wouldn't withstand a single hit. Suddenly, he moved. He easily dodged Diep Tu Thien's attack. His body flickered. He used the shadow azure wind steps. Like a phantom, he vanished on the spot. Seeing this, Diep Tu Thien grew even angrier. An aura as heavy as a mountain range erupted from him. It pressed down on Diep Kin Van. "Weakling, is running all you can do?" The crowd was in an uproar. As expected of Diep Tu Thien, the aura of the dragon tiger beast can create pressure. That weakling Diep Kin Van really only knows how to run. No wonder he's a weakling. Why is he even the eldest grandson? Diep Tu Thien gritted his teeth. He bit his tongue. He spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Seeing this, Diep Tuong's face went pale. He quickly tried to stop him. "Diep Tu Thien, what are you doing? You could damage your martial soul. Stop now." A powerful figure emerged from the blood mist. Its eyes shone brightly. How is this possible? Diep Kin Van's footwork was nimble, faster than a monkey. He activated his spiritual power. His body flickered as he continued using the shadow azure wind steps. "He's willing to damage his own martial soul just to kill me?" His face remained calm. But he realized this kid was young but already so vicious. Facing the attack, Diep Kin Van stood as firm as a rock. He didn't move an inch. Suddenly, he shot forward. His body was like an eagle soaring into the sky. He leaped 5 meters into the air. He used the royal dragon claw. His powerful claws closed around Diep Tu Thien's life soul. For the first time, fear appeared on Diep Tu Thien's face. How is this possible? How can you grab an intangible soul? The second elder's face twisted with anger. He leaped to his feet. He roared with authority. "Diep Kin Van, stop right now." Diep Kin Van snorted. The energy in his body surged. It began to circulate. His hands transformed into claws. His 5 fingers became like dragon claws. They erupted with a powerful aura. Like iron hooks, they pierced down into Diep Tu Thien. Diep Tu Thien let out a blood-curdling scream. Behind him, the giant phantom of the dragon tiger beast flickered. Then it shattered like glass. With a crack, it shattered into pieces. Everyone who saw this was horrified. Their hearts pounded with fear. No one dared to look directly at Deep Kin Van. About 5 meters away, Deep Kin Van stood tall as a pine tree. His sharp eyes scanned the area. In my past life, I mastered 3 techniques as a child: the Shadow Azure Wind Steps, the Blade Edge Fist, and the Royal Dragon Claw. When mastered, the Royal Dragon Claw can form true dragon claws. It can seize the very souls of heaven and earth. A single claw to tear the sky, unrivaled in the world. The second elder stood frozen for a long time. When he finally reacted, Diep Thuong cried out, Tu Thien. Deep Kin Van, you've destroyed the Deep family's genius. You must die. Hearing this, Diep Kin Van laughed as if he'd heard a joke. He laughed maniacally. He sneered again and again. There wasn't a hint of regret in his eyes. His gaze locked onto the second elder. His face was filled with contempt. Destroyed the family's genius? He couldn't even beat me. What kind of genius is that? You call that talent genius? Diep Thuong was stunned. He was speechless for a moment. You. Only then did he remember. The youth before him hadn't even reached the first level of the spirit cavern realm. And yet, he had beaten Deep Tu Thien so badly. It was truly unbelievable. Lying on the ground, Diep Tu Thien heard this and began to wail. My martial soul, it's gone. Why did that weakling destroy me? I'm not a child, with my martial soul destroyed for the rest of my life. I can never cultivate again. I'm a true weakling. He was in agony. He looked like he had just lost his parents. Diep Thuong stared in horror. The awakened martial soul had already brought Diep Tu Thien to the first level of the spirit cavern realm, but Diep Kin Van destroyed it. Could it be? Soon, a voice came from outside. I heard my son Tu Thien awakened a yellow-rank martial soul. The crowd immediately parted to make way. A middle-aged man walked through. He looked incredibly smug. Compared to our Tu Thien, everyone else here is probably trash. The newcomer was Deep Vo Tien. He was the father of Deep Thien and Deep Tu Thien. Tu Thien, what's your martial soul? Show me. But when he looked down, he saw his son lying on the ground, wailing. The smile froze on his face. His eyes darkened. Deep Vo Thien roared in anger. Do you have a death wish? Who did this? Deep Vo Thien was usually an imposing figure, but now his face was terrifyingly grim. It looked like it might drip blood. Everyone around him pointed at Deep Kin Van. It was him. He saw everyone looking at Deep Kin Van. He understood instantly. His face grew even darker. He forced the words through his teeth. Weakling, you destroyed my son's martial soul. Deep Kin Van showed no weakness. A dense spiritual aura radiated from his body. He spoke directly. His cold gaze intensified. A sharp light flashed in his eyes. Your son is spoiled and arrogant. This outcome is his own fault. He has no one to blame but himself. Deep Vo Thien was like a furious lion. He roared without end. The spiritual energy in his body began to rage. Do you want to die? A fierce wind kicked up. It howled around them. Deep Vo Thien lunged forward like a hunting leopard. His energy exploded with world-destroying power. The wind whipped Diep Kin Van's long hair around his face. But even so, there wasn't a trace of fear on his face, only a cold, mocking sneer. Suddenly, a thick wall of ice appeared before him. It blocked Diep Vo Thien's attack. A figure flashed out from the crowd. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Deep Kin Van. A powerful aura spread out. It completely neutralized the opponent's attack. He looked at the man standing before him. His eyes lit up. He thought, Uncle Bang. Diep Vo Thien's face was grim. He asked coldly, Bang Hoai, are you siding with this weakling against me? Bang Hoai immediately spoke up. He stood firmly with Diep Kin Van. The young master is right. Your son was aggressive. He brought this on himself. The two men stepped forward. They unleashed their strongest attacks instantly. A powerful aura covered the entire training grounds. Two world-destroying forces were about to collide. Just then, a hand slowly reached out. An old man with white hair appeared. His back was straight. His skin was wrinkled like bark, but he held immense power. He raised a hand, stopping both men. Fighting your own family? Have you no shame? Diep Vo Thien saw the old man and instinctively called out, Father. The newcomer was Diep Vo Hai, the patriarch of the Diep family. Diep Vo Thien suddenly realized something. His gaze quickly shifted. Patriarch Diep Vo Hai was staring intently at the young man. His eyes began to well up. His voice came out raspy. Kin Van, your meridians. Have your meridians recovered? His voice trembled noticeably. Diep Kin Van could feel the old man's excitement. The newly merged soul in his body made him answer instinctively. Yes, grandfather. In his memories, this old man had treated him very well. When the patriarch discovered Diep Kin Van's meridians had healed, his joy was immense. He looked years younger in an instant. The old man's frame shook with powerful emotion. Diep Kin Van's heart stirred. This was the family patriarch, Diep Vo Hai. He was the one who comforted him every day when his meridians were broken. What should I do? Hearing the confirmation, Diep Vo Hai was overjoyed. He patted Diep Kin Van's shoulder repeatedly. Good, good, good. From now on, don't be so lost, no matter what happens. Diep Vo Thien pressed forward aggressively. His attitude was extremely arrogant. Father, this weakling destroyed my son's martial soul. He killed the genius of the Diep family. His crime is unforgivable. I demand he be expelled from the family. Hearing this, Diep Kin Van just let out a small laugh. A weakling? He had a martial soul and still couldn't beat me. If I'm a weakling, then what kind of genius is he? A so-called genius can't even beat a piece of trash? That's ridiculous. He provoked me. I had to destroy his martial soul in self-defense. Everyone fell silent. They all stared at Diep Kin Van in astonishment. He continued, what did I do wrong? Just because he's a genius, I have to take all the blame. Diep Kin Van pointed a finger to the sky. He shouted. So if his martial soul was heaven-defying, would his past crimes be forgiven? Diep Kin Van was once considered a weakling, but his words now were not wrong. In this world, where the strong rule, there is no absolute right or wrong. Whoever has the strongest fist can do whatever they want. If Diep Kin Van had awakened a powerful martial soul, would these people still dare to act so arrogantly in front of him? But the problem was, he was already 15. This was his last chance to awaken his martial soul. Could he really still do it? If he had the ability, he would have succeeded before he turned 15. Hearing this, Diep Vo Thien's face twisted into a sneer. Contempt filled his features. Are you dreaming? A weakling like you? Awaken a martial soul? And what if I do? Diep Vo Thien flew into a rage. He said bluntly, the family has a rule. Anyone who can't awaken a martial soul by age 15 is expelled. Diep Kin Van ignored him. He walked toward the martial soul stele. Diep Vo Thien looked at Diep Vo Hai. His face was full of interest. Isn't that right, father? Diep Vo Hai frowned slightly. He didn't know what to say. He looked toward Diep Kin Van. Diep Kin Van turned and looked at the old man. He could clearly see the tension and intense hope in his eyes. He gave the patriarch a confident smile. A brilliant light suddenly flared in Bang Hoai's eyes. Young master, Diep Nu looked worried. Brother, Diep Vo Hai stared at Diep Kin Van and blurted out. Could it be? At that moment, Diep Kin Van arrived before the martial soul stele. He looked at the stele in front of him. A spark of curiosity flashed in his eyes. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. He took a step forward. His body was like a tiger descending a mountain. He threw a punch. Diep Kin Van looked at the stele. He thought, in my past life, I awakened a violet gold azure dragon soul at age 6. This time, it has to be stronger. As Diep Kin Van's fist struck the stele, everyone from the Diep family stared intently at the stone. For a moment, the vast training ground was completely silent. After a long pause, the stele still hadn't moved. Seeing this, Diep Vo Thien's face lit up with joy. If you awaken a martial soul stronger than Tu Thien's, he shouted, then I can forgive your past actions. What a pity. You're just a weakling. You really didn't disappoint me. You've truly brought honor to our family. Men, take him away. Diep Vo Hai frowned. He closed his eyes. He couldn't hide his disappointment, Kin Van. But before he could finish, the martial soul stele suddenly erupted with a brilliant, blinding light. When everyone saw the martial soul clearly, they were all stunned. Even Diep Vo Hai was frozen in place. A moment later, a giant phantom appeared. It was a tower. The 9-story tower swirled in the air, emitting a cyan light. That light expanded over the training ground. The people around could barely open their eyes. Every face was filled with disbelief. They were bathed in a layer of cyan light. It was blindingly bright. It was terrifyingly brilliant. After seeing that light, Diep Thuong couldn't help but gasp. His eyes were glued to the cyan tower in the air. Cyan rank. Martial souls were divided into 12 ranks. White, red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple. Violet red, violet gold, crimson gold, and platinum. Diep Kin Van himself was stunned. He looked up, just as surprised as everyone else. A tower. A copper tower is only cyan rank. But Diep Kin Van remained frozen in place. No, this isn't right. Of course, the 9-layered refining tower. This is the origin of the martial soul. The 10-demon heart has a large tower image. Is it related to that? Diep Kin Van's eyes flickered. In his past life, he had obtained the 10-demon heart from within the 10-demon abyss. In this life, the 10-demon heart was vastly different from before. Perhaps this was its true form. To others, a cyan rank martial soul was considered exceptionally outstanding. But to Diep Kin Van, who had a 9-clawed golden dragon in his past life, a cyan rank soul was still too low. He muttered, but why is the rank so low? The entire scene erupted. Everyone wore expressions of disbelief. Who would have thought that the young man who couldn't awaken his martial soul would finally do so in his last year? Moreover, its quality was Saiyan rank. It surpassed everyone in the Deep family. Uncle Bang was also extremely excited. For a long time, he kept repeating, "Young master. The old master will be so happy when he finds out." Deep Vo Thien was hit hard. He roared in anger, wanting to rush forward and kill Diep Kin Van. "You little bastard, I'll kill you." Deep Kin Van's expression didn't change. He just smiled coldly and looked at the second elder, Deep Thuong. His voice was full of amusement. "Second elder, who was it that said if my martial soul was heaven-defying, this matter would be dropped?" Deep Thuong snapped out of his ecstatic daze. He nodded slightly. He stroked his beard and smiled. Yes, that did happen." Diep Thuong flicked his sleeve. He spoke sternly. "Diep Vo Thien, stop." Diep Vo Thien let out a miserable cry. His heart was in agony. He was unwilling. "Second elder, this little bastard destroyed my son's martial soul. Your son's behavior was despicable. He brought this situation upon himself." Kin Van said it right. Everyone here understood what a Saiyan rank martial soul represented. They knew its immense significance. Diep Thuong was no exception. Diep Vo Thien still wouldn't give up. He roared angrily, "Second elder, you can't go back on your word." Deep Thuong grabbed Deep Vo Thien's arm. His face darkened. His tone changed instantly. He shouted, "Do you not see me as an elder? Everyone knows what a Saiyan rank martial soul means for our Diep family." Second elder Diep Thuong said gravely, "This matter ends here. No more words." Diep Vo Thien was covered in sweat. He was too scared to speak. The patriarch, Deep Vo Hai, also spoke up. "Vo Thien, this matter is over. Take Tu Thien to the medicine hall." Hearing those words, Deep Vo Thien's face immediately turned ashen. Deep Vo Hai's words clearly showed he was siding with Deep Vo Thien. He looked towards Deep Kin Van. Deep Vo Thien stammered, "Father." Everything that happened on the training ground was like a slap in the face. A huge stone had been dropped into the sea. It immediately stirred up fierce waves. Deep Kin Van's talent had returned. Not only were his meridians restored, but he had also awakened a Saiyan rank martial soul. This sent huge waves through the entire Deep family. Under the complex and admiring gazes of the crowd, Diep Kin Van took Diep Nu's hand and left the training grounds. Along the way, Diep Nu chattered endlessly. She laughed and talked with her brother. "Brother, you're amazing. You beat Deep Tu Thi into a pulp, and you even awakened a Saiyan rank martial soul. As expected of my brother." She was obviously the happiest person about his awakening. The Deep family estate was vast. Intricate corridors crisscrossed each other. Above, thick tiles blocked the harsh sunlight. After walking for about 10 minutes, Diep Kin Van heard Diep Nu's clear voice again. "Brother, this is the Deep family's ancestral hall. It's where the founder, Deep Sung, established the family. I heard that 300 years ago, the Deep family was a great clan. Along the way, Diep Kin Van met many Diep family disciples. Hey, that's Diep Kin Van. I heard he awakened a Saiyan rank martial soul. He also destroyed Deep Tu Thien's martial soul. When Deep Thien finds out, we're in for a good show." These discussions reached Diep Kin Van's ears. When the guards saw Diep Kin Van, they all bowed in respect. Their faces showed reverence. "Young master." But the two next to them snorted. "That weakling young master. Just wait until Diep Thien gets back and teaches him a lesson." Deep Kin Van just nodded slightly. He looked straight ahead. He thought, for a family to prosper forever, it needs new blood. Deep Nu also nodded firmly. Yes. Diep Kin Van seemed to sense something. His eyes suddenly lit up. He thought, wait, what's that familiar smell? This is. Inside is my blood from my past life. Suddenly, the blood in his body began to boil. In his previous life, Diep Kin Van had condensed 3,000 drops of essence blood. Each drop contained a surging source of energy. Furthermore, when the 3,000 drops of essence blood gathered together, they would form a layer of protective armor. In my past life, I practiced the supreme technique, the demon blood armor. With the 10 demon heart as its core, I reached the 6th level. Condensing 500 drops creates the water spirit demon blood armor. Condensing 100 drops of pure blood creates the earth spirit demon blood armor. Condensing 500 drops creates the water spirit demon blood armor. Condensing 1,000 drops of pure blood creates the gold spirit demon blood armor. The 5th level adds another 1,000 drops, forming the extreme earth demon blood armor. In my past life, I reached the 6th level. 3,000 drops of pure blood form the extreme heaven demon blood armor. It could withstand a dragon's attack. It could block the thunder of the heavens. Feeling the 10 demon heart in his body stirring violently, Diep Kin Van knew that the ancestral hall must contain his essence blood from his past life. He crossed his arms and walked up the steps, thinking, in my past life, I detonated 3,000 drops of essence blood, scattering them across the continent, but I never expected to find some so soon. When the guard saw Diep Kin Van wanting to enter the ancestral hall, he looked troubled. Young master. Without the patriarch's order, no one is allowed inside. The ancestral hall is a forbidden area of the Deep family. Deep King Van's gaze darkened slightly. He thought, Uncle Bang's men aren't too rigid. Deep King Van nodded slightly. His eyes shifted in another direction. A look of confusion flashed in his eyes. At the entrance to the steps, a stone lion stood on a square pedestal. But on the other side, there was only a square pedestal. There was no stone lion. Where did this stone lion go? Young master, it's like this. The guard, seeing Deep Kin Van give up on entering, secretly sighed in relief. He knew this. Young master had just turned the tables. He didn't dare to offend him. He quickly explained, a few years ago, this stone head suddenly gained a soul. It was incredibly powerful, but it was also extremely vicious. It bit and killed many disciples of the family. Luckily, the patriarch stopped it. Otherwise, who knows how many more would have died under its fangs. Hearing this, Deep King Van immediately came to a conclusion. If I'm not mistaken, that lion's head must have absorbed my blood from my past life. His face grew grim. This wasn't surprising. After all, in his past life, just a single drop of his essence blood contained surging life force and a huge amount of hidden energy. It wasn't impossible for it to suddenly gain life. If I can find my past life's essence blood and merge it with the 10-demon heart, it will definitely cause a transformation. Thinking of this, Diep Kin Van asked, a bright light shining in his eyes, so where is that stone head now? The guard replied respectfully. At some point, the stone head's cultivation gradually weakened. It was no longer useful. The family head wanted to sell it. It's currently in a Deep family pawn shop. Diep Kin Van snapped, lead the way. I want to see that stone head. He wanted to reclaim his own blood. At the Deep family's pawn shop number 31. Young Master Hai, you've arrived. A middle-aged man with squinted eyes and a clever demeanor greeted them. This man's name was Lai Thuan. His face was naturally unpleasant. He was round and fat, with small eyes like two beans. His cunning nature was obvious. He was the manager of pawn shop number 31, which belonged to the Deep family. Li Thuan put on a fawning expression. He quickly grabbed a fan from the side and began fanning the young man next to him. The young man before him had a very high status in the Hai family. He was Hai Min Ngyet, the young master of the Hai family. To Lai Thuan, being able to latch onto a young master from such a noble and powerful clan was a blessing from the heavens. Hai Min Ngyet pointed forward. This young master wants it. Name your price. His eyes lit up as he looked at the stone lion trapped inside an iron cage. A sly look crossed Lai Thuan's eyes. He chuckled and said, since young master Hai likes this lion head, our shop will gift it to you. Money? Talking about money ruins the mood. Hai Min Ngyet was very pleased and nodded. He signaled for two large men to take the iron cage away. Steward Lai, your words are pleasant to hear. Receiving praise from the young man, Lai Thuan was overjoyed. He couldn't stop grinning foolishly. Young Master Hai's status in the Hai family was extremely respected. Being able to get closer to him was a great opportunity. Just as the two large men took a step, a cold voice suddenly rang out. That lion head is not for sale. The two men's steps halted immediately. The smile on Lai Thuan's face stiffened. Who dares to interfere in the Diep family's business? When they saw who had appeared, they were all slightly stunned. Diep Kin Van replied, it's me. Well, it's Diep Kin Van. Hai Min Ngyet's eyes lit up. A playful smirk appeared on his face. He cleared his throat and said, it's my future sister-in-law's brother, long time no see. In his eyes, Diep King Van was now just someone with crippled meridians, unable to awaken his martial soul for his entire life. A true weakling. He narrowed his eyes. You too. Continue. Seeing the other party dare to ignore his words, Diep Kin Van's face immediately fell. He shouted, I already said it. That lion head is not for sale. Is there a problem with your ears? Hai Min Ngyet was slightly taken aback. His expression changed. He looked at Diep Kin Van with some surprise. Lai Thuan stepped in front of Diep Kin Van. He pointed directly at his nose. He looked down and scolded, insolent. How dare you speak to young master Hai like that? Diep Kin Van's face darkened even more. But he didn't want to bother with this lackey. His gaze remained fixed on the young man in front of him. He said sternly, Hai Min Ngyet, what did you mean just now when you called Nunyi your future sister-in-law? Lai Thuan's face turned pale. Being ignored by a publicly acknowledged weakling made him feel extremely humiliated. You dog. Don't you understand human language? How can a weakling like you talk to young master Hai? Hai Min Ngyet was about to speak, but held back when he heard this. A playful smile appeared on his face. He looked like he was about to enjoy a good show. Diep Kin Van's expression changed slightly. His gaze shifted to Lai Thuan. Weakling? Lai Thuan pointed at Diep Kin Van's face. So what? I'm talking about you. Without another word, a slap flew straight at him. Lai Thuan couldn't react in time. The left side of his face swelled up instantly. He held his slapped face. You little bastard. His whole body trembled. He roared angrily. You dare to hit me. Before he could finish his words, Deep Kin Van landed another punch on his face. Deep Kin Van placed his right hand on his head. He slammed him down onto the stone table in front of him with a loud crack. Lai Thuan's entire left cheek was pressed tightly against the stone table. A burning sensation spread across his face, making his teeth ache. Deep Kin Van grabbed Lai Thuan's head. His face was full of mockery. "What did you call me?" Lai Thuan roared in fury. His face twisted ferociously. "You're a little bastard." His head was once again slammed violently onto the stone table by Deep Kin Van. His entire left cheek swelled and turned red. A few teeth fell out. Deep Kin Van repeated, "What did you say?" a little louder. Finally, Li Thuan couldn't take it anymore. He let out a wail and started crying. You are my young master. My long-lost young master." Deep Kin Van was slightly stunned. Then he laughed. He asked again, "Then what are you?" Li Thuan was terrified by Deep Kin Van's aura. His whole body trembled. I am your humble servant. I am nothing good. A traitor who bites the hand that feeds him." Deep Kin Van laughed coldly. He slammed Lai Thuan's face onto the stone table again. Lai Thuan fainted on the spot. Hai Min Engriet witnessed this. His mind exploded. He stood frozen like a statue. It took him a long time to recover. Lai Thuan's cultivation is at the 9th level of body tempering. Could it be that Deep Kin Van has recovered? Hai Min Engriet looked at the scene. His expression didn't change. He thought, no, Li Thuan lost because he didn't dare to fight back. After all, this weakling is the direct heir of the Diep family. I didn't expect you to have recovered. What a happy occasion. As soon as he finished speaking, he signaled to his two large men. He completely ignored Deep Kin Van's dark expression. "You two, what are you standing there for? Move it." His subordinate immediately obeyed. "Yes." Deep Kin Van shouted, "Do you not understand human language?" Hearing this, one of the large men's expressions changed slightly. He shouted, "Insolent." His right hand moved like lightning. He drew a long sword. The clear sound of the sword rang out. Deep Kin Van grabbed the man's sword with his hand. He prevented him from drawing it. Deep Kin Van took a step back. His body tensed. It was like a frozen mountain. He bent down like a bow. His right hand held the opponent's sword tightly. Then he unleashed a powerful blow. The sword fell from the opponent's hand. Being attacked by Deep Kin Van in front of everyone, the other large man in the group immediately became furious. He completely lost control. He drew his sword and prepared to attack. "You want to die?" Two flashes of blood-red light appeared. Soon after, with a loud crash, two more bodies appeared on the ground. Above them, Deep Kin Van stood tall. He held a long sword. He looked like a god of war, majestic and powerful. Hai Min Engriet flew into a rage. "Deep Kin Van, you dare to kill my servants. You've got some nerve." A weakling from the Diep family had dared to kill his followers right under his nose in front of so many people. If this got out, where would he put his face? If this were the Deep family estate, he would have chosen to endure it. But this was the marketplace. He didn't need to hold back. He was like a lion about to unleash its fury. His first-level spirit cavern realm cultivation exploded outward. His large fist shot straight towards Deep Kin Van's face without hesitation. He struck with vicious cruelty, showing just how ruthless he was. Deep Kin Van snorted coldly. He glanced at the young man. His face was as calm as still water. Pathetic. Seeing the fist grow larger and larger before his eyes, Deep Kin Van raised his right hand. He clenched it into a fist. Like a fierce snake striking, he threw a punch. A whistling sound echoed in the air. A powerful gust of wind swept forward. The two fists collided like a large mountain hitting a small one. Hai Min Engriet stumbled back continuously. His steps were unsteady. He fell and sat hard on the ground. The immense force shook his entire body. It took a long time for him to calm down. Deep Kin Van didn't even bother to look at Hai Min Engriet. His gaze immediately shifted to Deep Nu. He frowned and asked, "Nu Ni, tell me what's going on." Deep Nu's eyes flickered uncertainly. Her delicate body trembled slightly. She lowered her head. Her face was pale. Her eyes kept darting away. Hai Min Engriet, lying on the ground, somehow found the strength to get up. He laughed sinisterly. "Deep Kin Van, do you really not know anything? Your little sister really knows how to use her body." He seemed to have gone mad. He looked at the surrounding crowd. His voice was very loud. "For you, she came to my older brother a few days ago to get medicine. Guess what my brother said?" Hearing these words, Deep Nu's face turned deathly pale. Her entire body trembled violently. Unbearable memories flooded her mind. That's not what happened. Hai Min Engriet looked at Deep Nu. He completely ignored Deep Kin Van's extremely dark expression. He said lewdly, "My brother said as long as she gets in bed, she can get the medicine. This bitch even played hard to get, saying she'd think about it." Deep Kin Van's face was terrifyingly dark. He roared in anger. "Hai Min Engriet, shut up. Bitch, what have you decided?" A bone-chilling coldness shot from Deep Kin Van's eyes. He looked at the crazed Hai Min Engriet. His voice was like ice. "Shut your mouth for me. What the hell are you? You dog." His right hand shot out and grabbed the other's collar. His left hand clenched into a fist. He slammed it into Hai Min Unguyet's chest like a 1,000-pound rock. Hai Min Unguyet screamed in pain. He wanted to resist, but was horrified to find he was completely locked down by his opponent. He had no strength to fight back. Deep Kinvan spoke coldly. The iciness in his eyes grew deeper. I'll make you remember this day forever. Remember this very minute. My meridians, my spiritual energy, it's all disappearing. At this moment, he was filled with regret. He regretted being so stupid. He regretted saying so many foolish things to Diep Kinvan. The meridians in his body broke one by one. The immense force made Hai Min Unguyet scream like a pig being slaughtered. Just moments ago, he had called Diep Kinvan a weakling. But now, all of his own meridians were broken. He had become a true weakling. The surroundings were dead silent. The crowd's expressions shifted from shock to fear. They never expected Diep Kinvan to be so ruthless and powerful. Diep Kinvan, you severed our young master's meridians. After crippling Hai Min Unguyet, Diep Kinvan didn't bother with him anymore. He turned around. Get lost. Tears welled up in Diep Nu's eyes. Brother, Diep Kinvan's gaze fell on Diep Nu again. His face became serious. He said in a low voice, Nuni, you're not allowed to do things like that again, no matter what happens. Just thinking that if he had been reborn a few days later, Nuni might have lost her innocence. Diep Kinvan's heart ached with sharp pangs. Diep Nu nodded obediently. She stood meekly beside Diep Kinvan like a child who had done something wrong. Yes. Diep Kinvan sighed softly. Then his gaze shifted to the stone lion trapped in the iron cage. It was strange. This stone lion had always been fierce, but after seeing him, it became much quieter. Diep Kinvan ordered, open the cage. Young master, that's not a good idea. What if that stone head goes crazy? The guard looked troubled. He knew this stone lion was not to be trifled with. Although its cultivation had fallen to the spirit cavern realm. Third level, its combat power was still considerable. Once released, if the stone lion went berserk, what would happen to the young master? He wouldn't know how to explain it to the Deep family patriarch. Diep Kinvan ordered again, no more talk, open it. Hearing this, the guard gritted his teeth, went into the pawn shop to get the key, and opened the iron cage with a click. Diep Kinvan saw the essence blood within the stone lion's body appear. This type of essence blood was not unfamiliar to him, because it was the essence blood he had condensed in his past life. He thought, why are there only 45 drops of essence blood in this stone lion? Without 50 drops of essence blood, it can't form a soul. Diep Kinvan's eyes suddenly widened. Then he understood. No wonder. The stone lion wasn't fierce at all. On the contrary, it was very docile. It walked up to Diep Kinvan. Its stone eyes looked up at him. He'd seen the stone lion from the left. He didn't notice anything strange. But now he saw the stone lion was missing its right eye. How could this be? The stone lion let out a low growl. It seemed to want to lead Diep Kinvan somewhere. Diep Kinvan spoke calmly. Nuni, let's go. His instincts told him the lion's missing eye was connected to his past life's blood essence. Diep Nu was confused, but nodded. Okay. Diep Kinvan leaped into the air. He smirked, taking Diep Nu's hand. They sat on the stone lion's back. Let's go. Show me where your eye is. The stone lion stomped its front paw. Its body shot forward like a sharp arrow, leaving a bow. The onlookers were stunned. They watched the siblings ride the stone lion. The beast was usually ferocious. Why was it so docile today? So many strange things were happening. The stone lion ran towards the Sunset Forest. The Sunset Forest was south of Sunset Town. It was an extension of the mountains, stretching all the way to Sunset City. The terrain was complex. Demonic beasts were everywhere. The danger level was terrifyingly high. About an hour later, Diep Kinvan and Diep Nu appeared at the edge of the Sunset Forest. This place. His heart stirred. 3 years ago, this body's original owner was ambushed right here. He looked at the familiar scenery. The memories flooded back. His meridians had been destroyed. He was turned into a useless cripple. Diep Kinvan scanned his surroundings. He made a silent vow. The events of 3 years ago felt like they happened just last night. He thought, I've been reborn in your body. I will avenge this hatred for you. Whoever crippled you back then, no matter how strong they are, I will uproot them completely. Seeing his strange expression, Diep Nu asked worriedly, Brother, are you okay? Diep Kinvan turned to Diep Nu and smiled. It's nothing. Let's keep going. The stone lion brought him here and stopped. This proved it. There was something he needed inside that cave. Diep Kinvan could feel a powerful aura. It was hidden within the mountain cave. Suddenly, an earth-shattering roar erupted from ahead. A 10-meter-long silver python shot out from the cave. Chilling energy radiated from its body. The thunder seal python was massive. Its body flickered with lightning. It was covered in silver scales. A brilliant, glowing sigil appeared on its head. Diep Kinvan recognized the giant sigil. He took a deep breath. A thunder seal python. He couldn't believe it was here. Diep Kinvan immediately recognized the beast. His eyes lit up. If I can absorb this python's sigil, I'll be able to cultivate the thunder seal. The thunder seal python was extremely rare. Its most precious part was that very sigil. Most people had no idea. Deep News suddenly cried out, "Brother, look." Her voice snapped him out of his thoughts. He saw a large man with a spear striking the python's head. "Someone's fighting it," Deep News said. The blade's aura exploded. Its light flashed through the air like a silver moon. The man in black used his spear to vault onto the python's head. He stabbed down at its scales, but where the spear struck, lightning erupted. It engulfed the man's entire body. His eyes widened in shock. Cold sweat poured down his face. A wave of power burst from the python. It threw the man into the air. The man slammed hard against the cliff face. The impact sent dust flying everywhere. Behind them, Deep News watched anxiously. He's in danger. Facing the python's fierce attack, the man's vision blurred. He gritted his teeth, his face twitching. He wanted to fight back one last time, but before he could move, his eyes widened in terror. The python opened its massive jaws and lunged straight at him. At that exact moment, a shadow shot out from the forest. With a soft cry of royal dragon claw, a hand slammed down on the python. The fist carried a ferocious wind. It locked onto the snake's head. Then it crashed down like a 1,000-pound boulder. Deep Van stared at the python. The bloodline in his body was boiling. He was shocked to find it had 3 eyes. The python's third eye had to be the stone lion's missing eye. The thunder seal python let out a piercing scream. Its tail thrashed wildly. It sealed the space within 10 meters. Lightning flared across its body like a raging fire. Deep Van pushed the 10 demonic hearts technique to its limit. The power in his hands surged. He unleashed a barrage of punches, attacking the python with pure physical strength. In just a few moments, the thunder seal python was dead. Behind him, Deep News screamed, "Brother, be careful." Deep Van was in bad shape, but his past life's combat experience kicked in. He managed to take a step back. He skillfully dodged the opponent's fist. Then he stabilized himself about 10 meters away. Deep Van's gaze turned icy cold. He couldn't believe it. He had just saved the man's life, and instead of gratitude, he received killing intent. "I saved you. Not only are you ungrateful, but you want to kill me?" Luckily, Deep Van was already on guard. Otherwise, the sneak attack might have succeeded. The large man pulled down his mask, revealing a cruel smile. His eyes lit up. "Well, this was easy. I'll take the python's corpse, and I'll take your life too." He hadn't gotten a good look at the boy before, but now he recognized Deep Van. He was ecstatic. He completely forgot that Deep Van had just killed the ferocious python. His name was Latamban. Deep Van was surprised. "You know me." Latamban sneered mockingly. "The trash, Deep Van? Who doesn't know you? Your head is worth 10,000 low-grade spirit stones." On the 8 Desolates continent, spirit stones were currency. They were divided into high and low grades. 10,000 low-grade spirit stones was a fortune. Deep News' face filled with anger. Her eyes were wide. "If my brother hadn't saved you, that python would have eaten you." She had grown up in the Deep family and was kind-hearted. She was the one who asked Deep Van to save the man. She never expected this. The man was ungrateful and wanted to kill her brother. Thankfully, Deep Van was prepared. If not, they both might have died here. Hearing Deep News' words, Latamban felt no shame. Instead, he laughed lecherously. "Oh, there's a little beauty here too. This is quite the haul." To him, the python was wealth. Deep Van was money, and Deep News was a body to satisfy his lust. She was just a spiritual indulgence. Hearing this, Deep Van's brow furrowed. His voice was low. "Are you looking for death?" The man paused, giving Deep Van a strange look. Then he laughed loudly. "Looking for death? You're about to die and you're still talking tough. Deep Van of the Deep family is the most famous trash in town. Don't you know your place? If it weren't for the 10,000 spirit stones, I wouldn't even bother with you." For a martial artist in Sunset Town, 10,000 low-grade spirit stones was an extravagant sum. In his mind, Deep Van was the #1 trash in Sunset Town, a good-for-nothing who couldn't awaken his martial soul. He could kill him however he wanted. Just then, a figure emerged from the forest. It was a thin man in his 30s. "Hey, fatty, 10,000 spirit stones? Did you find a treasure?" Seeing the newcomer, Latamban's jaw dropped. "Lu Thiet." He paused. His gaze shifted to Deep Van. His eyes immediately lit up and he chuckled. "Well, isn't this? It really is a treasure." Latamban looked at Lu Thiet with hostility. His gaze turned unfriendly. "Don't even look. I killed the python. I found this piece of trash first. This has nothing to do with you." Lu Thiet shrugged. His tone was strange. "Just because you found it doesn't mean it's yours. Whoever takes it owns it." Latamban glared at Lu Thiet, fuming. "Get lost." They both saw Deep Van as weak. They thought they could finish him in a few moves. Contempt was written all over their faces. Deep Van looked at the 2 idiots thoughtfully. "Are you two done talking?" He had used a lot of spirit power killing the python, But dealing with these two was nothing. Latamban snapped. Adults are talking. Children should be quiet. Killing intent flared in Diep Kinvan's eyes. His body flickered and became a gust of wind. When he reappeared, he was right in front of Latamban. He immediately executed the blade-edge fist technique. The fist cut through the air. It was like a sharp, cold blade. The domineering energy slammed into Latamban's ribs. The pain made Latamban's face turn purple. He couldn't speak. He was terrified. So strong. Latamban screamed in agony. The intense pain contorted his face, making him look ferocious. He finally realized something. This was the boy who killed the Thunder Seal Python. Weren't his meridians supposed to be shattered? Why, wait. He killed the python in one move. I'm such an idiot. I was fooled by his reputation as trash. Diep Kinvan's face darkened. Can we talk properly now? Seeing this, Luthiet's eyes almost popped out of his head. This is trash? He snapped out of his shock. His eyes darted around. He didn't say another word. He immediately turned to run. You guys can talk. I'm leaving. Diep Kinvan shouted. His aura exploded. He stomped his right foot like a lightning bolt. The whole forest shook. Leaves rained down. Get back here. Luthiet's legs gave out. He was trembling with fear. He turned around and dropped to his knees, begging for mercy. Young Master Diep, I was just joking with you. Please, don't hold it against me. Forgive me. His mind was in turmoil. Since when did Diep Kinvan become this strong? This completely shattered his understanding of the world. Diep Kinvan glanced at Luthiet. His eyes settled on the bag at the man's waist. A glint appeared in his eyes. He spoke in a low voice. Give me the Qiankun pouch. Luthiet was stunned. The Qiankun pouch? Young master, why do you want my pouch? It is all my important things. Diep Kinvan replied casually. That's right. Bring all of them out. Luthiet froze. Wait, I want it. Let me get this straight. Young Master Diep, are you robbing me? Diep Kinvan answered bluntly. Yes. Do you have any other cultivation treasures on you? The Qiankun pouch was precious, but his life was obviously more important. He gritted his teeth. He took the pouch and handed it to Diep Kinvan. No, young Master Diep, everything I own is in there. It's all in the pouch. It's all yours. Just let me go. He turned to look at Latamban. Damn you, Fatty La. This is all your fault. Young Master, that fatty hides his Qiankun pouch in his pants. Just pull them down and you'll find it. Hearing this, Diep Kinvan looked at Latamban with surprise. Oh, Luthiet whispered. I've given you everything. Young Master Diep, can I go now? Diep Kinvan waved his hand impatiently. Get lost. Luthiet was overjoyed and scrambled away. Diep Nu watched Diep Kinvan put Luthiet's pouch away. She hesitated to speak. Brother. Then, Diep Kinvan bent down to snatch Latamban's pouch, but the man held onto it, trembling. Diep Kinvan raised an eyebrow. You're not dead yet? As soon as he spoke, Latamban's trembling hand let go of the pouch. As Luthiet ran, he cursed angrily. Shameless. I've never seen anyone so shameless. The great Diep family, robbing poor wanderers like us. Good thing I'm smart. I didn't put the strange fire seed in the pouch. Otherwise, I would have lost big. With a single step, Diep Kinvan appeared in front of Luthiet. He held out his hand. His voice was calm. Hand it over. Luthiet's face was troubled. What? He was about to explain when a bone-chilling voice sounded in his ear. If you don't give it to me, I'll kill you, and then take it. Instantly, cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He didn't dare hesitate. He quickly handed over the strange fire seed and sobbed. Too strong. Diep Kinvan looked at the seed with some disappointment. It's a pity. These strange fire seeds aren't pure. They have impurities. They're just low grade. Thankfully, it could still be used to find strange fire. The search range was just limited to 100 miles. Diep Nu's eyes lit up. Brother, did you get it? Diep Kinvan answered gently. Yes. Latamban immediately started flattering him. Congratulations, young Master Diep. Diep Nu asked curiously, is strange fire really important to you, Brother Kinvan? He replied, of course. Diep Kinvan handed a Qiankun pouch to Diep Nu. Nu Ni, take this one. Diep Nu took the pouch. Her happiness was obvious. She skipped with excitement. A sweet smile spread across her face. This is great. One for you and one for me. Of course, she knew exactly how valuable a Qiankun pouch was. More importantly, her brother Kinvan had given it to her. Latamban broke into a sweat. He stammered, wait, what do you mean one for you and one for me? Where did that come from? Young Master Diep, didn't we have a deal? You said you'd give my things back once you got the strange fire seed. Diep Kinvan frowned and turned to him. His voice was ice cold. Isn't sparing your life enough? Diep Kinvan turned to his sister. Nu Ni, let's go. The stone lion's right eye is still on the thunder seal python. Diep Nu happily followed Diep Kinvan away. Okay, they left a stunned Latamban behind. After retrieving its eye, the stone lion regained its strength. Diep Kinvan confirmed his suspicion. Just as I thought. After it got its eye back, the lion now holds 50 drops of my past life's blood essence. An hour later, Deep Kin Van was in the Deep family courtyard. He jumped down lightly. He touched the stone lion. Spirit power flowed silently, extracting all 50 drops of blood essence from its body. Deep Kin Van thought, these 50 drops have unknowingly transformed it. Even though I've taken the blood, its spiritual consciousness remains. After a while, Deep Kin Van finished collecting it. He clenched his fist and smiled with satisfaction. It's done. Deep Nu touched the stone lion and asked, Brother, what's wrong with it? It was so lively just now. Why is it so weak all of a sudden? Deep Kin Van saw the longing in Deep Nu's eyes. He chuckled. Nuni, this stone lion has no cultivation base, but it has a soul. If you like it, it's yours. Hearing this, Deep Nu's eyes lit up brightly. She really liked the stone lion. It looked both domineering and majestic. Okay. Deep Nu excitedly climbed onto its back. She rode off with delight. Let's go. Afterwards, Deep Kin Van returned to his room. He carefully closed the door. Deep Kin Van opened his palm. 50 drops of blood essence floated in mid-air, emitting a faint light. Deep Kin Van waved his right hand. The 50 drops of blood essence shot towards him. They merged into his body one by one, flowing through his veins into the 10 demonic hearts. Instantly, the 10 demonic hearts began to pound. A faint black light appeared on Deep Kin Van's flesh. An indescribable cleansing feeling washed over him. The 50 drops of blood essence passed through his flesh and meridians, finally turning into a clear stream. The stream reflected on his black heart. Deep Kin Van thought, there's also the Thunder Seal from the Thunder Seal Python. With its seal technique, I can cultivate the Heaven and Earth Thunder Seal. Although Deep Kin Van had broken through the 9th level of body tempering, his body was still weak and filled with impurities. Being cleansed today made him feel reborn. Deep Kin Van also realized his soul had been purified. He felt unusually light and clear-headed. Time passed. The light grew more intense, eventually spreading outside. It took me 5 days to absorb 50 drops of my past life's pure blood. Just then, 2 streams of heat entered the acupoints in his eyes. Deep Kin Van felt a sharp pain between his eyebrows. It felt like he was about to explode. A white light shot from his hand. It shot from his eyes. The scene within 100 miles appeared clearly in his mind. He continued to think, I've cultivated the demonic blood armor and the Thunder Seal. He was secretly delighted. It was a good start. He had already cultivated the 100-mile eyes. This was a smooth start while still in the body-tempering realm. He had opened the first layer of the heavenly eye, activating the 100-mile eyes. For 3 consecutive days, Deep Kin Van cultivated in seclusion. He strengthened his body during the day. At night, he absorbed the world's spiritual energy to enhance his power. He originally wanted to cultivate the Thunder Seal, but that required absorbing the power of lightning from the heavens. The sky had been clear for days. There were no signs of thunderstorms. So he thought, the Heaven and Earth Thunder Seal needs lightning. Unfortunately, there hasn't been any thunder lately. It seems I'll have to wait. A silver liquid seeped from Deep Kin Van's palm. A silver light, like the dawn, shot out. A lightning sigil appeared on Deep Kin Van's palm. Absorbing the blood essence and the Thunder Seal had made him stronger. After finishing his cultivation, Deep Kin Van stood up and considered his progress. The combination of these two has tempered my body, just as I calculated. 5 days of cultivation completely stabilized his cultivation at the 4th level of the spirit realm. His strength had also increased significantly. His previous sickly state was gone. The spiritual power in his body was more stable and vast, like a bottomless abyss. In the small room, Deep Kin Van was already out of bed. He stretched his body. Why are so many people gathered at the Imperial Martial Arts Field today? As dawn broke, the entire Deep family was in an uproar. In Sunset Town, the morning mist created a mysterious atmosphere. The Deep family's Imperial Martial Arts Field was packed. A continuous stream of people arrived. In the center was a huge platform. Many people sat upon it. They were all important figures in the Deep family, each holding a share of the family's power. Deep Kin Van held Deep Nu's hand as they walked towards the field. Deep Nu smiled. Brother, today is the Deep family's grand tournament. Deep Kin Van was surprised. Oh, the moment Deep Kin Van entered the field, all eyes turned to him. Deep Kin Van, those gazes were filled with scrutiny. It was as if they were waiting for him to be humiliated again after his loss to Deep Thien. Last time, he never even stepped onto the stage. After all, Deep Thien had publicly ridiculed him that day. It was a mystery where he found the courage to show up today. That's right. Last time, he crippled Deep Tu Thien's martial soul. Is he here to die today? A commotion suddenly erupted in the crowd. They parted to form a path. A figure stepped onto the ground, which was covered in sword runes. His dense aura was completely out of place. Get out. Get the hell out of my way. Many Deep family disciples were sent flying by a huge impulse before they could even react. The one who spoke was a young man. He stood tall and straight, but his eyes were incredibly cold, and his killing intent was thick. His whole being was like a sharp sword, charged with power and ready to be drawn. To Deep Kin Van, this young man was no stranger. This was Deep Thien, always arrogant and smug, but right now, his face was extremely ferocious. He roared, "Deep Kin Van." That's right. He was Deep Tu Thien's older brother, the one known as a genius. Diep Kin Van replied indifferently, "Diep Thien." At this moment, Diep Tu Thien, standing beside him, trembled and clung to Diep Thien's clothes, not daring to look up. Seeing this, Deep Thien's anger flared even more. He couldn't believe his little brother was this afraid of Deep Kin Van. Deep Thien gritted his teeth. "My brother has never been afraid of anyone in the Deep family. But now he's afraid of Deep Kin Van." It seemed that day had left an indelible shadow on him. On the path of martial arts, a martial artist's greatest taboo is the shadow of fear in their heart. He had just learned that his brother Deep Tu Thien's martial soul had been destroyed. How could he not be furious? Deep Thien's voice was filled with rage. "Deep Kin Van, you bastard. You dared to destroy my brother's martial soul and make him afraid. Today, during the family tournament, I will destroy your meridians and martial soul, making you a cripple for life, unable to cultivate." Deep Kin Van's eyes glinted. "Bastard." Deep Thien said with a look of disdain. "What, you won't admit it? Everyone knows your mother was from a brothel, if it wasn't for your father's drunken mistake." His father, Deep Vo Hai, darkened his face. He shouted sternly, "Enough, Deep Thien." Diep Thien paid no attention to Diep Vo Hai. He continued arrogantly, his white teeth flashing coldly. He wanted to humiliate Diep Kin Van. He enjoyed this process. He wanted to break Deep Kin Van's spirit. "But father, what I said is the truth." "It's true. Why can't I say it? If it weren't for his father's drunken mistake, how would our Deep family have a bastard like him?" As he was enjoying his rant, a figure suddenly flashed towards him. Then, a large hand, hard as an iron plate, slapped him across the mouth. In an instant, his mouth swelled up like two sausages. Deep Kin Van's expression changed. His heart filled with coldness towards Deep Thien. Even though he was a reincarnated war god, he was still a reincarnated war god. He couldn't let others insult this body's mother. He could ignore insults to himself, but he would not tolerate insults to his parents. Deep Thien looked in disbelief at the grim-faced youth before him. "Trash Diep Kin Van. You dare to hit me? You want to die." Diep Thien was so angry that rage consumed him. In front of everyone, he had just been slapped by Diep Kin Van, a stinging slap. Where was his dignity? Diep Kin Van's face was dark and cold. He slowly walked towards the arena. "Come on, a life and death duel." At this moment, Deep Kin Van stood in the middle of a special arena. The entire platform was paved with blood-red tiles. Just a glance told you this was no ordinary arena. It had a special and imposing name, the Life and Death Arena. Seeing this, Deep Thien was ecstatic. His eyes practically glowed. His words were forced from his throat. "Fine, let's see how I openly cripple you." Everyone's eyes immediately turned towards them, filled with confusion. If Diep Thien stepped up like this, was he really going to swallow that slap? Yes. No, that's not right. Diep Kin Van had initiated the duel. If Diep Thien didn't accept, wouldn't he lose even more face? Hasn't this Diep Kin Van just recovered? In a life and death duel, someone is bound to die. That's right, Deep Thien has reached the 7th level of the spirit realm. He also has the Star Position Academy backing him. Where did Deep Kin Van get such courage? The crowd's faces showed intense disdain and mockery. In their minds, Diep Kin Van was still just a man, just the trash, whose meridians had been completely severed. Therefore, they found Deep Kin Van's actions to be incredibly foolish. Deep Lao, standing below, whispered 2 words, "Kin Van." Deep Thien roared at Diep Kin Van, the fire of his anger burning fiercely. "Trash, daring to challenge me to a life and death duel. You're dead." Deep Kin Van just chuckled, his tone full of mockery. "Oh, is that so?" Deep Vo Thien immediately stood up from his seat, completely ignoring those around him. His hatred for Deep Kin Van had reached its peak. "Thien Ni, don't hold back. Kill him now." Diep Thien's eyes turned fierce, his voice hoarse but firm. "Of course, it's a pity." Deep Kin Van glanced at Deep Vo Thien, his expression extremely cold, then calmly continued, "After today, I'm afraid you'll have another useless son." Hearing that, Deep Vo Thien's pupils widened. He slammed his hand on the stone table, shattering it instantly. "Insolent." Diep Thien pointed at Diep Kin Van and said, "Father, don't be angry. Don't worry, if he can still breathe after one move, I'm not human." Deep Kin Van retorted sarcastically, "As if you were ever human." That remark directly ignited Deep Vo Thien's anger, making him roar with fury. "Brat, what did you say? Say it again." Deep Kin Van saying his son wasn't human was like saying he wasn't human either. Deep Kin Van was bone-chillingly cold. "You're no good either. If you were a real person, you wouldn't have hired someone to assassinate your own nephew." Not long ago, Diep Kin Van had encountered assassins in the Sunset Forest. At that time, Latamban had asked him, Don't you want to know who paid 10,000 spirit stones for your life? Deep Kinvan asked. Who? Latamban replied coldly, Diep Votin. He knew very well that those assassins must have been sent by Diep Votin. In this entire town, the only person with such killing intent towards him was Diep Vothien. Diep Vohai frowned, his unfriendly gaze shifting to Diep Vothien. Vothien, is this true? Diep Vothien shouted, how could it be? Deep Kinfun, he's lying. Standing on the life and death arena, Deep Kinvan spoke calmly, but his voice sent shivers down everyone's spine. Lying, you're quite the righteous one. Diep Thien suddenly let out a long scream. Diep Kinvan, you damn brat, die. With that, he threw a vicious punch. The force of the punch rubbed against the air, creating streaks of intense fire. His body shot forward like lightning. A terrifying spiritual energy that made people suffocate aimed straight for Diep Kinvan's head. Facing Deep Thien's dense fist that seemed to cover the sky, Deep Kinvan didn't even flinch. His feet were as steady as a rock. He remained motionless. His arm suddenly raised, and he threw a punch. The fist howled like a living blade. It tore through the void, fiercely colliding with Deep Thien's fist. The two fists met with a deafening crash, like diamonds clashing. Observing more closely, Deep Vohai was shocked to find that the spiritual power in Deep Kinvan's body was incredibly strong. He began to tremble. In just a few short days, Diep Kinvan had reached the 4th level of the spirit realm. Diep Thien was knocked back by Diep Kinvan. He retreated 10 steps, while Diep Kinvan stood firm. In the next moment, everyone's breath hitched, their eyes widened even more. It was a scene that seemed absolutely impossible, yet Diep Kinvan had gained the upper hand. Is there some mistake? Diep Thien is clearly at the 7th level of the spirit realm. After stabilizing himself, Diep Thien's face was full of confusion and horror. Impossible. Deep Kinvan had actually blocked his punch. This was beyond his comprehension. Deep Kinvan looked at Deep Thien and asked casually, what's wrong? Are you angry? Diep Vo Thien still couldn't believe what was happening. Diep Kinvan, have you reached the 7th level of the spirit realm? Deep Kinvan answered bluntly, not yet, don't worry. He thought to himself, after absorbing the 50 drops of pure blood, his cultivation had indeed soared, but he was still a level below Diep Thien. If not for the combat experience of his past life as a war god, he would probably be at a disadvantage right now. Diep Thien was still skeptical. He can fight like this without being at the 7th level? He cursed inwardly. Damn it, I was careless. His momentum looked like he was about to win. Diep Thien tried to calm himself, then roared in anger. Fine. Today, it is your honor to die by my new technique. Deep Kinvan looked at Diep Thien with contempt. Just a 6th grade trash martial soul. What makes you so confident? Diep Thien gritted his teeth. He hadn't been this humiliated in a long time, his face twisted with rage. Deep Thien roared, bastard, die. The yellow-veined tiger behind him roared. His hands quickly grew tiger fur. The tiger claw of 3 wolves shot out. A terrifying wave of water appeared. It condensed into the shape of a tiger's claw and struck towards Diep Kinvan. Diep Kinvan snorted coldly. Every movement of his hands and feet carried immense power. At the same time, his hands turned into claws, fiercely grabbing at his opponent. The 2 claw images collided violently. Blinding sparks flew in the void, forming a wave of energy on the ground. It spread out in all directions. Diep Thien's heart was in turmoil. A claw image like a dragon's shadow struck, carrying a sky full of killing intent. He never expected this move from Diep Kinvan. It was like a child playing in front of an adult. But what terrified him even more was that royal dragon claw technique. This move made him feel suffocated. A cold chill spread from it. The surrounding people retreated a few steps, their faces filled with intense shock. No one expected this. They never thought Diep Kinvan could also execute such a powerful move. He won. He won. A 4th level spirit realm defeated a 7th level. Damn it. Diep Kinvan sneered, his commentary blunt. Is this your new technique? Flashy but useless. It couldn't even withstand one blow. Diep Thien was about to explode with anger. His eyes turned bloodshot. His voice grew hoarser. Diep Kinvan, you forced me to do this. He was considered a genius of the Diep family. He had used this very technique to kill countless demonic beasts with higher cultivation than his own. Yet, in Diep Kinvan's mouth, it became unable to withstand a single blow. Diep Thien quickly took out a rage cultivation pill from his sleeve. Diep Kinvan paused, his eyes flashing. Oh. Diep Thien roared, trash Diep Kinvan, you're dead for sure. When Diep Thien swallowed the rage cultivation pill, his aura instantly surged. His entire body radiated a more powerful and fierce presence. He laughed loudly. Die, you piece of trash. Diep Kinvan sneered. A rage cultivation pill. You think forcing your bloodline to burn for a quick upgrade. He continued with disdain. Will let you kill me? These words struck Diep Thien like a clap of thunder. Diep Thien roared in fury and charged again. This time, the yellow-veined tiger behind him grew even larger. Its momentum soared. Its sharp fangs were exposed, glinting coldly. Diep Kin Van, you've humiliated me multiple times. If I don't kill you, I'm not human. Diep Kin Van laughed mockingly. You think you're human? During the fight, Diep Kin Van's face remained calm and composed. In his eyes, the young man before him wasn't even qualified to be his opponent. Seeing this, Diep Thien was not angry, but secretly pleased. Your cultivation is 4 levels lower than mine, and you still dare to be stubborn? You're dead for sure. It's over. Diep Thien unleashed a powerful palm strike. This palm strike definitely contained all his strength. He wanted to beat Diep Kin Van into a pulp, to crush him into a pile of meat. Die. At this moment, Diep Kin Van also raised his hand and activated the first layer of the demonic blood armor technique, the Dragon Tiger demonic blood armor. A dragon and a tiger appeared from the shield. A stream of spiritual power wrapped tightly around Diep Kin Van's arm. This Dragon Tiger demonic blood armor raised his defense to a whole new level. That powerful martial art, upon hitting the Dragon Tiger demonic blood armor, instantly turned into nothingness, too weak to withstand a single blow. At that moment, Diep Kin Van's palm strike hit Diep Thien squarely in the chest. Diep Thien's entire body was sent flying. His eyes widened, his face filled with horror. He wasn't the only one shocked. Everyone present stared wide-eyed, finding it all too unbelievable. What on earth was happening? When did Diep Kin Van become so strong? In their first match, you could say. Diep Thien completely overpowered Diep Kin Van. But this time, in speed, strength, and even spiritual power, Diep Kin Van surpassed Diep Thien. If Diep Kin Van's defeat of Diep Tu Thien didn't get much attention, his victory over Diep Thien was a different story. It was like a stone thrown into a lake, creating 1,000 waves. No one could have imagined he possessed such strength. The second elder, Diep Thuong, stared blankly at the scene, too shocked to speak. The scene before him nearly shattered his entire perception. What? Impossible. He can't possibly beat me. Weren't his meridians completely shattered? Diep Thien seemed to become a different person in an instant, completely refusing to believe this reality. Even though he had used all his strength, he still couldn't harm Diep Kin Van in the slightest. This was something he couldn't accept. A genius once admired by everyone was now being trampled by someone who used to be a piece of trash under his feet and in front of everyone. Diep Kin Van looked at Diep Thien with icy eyes, slowly walking forward. With each step, his aura grew stronger, like a sharp sword piercing the heavens. Then he spoke indifferently. Diep Thien. Diep Vo Thien's face changed drastically. What? Diep Kin Van disappeared from his original position in a flash. His body flickered and appeared in front of Diep Thien, raising his right hand. That hand swung down like a great saber. You've humiliated me hundreds of times before. Today, I'll sever your meridians in return. After speaking, Diep Kin Van clenched his hand. Diep Thien immediately screamed wildly. The destructive power made his body twist violently. The meridians in his body, like overstretched springs, snapped one after another in an instant. His face turned pale, drained of all blood. Finally, in his brother's horrified gaze, he was knocked off the arena. Diep Vo Thien snapped out of his shock, his face flushing red. He rushed to Diep Thien's side. His face was filled with rage. You destroyed Tu Thien's martial soul, and today you crippled my eldest son's meridians. I will chop you into pieces. I won't let you die a peaceful death. Thinking of his 2 exceptionally talented sons being crippled by Diep Kin Van, the anger in his heart flared to the heavens. His eyes turned bloodshot in an instant. Diep Kin Van snorted coldly. If he wasn't my cousin, I would have killed him long ago. Once both sides stepped onto the life and death arena, life and death were determined by fate. He had every right to kill Diep Thien, and Diep Vo Thien had no right to complain. That was the rule of the Diep family, a rule used to prove one's strength. Diep Vo Thien's vicious eyes stared at Diep Kin Van. His entire aura suddenly exploded. What did you say? Diep Kin Van, I want to kill you. As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately made a move, charging towards Diep Kin Van. Stop. At that moment, a hand reached out a step faster, grabbing Diep Vo Thien's hand to shield Diep Kin Van. Diep Thuong looked straight at Diep Vo Thien, his voice extremely cold. Diep Vo Thien, do you think I don't exist? On the martial arts arena, in a life and death duel, your son was inferior to others, and you want to interfere? As an elder, do you still have any shame? Every word from Diep Thuong was like a stab to the heart. Diep Vo Thien's face grew darker and darker. In the end, his face looked like it was about to drip blood. At this moment, Diep Thien also woke up. His brother helped him up, and he called out hoarsely, Father. Diep Vo Thien immediately turned his head. Thien Ni. Diep Vo Thien placed his hand on Diep Thien's shoulder and called out again, Thien Ni. Diep Thien, holding his heavily injured chest, gritted his teeth. He said, Father, let's go back first. What Diep Kin Van owes me today, I will claim back 100-fold in the future. Diep Thuong observed Diep Kin Van from head to toe, unable to help but praise him loudly. Good, good. Deep King Van, I never expected you to progress so quickly. Your talent is much stronger than before. I will report today's events to the Great Elder. He will give you some advice. Diep Kin Van clasped his hands. Thank you, Second Elder. Diep Vo Thien suppressed his anger, pulling Diep Dien and Diep Tu Thien away in a rage. If it weren't for those two elders over there, I'd be no man if I didn't kill him. Thien Ni, don't worry. I'll make sure he doesn't die a whole death. Diep Thien choked out, Father. Diep Vo Hai stroked his beard, his face full of smiles. Good, good, Kin Van, you've given me a great surprise. Bang Hoai also exclaimed happily, Congratulations, young master. Great Elder Deep Thon has the highest cultivation in the Deep family, having reached the Yin Void realm. If you receive his guidance, you will improve by leaps and bounds. Hearing this, Deep Kin Van thought to himself, in my past life, I was the war god. Who on this 8 desolates continent is qualified to teach me? It seems I can only rely on myself. Silence. Deep Vo Hai's gaze swept across the field. His calm voice rang out. In this family competition, Kin Van is the winner. Does anyone have any objections? Everyone shook their heads. Someone in the crowd spoke up. Not even Diep Thien is. Deep Kin Van's opponent. Who would dare to object? Suddenly, someone exclaimed in surprise, He's back. The person next to him asked, confused, What did you say? The genius Diep Kin Van is back, defeating a high-level martial artist with a low-level cultivation. He knew how difficult that was. The entire imperial martial arts field was in an uproar. The strength Diep Kin Van displayed had far exceeded their imagination. They all realized that the genius of the past had truly returned. A cold smile appeared on Deep Kin Van's lips. Of course, no one dared to object to Deep Kin Van's first-place position this time. Then the reward for Deep Kin Van this time, the lightning fruit, goes to Deep Kin Van. The second elder announced in a deep voice, a smile on his face, as he took out the lightning fruit and held it up. Amidst countless admiring and envious gazes, someone exclaimed, Is that the lightning fruit? The lightning fruit can temper the body, making it extremely strong. Diep Kin Van has already surpassed the body-tempering realm and reached the spirit realm. Giving it to him is such a waste. This is a good item. Besides body tempering, it has another hidden effect. Deep Kin Van's eyes lit up, secretly delighted. If used during a thunderstorm, it could greatly increase the speed of absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, thus causing his cultivation to soar. Second Elder, the Deep family's annual meeting will be held as scheduled in 3 days. Deep Vo Hai looked at Deep Thuong and said, Second Elder, the Deep family's annual meeting will be held as scheduled in 3 days. Deep Thuong immediately replied, All right. Diep Vo Hai then turned to Diep Kin Van. Kin Van, come with me. There are some things it's time to tell you. Diep Kin Van, while putting the lightning fruit into his Chien Kun pouch, replied, Yes. The two entered the Deep family's ancestral hall. The grandfather's trembling voice rang out, Kin Van, do you still not know some things about the family? I didn't intend to tell you, but your talent has returned, and it's even stronger than before. So, I see a hope for revenge. Deep Kin Van was slightly taken aback. He thought to himself, after entering this place, the bloodline in my body is surging violently. He carefully observed his surroundings. As expected, his past life's blood essence still remained in this ancestral hall. Deep Vo Hai pointed to the memorial tablet in front. Kin Van, do you see that spirit tablet? Deep Kin Van looked. Spirit tablet. Deep Trung, the first-generation head of the Deep family, possessed a 6th-grade martial soul. His aptitude was considered ordinary. Diep Vo Hai slowly recounted the story, but he became a powerhouse step by step, leading the Diep family to become one of the 8 great families of the 8 desolates continent. Unfortunately, that family head was too arrogant. Diep Vo Hai kept his eyes on the spirit tablet, continuing his story. The major powers, dissatisfied, secretly set a trap to harm him. Diep Vo Hai sighed. Now, the Deep family is just a small family in Sunset Town. Back then, Deep Trung was unwilling to be an ordinary person. He built the Deep family's foundation with his own strength. But now, our conditions are much better than back then, yet we can't make the Deep family strong again like before. These stories were passed down to me by our ancestors. Back then, the Deep family was one of the 8 great families. But today, it's just a small family in Sunset Town. It's truly disheartening. Hearing Diep Vo Hai's words, Diep Kin Van's eyes flickered. If he guessed correctly, the Diep family's ancestor must be so powerful because he had consumed his blood essence. This wasn't strange. When I self-destructed in my past life, I still had 3,000 drops of blood essence left, he thought. Perhaps the Deep family ancestor was lucky enough to obtain a portion of it. Otherwise, with such ordinary aptitude, it would be impossible to achieve such amazing accomplishments. At this point, Diep Vo Hai's expression became extremely grim. He slapped Diep Kin Van's shoulder fiercely. It made a cracking sound. Therefore, we, as descendants of the Deep family, must follow the example of our ancestors and cultivate diligently. Strive hard. My lifelong wish is to lead the Deep family back to the 8 great families and defeat the Thuong Quan family. The Thuong Quan family? Deep Kinvan was slightly taken aback. He had never heard of this family. He thought it must be a new power that had become one of the 8 great families in the last few hundred years. Back then, Deep Trung, to protect the 8 Desolates continent, Deep Vo Hai's face showed deep sorrow. He fought with the blood venerable for 7 days and 7 nights. After that, he won. At this point, a wave of shock rose in his heart, but when he returned home, he found if the ancestor hadn't used his last bit of strength. Diep Vo Hai recalled the tragic scene of the Diep family being massacred and spoke in pain. Then, the Deep family would have been truly wiped out. The entire Deep family had hundreds of people, yet in the end, only a dozen were lucky enough to survive. They had to hide their identities, live in anonymity, and then rebuild the Deep family in Sunset Town. If that incident hadn't happened back then, the Deep family would still be a top family on the 8 Desolates continent. How could we have to bow down in a small place like Sunset Town? Diep Vo Hai called out softly. King Van. Diep Kin Van immediately replied, yes. The old man sighed. I see a lot of potential in you. He stroked his beard, closed his eyes, and said slowly, I fear I won't have the hope to lead the Deep family back in my lifetime. But you, my child, have shown me that hope. Diep Kin Van looked at the old man before him. After merging with this body, his feelings for his family had not diminished but had grown stronger. He could clearly feel the anger and unwillingness suppressed in the old man's heart. Diep King Van roared internally, Diep Trung, you absorbed my past life's blood essence. You can be considered half a disciple of mine. Your regrets from back then, let me help you fulfill them. Diep Vo Hai looked at Diep King Van, his expression suddenly becoming solemn. He said, King Van, today I will pass on to you the family's supreme treasures. He solemnly walked to the empty space in front. Spiritual power erupted from his hands, striking the ground. A bright light instantly shone out. Diep Kin Van saw this and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, a level 1 spirit formation. I never thought the Diep family would have a spirit formation. Diep Vo Hai also looked at Diep Kin Van in surprise. Oh, Kin Van, you know about spirit formations? Spirit formation masters are a truly rare profession. There isn't a single spirit formation master in the entire Sunset Town. Many people only know about alchemists, not spirit formation masters. I never thought Diep Kin Van would know about such a profession. Diep Kin Van looked at the spirit formation before him. Just by its aura, he immediately recognized its level. He couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. In my past life, I was a 7th grade spirit formation master. How could I not know? But Diep Kin Van didn't answer his grandfather. His eyes were suddenly drawn to something else. He was secretly surprised. Wait, it was a broken sword. The broken sword was covered in rust spots, its body a dark black color, emitting an ancient aura. It was like a setting sun that would never again be able to burst forth with dazzling light. Yet, it was this broken sword that made Diep Kin Van watch intently. If you looked closely, you could see his body trembling slightly, and even his eyes were shaking. A sudden curve appeared at the corner of his mouth. His expression became incredibly complex. Soon, 2 trails of burning fire appeared in Diep Kin Van's eyes. It was as if a flame was burning in his heart. My old friend. Diep Vo Hai's voice rang out slowly. This broken sword was previously the personal sword of ancestor Diep Trung. Back then, he used this sword to defeat the Blood Venerable. But this broken sword is extremely violent, so it must be sealed with a spirit formation. What shocked the old man was that the broken sword flew directly in front of Diep Kin Van. Kin Van, be careful. Hold it carefully. Diep Vo Hai's eyes widened, intense shock clearly visible on his face. Diep Kin Van reached out and stroked the broken sword. This is my personal sword from my past life, the Heartless Sword. Every time he held the sword, he would become cold and heartless. His combat power would increase tenfold. Diep Kin Van's emotions surged. A look of extreme determination appeared in his eyes. He continued to think, like a god of slaughter, I will kill gods and Buddhas, killing all my enemies. This sword was forged from the iron of hell. It was forged by the #1 blacksmith grandmaster of the God Realm, who used his own heart's blood and tempered it for over 1,000 days. When the Heartless Sword was unsheathed, its light shot out in all directions, shocking the entire lower God Realm. With the Heartless Sword in hand, the world is mine. Diep King Van stared at the broken sword in his hand, his mind racing. The Heartless Sword was broken into 9 pieces, although it's still heartless now. This is only 1 piece, but it's the most important piece, the hilt. With it in hand, I can cultivate the Heartless Sword Dao. The scene before him almost made Diep Vo Hai's mind stop working. He stroked his beard joyfully and laughed out loud. This sword has never recognized a master in its entire life. Not even the ancestor could be accepted by it. I never thought it would recognize you. Kin Van, this broken sword is yours from now on. Diep Vo Hai said excitedly, his eyes on Diep Kin Van becoming very strange. Could it be that the Diep family is really going to have another super expert like Diep Trung? Yes. Deep King Van nodded solemnly. Even if his grandfather hadn't said so, he would definitely have taken this broken sword, because it was originally his personal sword. Diep Vohai's voice echoed throughout the entire ancestral hall. Ancestors, heaven has not abandoned my Diep family. Finally, my Diep family has a genius successor. A silence fell over the room, filled with the lingering smoke of incense. Suddenly, a chilling sensation struck, hitting Diep Kinvan's mind. At that moment, the sword suddenly emitted a bright light. He was shocked to find that the scene before him was constantly changing. Images, like a film, flashed quickly before his eyes. In the blue sky, a middle-aged man stood in the void, holding a broken sword, his long hair flying wildly, his aura incredibly majestic. This is, Deep Kinvan thought, could it be the remnant soul of the Deep family's ancestor, Deep Trung? This was the scene of Diep Trung fighting the Blood Venerable. In front of the middle-aged man stood a blood-red figure, holding a blood-colored longsword, its killing intent sky-high. Without any words, the two sides immediately engaged in battle, causing heaven and earth to change color. Very quickly, the blood-red figure blocked Diep Trung's attack, leaving him speechless with surprise. His entire body was stained with bright red blood, radiating a majestic aura. Diep Trung continued to exert all his strength, delivering a fatal blow towards the Blood Venerable, and then another blow. The Blood Venerable was cut into many pieces. At this moment, the broken sword had fully unleashed its power. Suddenly, he turned around directly. Diep Trung landed on the ground. Diep Kinvan thought, he's found me. Diep Trung was agitated. He immediately knelt before Diep Kinvan. This kneel seemed to make the entire world tremble. Diep Trung offered the broken sword to Diep Kinvan with both hands. Diep Kinvan paused slightly, then nodded gently. Rest assured, you have absorbed my blood essence and obtained my personal sword. He continued in a deep voice. This shows that we are fated. You can be considered half a disciple of mine. Diep Kinvan took the broken sword, his voice firm and clear with each word. Don't worry, leave your revenge to me. With that, the images suddenly vanished, and the chilling sensation in his head dissipated with them. In a room in the Diep family's pavilion, a low voice filled with extreme anger rang out. This bastard. Diep Vothian sat on a chair, looking at his two crying sons, one older and one younger. His chest heaved with ragged breaths. He was extremely angry. He slammed his hand on the table and pointed. Damn it, both of my sons are outstanding, and both were crippled by that bastard. If I don't avenge this, I swear I'm not human. Both of his sons were once proud prodigies with boundless futures. But now, one's meridians were destroyed, the other's. Marshall's soul was destroyed, completely turning them into cripples. Father, my meridians are destroyed now. I can never cultivate again. Living in such shame is worse than. Deep Thean's eyes turned ashen. He had lost all hope. His broken meridians meant he could never cultivate again. His life's achievements were limited. What was the point of living like this? It was better too. Deep Thean, trembling, took out a blood-red pill. Seeing this, Deep Vohai's eyes flickered. Thean Ni, you can't. This is the blood kill pill. Even if it can reconnect your meridians and stimulate your potential, the side effects are too great. If you take it now, you will definitely suffer a backlash later. Wait for me to find a way to restore your meridians. Diep Tu Thien, standing beside him, said, Father, brother's meridians are broken now. Living like this is no different from the trash. Diep King Van 3 years ago. We must kill him. Diep Thien growled, his face ferocious. Father, I'll take it. At worst, I'll die. I don't want to be a cripple for another second. Deep Kin Van had destroyed his martial soul, making him unable to cultivate for life, no different from a cripple. That feeling made him extremely unwilling, so he had to swallow this pill. With that, Deep Thien immediately took the blood kill pill. Seeing this, Deep Vothien cried out in alarm, Thien Ni. Deep Thien glanced at his little brother. His eyes gradually turned a terrifying bright red. He growled in a low voice, Little brother, I will definitely avenge you. After I absorb this blood kill pill, I will go kill him right away. Hearing that, Diep Tu Thien immediately replied happily, All right. Deep Vothien sighed softly. Well, since it's come to this, you should absorb the blood kill pill properly during this time. Deep Vothien continued in a deep voice. In 3 months, it will be the Deep family's autumn hunt. I've already contacted the Blood Kill sect. At that time, we will cooperate from the inside and outside. Killing that bastard won't be a problem. Hearing that sect mentioned again, a sinisterly strange expression appeared on Diep Thien's face. Joining forces with the Blood Kill sect to kill him? Hey, Deep King Van would never have guessed that the person who severed his meridians back then was also from the Blood Kill sect. From now on, things will get more interesting. Night slowly fell. The clouds were as dark as ink, like a giant black dragon hanging in the void, obscuring the last remaining light in the sky. After returning to his room, Deep Kin Van tightly gripped the broken sword in his hand, his emotions still turbulent. Old friend, we meet again. In my past life, you fought alongside me against countless enemies. The killing intent within your blade has long since accumulated. It's just a pity that you were broken into 9 pieces. Rest assured, I will definitely find all your pieces." The low rumble of thunder echoed silently in the heavens. Soon after, heavy rain poured down from the sky. Deep King Van looked into the distance and saw that the clouds were thick. The raindrops carried a violent energy. Is that lightning? Seeing the scene before him, a happy smile appeared on Diep Kin Van's face. He thought, just in time for me to cultivate the thunder seal. A thunderstorm was approaching. The sound of thunder from afar continued to roll in. This meant the storm over there was even more intense. Without any hesitation, Deep Kin Van's figure quickly disappeared from within the Deep family, using a strange movement technique under his feet. On a few high peaks, a number of people were gathered when they saw a figure standing straight in the middle of the downpour. A strange expression appeared on everyone's face. "Look, the rain is so heavy, and that fool is running out to take a shower." One person looked ahead with a mocking tone. "I guess he's heartbroken. What is love in this world that makes so many lovers vow to live and die together? But I heard that some martial artists use lightning to cultivate. That person ran out of the city. Could it be?" Someone spoke up like this, with a hint of admiration in their eyes. People like that were extremely rare in Sunset Town. At this moment, the young man with the gloomy eyes suddenly spoke. He looked at the figure in front with contempt. "Cultivating with lightning. Even I can't do that. I'm afraid no one in this entire Sunset Town can do it." This young man was the young master of the Hai family, named Hai Nat Min. A sycophant immediately flattered him. "That's right. In this Sunset Town, who can compare to young Master Hai? Our young Master Hai is revered as having a body of flesh and a demonic foundation." Hai Nat Min proudly raised his head, looking like an arrogant swan. He looked at the figure drenched in the rain with contempt and snorted coldly. "Cultivating with lightning? Dream on." Diep King Van stood in the rain, the spiritual power around him swirling. Not a single drop of rain could touch him. Above his head, streaks of lightning surged like great waves, and the whole sky seemed about to collapse. Hai Nat Min was shocked, his face full of horror, momentarily speechless. The person next to him couldn't help but ask curiously, "Young Master Hai, what's wrong?" It turned out that Deep Kin Van had just landed lightly, but it had caused the ground to crack into many pieces. Seeing this, Hai Nat Min hurriedly said, let's go see." Time passed quietly. The rain continued to pour. About 15 minutes later, his figure appeared about a kilometer outside of Sunset Town. Deep Kin Van looked up at the vast sea of lightning above and laughed out loud. Just in time, a purple fruit appeared in his hand, its silver light flickering. It was the lightning fruit. Deep Kin Van thought, if I just eat the lightning fruit alone, the effect will probably be minimal, but if I combine it with the power of lightning, without any hesitation, Diep Kin Van directly swallowed it. Immediately, a violent energy was born within his body. This scene shocked the group of martial artists. Their faces were all filled with surprise. What? He's really using lightning to cultivate? Impossible. The power of lightning is extremely violent. If the body isn't strong enough, it's like seeking death. Hai Nat Min snorted coldly, looking at the shocked expressions of those around him. His face was full of contempt. He said indifferently, "Noisy. Just putting on a mysterious act. It's just a small trick." Diep Kin Van looked up at the boundless expanse of lightning above and laughed out loud again. However, before he could finish his words, Diep Kin Van had absorbed a bolt of lightning. The lightning sigil on his hand began to become clearer. If he was given another hour of cultivation, this lightning sigil would reach great completion. One person looked at the figure in front, his eyes trembling slightly. He couldn't help but voice his thoughts. He really succeeded. Cultivating with lightning. I never thought there would be someone in Sunset Town stronger than young Master Hai. The man shot Hai Nat Min a strange look. Hearing his words, rage ignited within Hai Nat Min. His gaze snapped to the one who had just spoken. The man felt Hai Nat Min's piercing, cold stare. A shiver ran down his spine as he quickly spoke. "Young Master Hai, I misspoke. I'll shut my mouth. But Hai Nat Min was unforgiving. He let out a cold, sinister laugh. He took a step forward. His fierce aura surged like a tidal wave. He threw a punch right at the man. The man coughed up a mouthful of blood. He collapsed to the ground, his life force gone. After finishing the deed, Hai Nat Min's gaze turned coldly toward the slender figure ahead. No one knew what he was planning. He thought to himself, that guy must have some kind of treasure protecting him. Otherwise, how could he reach such a level? The rain had stopped. Rays of light pierced through the clouds, shining down. At the same time, Deep Kin Van was still cultivating the Thunder Cauldron seal. A violent stream of energy surrounded his body. Streams of thunder force poured into the seal in his hand. The spiritual energy in his body was slowly rising. Soon, his cultivation would break through. The people around saw this. Their eyes nearly popped out. I thought someone was undergoing a tribulation, but he's using lightning to train. That just proves how powerful he is. A Thunder Cauldron seal appeared in his right palm. It flashed with silver light. He stretched out his right hand. He aimed it at the lightning in the sky. Deep Kin Van's eyes flashed. He was ready to break through. Break through, but just then, a figure rushed in madly. He forcefully shattered the breakthrough aura. He shouted, "You want to break through?" Deep Kin Van was so surprised he was speechless. Deep Kin Van was absorbing thunder force. His opponent had a higher cultivation level. He had no way to block the attack. He took the punch and was sent flying backward. After seeing his face, the attacker's expression changed dramatically. He had been curious which shameless person dared to train right in front of him, but when he saw the answer, he couldn't help but laugh arrogantly. "So it's you, the trash, Deep Kin Van. You must have a protective treasure. You were leveling up, but I interrupted you. You're at your weakest now." Hai Nat Min looked down on Deep Kin Van. His eyes gleamed. He could feel his opponent's powerful body. This fueled his jealousy even more. "Hand over the treasure." Deep Kin Van clutched his side where he was hit. He muttered, "Shameless." Hai Nat Min roared, "What? You dare call me shameless, Deep Kin Van? I was going to let you go, but you humiliated me in front of everyone. I can't let this slide." Deep Kin Van was slightly taken aback. Then he couldn't help but say, "Try me. If you want to fight, then fight. Aren't you called the Raging Body Demon? Today, I'll use my body to crush you." Deep Kin Van actually declared he'd beat Hai Nat Min physically. How arrogant. Unbelievably arrogant. Hearing those words, Hai Nat Min's face twisted violently. The words were practically ground out from between his teeth. "You're clearly bluffing. Do you think my title, the Raging Body Demon, is just for show?" Hai Nat Min's eyes flashed fiercely. His face was purple with rage. He immediately charged at Deep Kin Van. "Today, I'll use my physical strength to knock all your teeth out." Deep Kin Van also threw a powerful punch to meet him. He didn't use any weapons. He just relied on his superior speed and strength. His powerful blow struck Hai Nat Min's hand directly. The two fists collided. The blood in their bodies boiled like crashing waves. Hai Nat Min stumbled back 5 steps. His face turned bright red. Then he spat out a mouthful of blood. The onlookers couldn't help but cry out, "What?" Hai Nat Min was hit so hard he's coughing up blood. Hearing those sounds, Hai Nat Min's face immediately turned pale. This was a true humiliation. "Hey, is that the Deep family's trash fighting your young master?" Hai Nat Min's subordinate casually replied, "Yes. I can't believe the young master is at a disadvantage. Could it be that the young master is weaker than the Deep family's trash?" At that sentence, Hai Nat Min shot his subordinate a sharp glare. An idea flashed in Hai Nat Min's eyes. He pointed straight at Deep Kin Van and roared, "You cheat. We agreed to only use physical strength. You used a magic treasure." "That's right. He must be using a martial treasure that enhances his power. That has to be it. Otherwise, how could I be at a disadvantage?" Deep Kin Van was stunned. "What?" Hai Nat Min's subordinate immediately pretended to be indignant for his master. "Despicable. That's too despicable. Now I finally understand why young Master Hai lost. Deep Kin Van, you're truly shameless. Using external forces to fight my young master. What kind of hero are you?" Hearing those words, Hai Nat Min's brows relaxed. "Deep family trash. If you have any other treasures, just take them out and keep fighting." Deep Kin Van couldn't help but mutter one word, "Idiot." As soon as he finished, Deep Kin Van suddenly leaped into the air. In the blink of an eye, he appeared right in front of Hai Nat Min. Jealousy burned like a wildfire in Hai Nat Min's heart. He was furious. He was extremely unwilling to accept this. How could his physical body be so strong? What kind of encounter did he have? "I can't believe my 20 years of training are inferior to a piece of trash. No, I must kill him today. I'll have to use spiritual energy." Thinking this, Hai Nat Min's eyes flickered. The spiritual energy in his body roared and surged. His powerful cultivation erupted. Hai Nat Min's killing intent toward Deep Kin Van was now fully exposed. "Deep Kin Van, since you're so shameless, don't blame me for being ruthless. You, despicable villain, die." A violent stream of energy shot straight at Deep Kin Van. A martial artist couldn't help but exclaim, "Why is Hai Nat Min using spiritual energy? Didn't they agree to a purely physical fight?" Hai Nat Min's subordinate immediately shouted angrily, "Shut up. That trash Deep Kin Van is a menace. Of course, young master, Hai, has to use spiritual energy to eliminate a public threat." Just then, a figure dressed in black, face covered, appeared in the crowd. He raised his hand and cheered. "That's right. Eliminate a public threat." Hai Nat Min's subordinate was so surprised he was speechless. The masked man in black chuckled. "Everyone, it's fate that we've met. Tonight, the moon is bright. After a spring rain, the spirit is refreshed. Moreover, we have the honor of watching the young masters of the Deep and Hai families compete." Before he could finish, the Hai family subordinate interrupted him. "Just say what you want." The mysterious masked man immediately took out a large white sheet of paper. 2 names were written on it. "Come on, place your bets. Place your bets. This is your chance to get rich. Today's battle, will it be young Master Hai the raging body demon, who wins? Or will it be Diep King Van, the so-called trash, who emerges victorious? Hearing this, Hai Nat Min's subordinate pointed a furious finger at him. In your dreams, you're opening a betting pool in a serious place like this? I think you're crazy for money. As soon as he finished, the mysterious masked man used a taunt. What? You think your young master Hai will lose? Can't you accept that outcome? The subordinate's gambling spirit was instantly triggered. He quickly took out silver to place a bet. Shut up. How could my young master lose? I bet you 10 taels. My young master wins. A person beside him immediately tried to stop him. Just now, your young master was beaten until he spat blood. He doesn't look like he's about to win. Hearing that, Hai Nat Min's subordinate flared up. This time, my young master has unleashed all his spiritual energy. How can he lose? The other person nodded a few times, seeming to agree. That makes sense. The surrounding people were immediately stirred up. Yes, I bet on young master Hai to win. Me too. That's right. I can't stand that despicable deep family trash using dirty tricks. I'm betting on young master Hai. Seeing a pile of gold on Hai Nat Min's side, while Diep Kin Van's was empty, he couldn't help but laugh smugly. Trash is trash. No chance of winning at all. If that's the case, the masked man closed his eyes, his tone calm. Then I'll place my bet. He placed a silver ingot on the paper with Diep King Van's name. Then he declared loudly, the trash wins. Diep Kin Van channeled spiritual energy to his legs. The shadowless breeze step was instantly executed. Hai Nat Min realized Diep Kin Van had vanished. He was gone. He only felt a breeze sweep past. It stung his face. He was utterly terrified. He thought, what? He disappeared? As he stood there stunned, a voice came through. Blade fist. Diep Kin Van shouted. A fist shadow like a blade appeared instantly. It smashed hard into Hai Nat Min's cheek. Hai Nat Min's head was ringing. It felt incredibly heavy. His body swayed. He saw stars. His vision exploded. He lost control of his body and flew backward. Seeing Hai Nat Min knocked to the ground by Diep Kin Van, his subordinate was choked with shock. Everyone's eyes turned to the man in black. The paper was now empty. There was no money left. He sat cross-legged, smiling. Sorry, betting is closed. No more changes. The subordinate wouldn't give up. He roared encouragement. Young Master Hai, use all your strength. Defeat him. He's just a piece of trash. Hai Nat Min was sent flying again. His whole body slammed hard into a cliff face. The impact was so strong the rock cracked. He clutched his chest, coughing up fresh blood. The entire scene erupted in chaos. The onlookers saw it with their own eyes, but they still couldn't believe it. What's going on? Didn't you say young Master Hai wouldn't lose? I bet all my money on your young master. The subordinate could only stammer. Can your young master even fight? Can he even block a single move? Hearing this, Hai Nat Min gritted his teeth in fury. He clenched his fists and channeled his spiritual energy. The phantom of an eagle marshal's soul appeared. Hai Nat Min screamed, Diep King Van, trash, die for me. The bystanders immediately buzzed with discussion. Look, young Master Hai has summoned his marshal's soul. Hai Nat Min's subordinate commented, not many opponents can force my young master to summon his marshal's soul. Those opponents all share one fate, certain death. The crowd continued to cheer. Go, young Master Hai, go, defeat him. Young Master Hai is mighty. Diep Kin Van didn't just stand there waiting. He raised his hand and unleashed a move, Royal Dragon Claw. In the next moment, both Hai Nat Min and his martial soul were brutally defeated. He collapsed to the ground. The others were frozen like statues. Hai Nat Min lay on the ground, biting his lip and silently shedding tears. The crowd discussed in shock. That trash. Diep Kin Van, how can he be so strong, dude? The raging body demon lost in a physical fight. Now he loses even at the 7th level of the spirit realm. He summoned his martial soul and was sent flying with one palm strike before he could even attack. Just then, Diep Kin Van walked up to them. He held out his hand and said, the show's over. Pay up. They were stunned. Money? Then, as if on cue, they all pointed at Latam Ban standing behind them. All the money is with him. Diep Kin Van raised an eyebrow. Why is it you again? Latam Ban cried out tragically. His screams echoed through the night. That bastard Diep Kin Van is robbing people again. Is there no justice? It's not easy for me to make a little money. You only know how to bully the weak. The young man saw Hai Nat Min on the ground, covered in blood. His face changed dramatically. His expression was as grim as water. Who injured you this badly? Tell me. I'll chop him to pieces. Hai Nat Min looked at the person before him. He remembered the earlier battle. His anger flared up. His voice was extremely weak. Lak Jiang. It's the Diep family's trash. Diep Kin Van. Hai Men raised an eyebrow. Why him again? Weren't his meridians severed? Hai Men asked, tell me, what exactly happened? Hai Men was Hai Min and Giet's older brother. He was also a peerless genius of the Hai family. This is what just happened. A hateful light flashed in Hai Nat Min's eyes. He recounted the entire story to Hai Men. However, in his version, Diep King Van became a despicable villain. He was a shameless villain with heinous crimes. Not only did he provoke him, but he also cursed the entire Hai family, from top to bottom, young and old alike. It had to be said, his level of shamelessness was truly sky high. The subordinate knelt in fear, trembling and admitting his fault. This servant deserves death. It was this servant who failed to protect the master and just stood by watching. Hai Men's expression changed instantly. How could this be? How could this be? The subordinate quickly chimed in. Yes, that Diep Kin Van is truly shameless. There's no evil he won't do. He deserves to die. As soon as he finished speaking, he was cut down by Hai Men's sword. Fresh blood sprayed like rain. Hai Men looked at his cousin and said angrily, Nat Min, don't worry. I will definitely avenge you. In front of the entire Diep family, I will humiliate their disciples and wash away this shame. Hai Nat Min shed tears of emotion. At the same time, he screamed inwardly. Just as dawn broke a few days later, at the Diep residence, I've finally broken through to the 5th level of the spirit movement realm. Diep Kin Van sat cross-legged in his room, a hint of joy on his face. The Thunder Cauldron seal technique is also complete. Next, I just need to continuously absorb and expend Thunder Force. The power of the Thunder Cauldron seal will grow stronger and stronger. I didn't expect to benefit from this. Diep Kin Van's eyes snapped open. A startlingly bright light flashed within them. At that moment, he remembered the name of the young man from before. Hai Men. I crippled your sister Hai Men Nguyen. A cold glint shot from Diep Kin Van's eyes. He snorted. Then I beat Hai Nat Min half to death. For someone like you who always seeks revenge, it's about time you showed up. No matter how strong you are, I'll be waiting. You dare bully my sister? You're tired of living. He hadn't forgotten a single detail of what Hai Men Nguyen had said about Diep Nu. If he had been reborn just a little later, that foolish sister of his might have really given her innocent body to that bastard Hai Men. He could fully imagine his sister's expression as she begged Hai Men. He could clearly picture how arrogant and domineering Hai Men was at that time. His attitude and every expression revealed his aggression. The entire Diep residence was bustling. Today was the Diep family's annual meeting. The main gate, usually closed, was wide open today to welcome guests. Therefore, since early morning, many carriages had appeared at the Diep family's entrance. Caravans were neatly arranged outside the gate. This caused many passers-by to stop and stare. Why are there so many wealthy merchants at the Diep residence today? How many groups have there been? An old man holding a wine gourd explained. There's something you don't know. Today is the Diep family's annual festival. All of their business partners are attending. A carriage sped towards them. The wheels screeched loudly against the ground. An old man seeing this scene changed his expression slightly. He stammered, this is young Master Hai of the Hai family. Hai Men stood arrogantly, looking down. He glanced coldly and said, Get out of the way, you trash. The people around looked at the young man. Their expressions shifted. Why is young Master Hai at the Diep residence? They've never had any dealings with the Diep family. Look who's behind him. Isn't that Wang Sung, the son of the Wang T escort agency's chief? Usually, Wang Sung is so arrogant. Why is he as timid as a rabbit today? Soon after, Wang Sung jumped down from his horse. He was tall and imposing, with a fierce look and a dark complexion. He then hurried over. At this moment, he was like a weak chicken. He knelt on one knee, silently waiting for the young man on the horse. Very quickly, a boot stepped directly onto Wang Sung's knee. He shamelessly used Wang Sung's knee as a step. Then he gracefully jumped down. While Wang Sung's face flushed red, he landed. He landed on the ground, his gaze fixed forward. Get up. Wang Sung bowed his head, looking like a servant. Yes, young Master Hai. Hai Men didn't even look at him, just replied coldly. You said before, as long as I defeat Diep Kin Van at the annual feast, you'll spare my wife, right? Hai Men glanced indifferently at Wang Sung behind him. He said flatly, Yes, I never go back on my word. Hai Men raised his head. He looked at the massive sign above the main gate. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. Behind him was another person dressed in black. The Diep family gatekeeper saw this and was puzzled. Wait, those two are. Wang Sung's voice held a hint of a threat. They are all people from our Wang Thi escort agency. Do you have something to say? No, please, come in. The feast has already started. The Diep residence was very large. The square in front could hold 1,000 people. Right now, the blue stone ground was packed with people. These relatives were all dressed in common clothes. Their status was clearly not high. They stood quietly, waiting for their masters. In the main hall, over 30 people were seated. Behind those relatives stood many young people. Each waiting person was a relative. Each of them radiated a strong spiritual energy. At the highest position in front, the Diep family head, Diep Pho Hai, sat on the throne, talking and laughing. A business partner of the Diep family laughed. Family head Diep, I wonder who will win the championship at this year's annual feast. Someone immediately laughed along. Is there even a need to ask? It will surely be the same as last time. His tone was very certain. It's Diep Thien. Diep Vo Hai shook his head, a mysterious smile on his face. This time it's not Diep Thien. The man was stunned. He looked at the Deep family head in confusion. What? Could there be someone else? Diep Vo Hai laughed loudly. Yes, I'm sure you all want to know who it is, right? It's another nephew of mine, Diep Kin Van. At that moment, Diep Kin Van walked out from inside. Everyone's eyes immediately focused on Diep Kin Van. Their gazes swept over him continuously. Hai Men sneered disdainfully. Someone was extremely puzzled. No matter how much he thought, he couldn't understand. Him? Weren't his meridians severed? That's right. How could he be the champion? Diep Vo Hai looked at the expressions of those around him. He couldn't help but laugh loudly. Everyone, don't be surprised. My nephew's meridians have recovered. His talent is even greater than before. Someone was stunned for a long time before reacting. He immediately clasped his hands towards Diep Vo Hai and said, Congratulations. The Deep family has produced another genius. That's right. That's right. It can be said that two dragons have emerged. The Deep family will only grow stronger from now on. Someone said with a smile. They had a close partnership with the Deep family. The stronger the Deep family became, the happier they were to see it. Two dragons emerging? How ridiculous. Only Deep Thien can be called a genius. A dissonant voice suddenly rang out from the crowd. The volume wasn't loud, but everyone present heard it clearly. Diep Kin Van was just lucky. I see his cultivation is only at the 5th level of the spirit movement realm. Diep Vo Hai frowned slightly. Diep Kin Van's expression also changed. His eyes instantly became sharp. So weak, Wang Sung said with a contemptuous tone, both mocking and provocative. He probably couldn't even withstand one of my moves. Diep Kin Van's cold gaze swept across the hall. It finally landed on a handsome young man. He said thoughtfully, one move. Wang Sung was so arrogant he looked down on everyone. His voice dripped with disdain. He completely dismissed Diep Kin Van. He simply didn't believe Diep Kin Van could defeat Diep Thien. That's right. If you don't believe me, let's fight. Wang Sung burst out laughing. He was extremely arrogant. You're just a piece of. But before he could finish, a figure shot forward. The figure's speed was like lightning. It was too fast for him to react. He could only endure the storm of attacks from his opponent. In the end, his face was pale, and he had lost a tooth. You all heard it. This guy challenged me. Diep Kin Van returned to his seat. He looked around and said flatly, he wanted me to test his bones. It has nothing to do with me. Hearing this, Wang Sung gritted his teeth. Anger flared in his head. You! Just then, a loud clap echoed. Hai Men slowly walked forward. He looked at Diep Kin Van with a teasing expression. Not bad. Not bad. Diep Kin Van, I didn't expect you to be so young yet so arrogant. You truly don't know your place. Diep Kin Van's cold eyes stared at the young man before him. He growled, Hai Men, our Diep family has never had any dealings with you. With your Hai family. Why are you here? Hai Men's gaze was initially fixed on Diep Kin Van. Then it shifted to the long-haired girl beside him. What do you mean, no dealings? Miss Nu often comes to the Hai family to find me. Diep Thuong, sitting on the side, heard this. His expression changed slightly. You, Nu Nhi, Hai Men licked his lips. Haven't we already discussed marriage? Diep Nu, standing beside him, looked as if she had seen a ghost. She weakly hid behind Diep Thuong, trembling. That's not true. Diep Thuong shouted, Hai Men, today is the Deep family's annual feast. Get out. But Hai Men completely ignored Diep Thuong, the second elder of the Diep family. His tone was even impatient. He was a genius. He was sure no one would dare to offend him. With so many people here today, he didn't expect this. Is this how the Deep family treats its guests? Bang Hoai rushed forward, wanting to teach Hai Men a lesson. I, Bang Hoai, am a crude man. I don't understand these rules. I only know one thing. My Deep family doesn't tolerate people running their mouths here. But just then, a fierce wind suddenly rose at the Deep family's entrance. A figure unexpectedly shot out. The man in black suddenly appeared in front of Bang Hoai. A calloused hand emerged from his sleeve. A power like a surging ocean crashed towards Bang Hoai. The man in black sneered contemptuously. So what? The old man took the punch. Bang Hoai's face immediately turned pale. Such immense power. Bang Hoai was pushed back several steps. He couldn't block this single move from his opponent. A pair of hands supported his back. Young Ma, yet today, someone dared to injure Uncle Bang right in front of him. Diep Vo Hai pointed at the opponent, his face purple with rage. Hai Dai Du, what do you mean by hitting our butler? Today was the Diep family's annual meeting. The Diep family had invited business partners to attend. No one expected things to turn out this way. Hai Dai Du directly attacked and injured Bang Hoai. This action was like slapping the Diep family in the face in front of everyone. It was truly an act of extreme arrogance. The middle-aged man who attacked Bang Hoai looked 80% similar to Hai Men. He was Hai Men's father, named Hai Dai Du. The old man pulled down his hood. What do I mean? Your nephew crippled Min and Yet and also injured Hai not Min. Hai Dae-du was menacing, his face full of anger. I should be the one asking him what he means. What do I mean? Those two mess with me. They weren't skilled enough but loved to show off. What more do you want if I didn't kill them? The son gets beaten, and the father comes to curse. Are all Hai family members so shameless? Every word Diep Kin Van said hit a nerve. They were like sharp thorns stabbing into Hai Dae-du's heart. Hai Dae-du was provoked by Diep Kin Van's words. Intense anger immediately appeared on his face. He roared, "You bastard! You! I'm your elder. How dare you speak to me like that?" Diep Kin Van looked thoughtful. He completely ignored the middle-aged man's towering rage. "Elder? I don't have a shameless elder like you." He feared neither heaven nor earth. What was a minor family head to him? Hai Dae-du was so angry he could barely speak. "You, what did you say?" Hai Men stepped forward. A powerful aura erupted from him. "So, this is the martial arts champion the Deep family has chosen. A piece of trash at the 5th level of the spirit movement realm. No strength, just a big mouth." After defeating Not Min, he even dared to call our Hai family trash. A sharp light flashed in Hai Dae-du's eyes. "What? He said that?" Hai Men immediately added fuel to the fire. "Yes, I think the Deep family wants to declare war on us." Hearing this, Deep Kin Van laughed mockingly. "Making things up? You trash. Did I really curse you like that?" Hai Dae-du pointed aggressively at Deep Kin Van. "You're still laughing? Let's see how long you can laugh. You have the guts to do it but not to admit it?" Just then, second uncle Diep Vo Thin spoke up. "Diep Kin Van, you've really done it now. Are you trying to bring enemies to our family? Do you want the entire Diep family to pay for your foolishness? Get out." Diep Kin Van wasn't afraid of Diep Vo Thien at all. He directly cut the old man off. "Shut your mouth." Then he looked at Hai Men, his expression thoughtful. "He's not wrong. I said your Hai family is a bunch of trash. So what? You don't like it?" Diep Kin Van pointed at Hai Dae-du. "For example, this uncle here. He's so old yet wears a black robe to look mysterious. He looks like a pufferfish." Diep Kin Van then pointed at Hai Men and sneered. "And you, young master Hai, your hair is so long it reaches the ground. You look like a pile of seaweed." Diep Kin Van pointed at each troublemaker one by one and cursed them. He then pointed to Vuong Sung. Hearing this, he quickly covered his swollen cheek and said fearfully, "Don't point at me. I'm not from the Hai family. Who am I? I'm Vuong Sung of the Vuong Thi Escort Agency." Hai Men couldn't stand the humiliation. He immediately drew his sword and pointed it at Kin Van. "Diep Kin Van, you dare insult us in front of everyone? Today, I will fight you." Seeing Kin Van remain silent, Hai Men smirked triumphantly. He thought to himself, he fell for it. Trouble comes from the mouth. Diep Kin Van. Contrary to Hai Men's expectations, Diep Kin Van calmly raised his hand and asked, "Why should I fight you?" Hai Men was so angry he exclaimed, "You." Hai Dae-du was so furious that veins popped on his forehead. He roared, "Shameless. Diep Kin Van, if you don't dare, just say so. You have to take responsibility for your words." The old man pointed at the Diep family members and continued to shout, "Diep Vo Hai, Diep Hin Van is your family's descendant. Today, he insulted my entire family. I will repay this 1,000 times over in the future." Diep Vo Thien immediately took the opportunity to chime in. "Father, Diep Kin Van is bringing disaster upon our family. If we don't kick him out today, how can we live in peace later?" Seeing the group pointing their swords at him, he just crossed his arms and snorted. Diep Vo Thien was speechless with anger. "You." Hai Dae-du was also provoked by him. Kin Van then stood before everyone and said clearly, "I'm only speaking the truth. He's at the 3rd level of the explosion realm, fighting someone at the 5th level of the spirit movement realm. I don't care if he has any shame, but do you all think I'm a fool?" The people below heard him and started whispering. "That's right. With such a large gap in cultivation, fighting is suicide. Could it be that the Hai family came here today just to find fault?" Hai Dae-du's face also changed slightly. At this moment, Kin Van spoke again, surprising even Hai Men. "Fine, I can give you this chance." He pointed straight at Hai Men and continued, "If you want to fight me that badly, then we'll have a match at the martial arts tournament in half a year. We'll decide the winner then." Hai Dae-du heard this and pointed excitedly at Kin Van. "Don't dream of it. You're just stalling for time." Hai Men heard his father and stepped forward to stop him. "Father, don't be angry. What if I agree with him? Could he possibly catch up to me in half a year? That's ridiculous." Seeing that he had agreed, Kin Van frowned and said, "If that's the case, what are you still doing here? Today is the Deep family's annual meeting. Is the Hai family that poor? Did you come here to freeload?" Hai Dae-du immediately flared up and shouted, "You bastard, what did you say? I'll kill." Before he could finish, Hai Men interrupted him. "Father, calm down. Let's go home." He immediately pulled his father and turned to leave the Deep residence. As they walked, Hai Men whispered to his father, "Father, don't worry. He only has half a year left to live. There's no need to argue with a man on his deathbed. Hai Dai-du heard his son, but he still couldn't swallow his anger. But he's so infuriating. I'm so mad. Hyman then turned his head and looked straight at Keen Van. Deep Keen Van, listen to me carefully. Take care of yourself for the next 6 months. Don't die early, because in 6 months, your head will hang at the gate of our Hai family. With that, he led his father away. Diep Vo Thien, on the side, thought smugly, how ridiculous. How can he live for half a year? At the autumn hunt in 3 months, I will take his life. Kin Van, on the other side, raised his hand high, intentionally provoking the Hai father and son. Goodbye, don't see you out. Dai-du saw this and wanted to rush at him, but was stopped by Hai men. He could only shout, you bastard, I'm so mad. Can't you have some decency? If you didn't have the Deep family protecting you, I would have killed you long ago. The scene changes. After the Deep family's feast ended, Kin Van was at the gate seeing the guests off. Someone praised him generously. I didn't expect that not only has young Master Deep's talent grown stronger, but his courage is also extraordinary. The future of the Diep family now depends on you, young Master Diep. Hearing this, he clasped his hands in response. You flatter me. After seeing off all the guests, Kin Van held the emotionless sword. He stared at it, thinking, the annual feast is over. I must advance to the explosion realm within half a year. With the techniques from my past life and the emotionless sword Dao, it shouldn't be difficult. As he was thinking, his room door was pushed open. It was Deep Nu. She entered and called out happily, brother. Kin Van saw his sister and turned to her. Nu Ni brought in a tray of hot food. She said, brother, don't work too hard. Have some soup. Kin Van nodded. Just then, a sudden headache hit Diep Nu, causing her to cry out. Kin Van saw his sister's pale face and called out, Nu Ni, give me your hand. Kin Van gestured to her. Hearing her brother, she obediently placed her hand in his. As soon as Kin Van took Deep Nu's pulse, he felt a powerful aura rush toward him, like a phoenix. Kin Van was extremely surprised. His eyes widened as he thought, black killing phoenix. Seeing the expression on her brother's face, she quickly asked, brother, what's wrong? Is there something wrong with my body? I don't know why, but these past few days, I've been feeling that something's not right with me. Seeing Diep Nu so worried, Kin Van patted her head and comforted her. Silly girl, with your brother here, how could anything happen to you? It's just that you're 12 years old now. Your body is activating your martial soul. Soon, you'll be able to awaken it. Hearing this, Diep Nu smiled happily, her eyes crinkling. Does that mean I can protect you in the future, brother? Hearing his sister's words, Kin Van nodded. Yes. From now on, your brother will depend on you. Nu Ni, come here. Let me see your eyes. Diep Nu obeyed and replied sweetly, yes, brother. Kin Van looked into Diep Nu's eyes. He immediately saw seal marks forming a circle in her eyes. He thought to himself, there are 9 phoenix seals. After observing, Kin Van told Diep Nu, Nu Ni, your martial soul will definitely be extremely powerful. Hearing this, she was very surprised and let out a small gasp. After saying that, Kin Van suddenly frowned. He was worried. It's just that a person with 9 phoenix seals must be a rare phoenix clan member. At a young age, it's extremely difficult to suppress the phoenix's killing intent in the body. Every day, you have to use a phoenix stone to suppress it. Otherwise, the meridians will break and you'll become a cripple. As he was thinking, the headache returned, causing Deep Nu to clutch her head and cry out in pain. Brother, my head hurts so much. Kin Van quickly called out, Nu Ni. Soon after, unable to bear it any longer, Deep Nu collapsed into Kin Van's arms and fainted. He called out worriedly, Nu Ni. The scene changes. It was now dark. Diep Nu was lying in bed, awake. Kin Van said, Nu Ni, you rest for a while. I'll find a way to help you. Deep Nu lay in bed and obediently replied, okay, brother, actually, you don't need to worry too much. I know my own health. I'll be fine after a little rest. Deep Kin Van heard her and smiled. Nu Ni will be fine. Get some rest now. After leaving, Kin Van closed the door. His expression immediately became serious. Only the Phoenix clan has Phoenix stones. There's no way to get one. For now, I can only find Phoenix grass to temporarily suppress the Phoenix killing aura in Nu Ni's body. The scene changes. It was now morning. Outside the town, Kin Van walked and thought. Rare things like phoenix grass usually appear in marketplaces, mostly in the black market. He passed a stall, stopped, and picked up a mask. He asked the owner, how much is this mask? The owner replied, 250 coins. Kin Van placed a silver ingot on the table and said, keep the change. After putting on the mask, Kin Van walked down the street thinking, the black market is a chaotic place with people coming and going. Everyone wears a mask. They don't want others to know their faces. The people here are all ruthless. Just then, a masked person ran past Kin Van in a hurry. This person looked back in panic, repeating, the madman is here. He has violent tendencies. Last time, he almost beat someone to death. In front of them was a tall man, also wearing a mask, setting up his stall. The people around started to look. They whispered. But this time he has a lot of good stuff. Dragon saliva grass, sky spirit, ginseng, and even phoenix grass. Immediately, a man with interest walked up to the stall and said to the owner, "There's even the rare face grass." The stall owner heard him and asked, "What? You want it?" The masked man asked, "How much?" The stall owner became angry. "Are you new here? Don't you know the rules? Bet something valuable from your body. We'll fight." The stall owner picked up the face grass and continued, "If you win, this face grass is naturally yours." The man immediately took out a stone and said, "All right, I'll use this to bet against you." A passerby saw the stone in the man's hand and said, "That's a Schwanhack mineral stone. Don't only the disciples of the Deep family's core have this." Immediately, the two placed their bet items on the table. The stall owner said, "All right, I accept the Schwanhack mineral stone. Let's fight." Kin Van, standing outside, saw this and frowned, thinking, Schwanhack mineral stone. It's only found in the Deep family's main mine. Grandfather gave me 10 pieces not long ago. Observing the masked man, Kin Van thought, it seems this person's identity is a core disciple of the Deep family. Before it even started, Kin Van frowned and said, "But," the masked man was choked by the stall owner after only a few moves, coughing up blood. The man struggled to say, I surrender." But the stall owner didn't stop. He pinned the man under his foot. Kin Van saw this and thought, although his strength isn't low, he's no match for this madman. The man on the ground saw the stall owner wouldn't stop and shouted, I surrender. Why don't you stop? I'm a core disciple of the Diep family." Before the man could finish, the stall owner angrily kicked him in the stomach several times and shouted, Deep family, how ridiculous. It's just brute strength." Hearing someone say that about him, the stall owner immediately turned around with a fierce glare and asked, "What did you say?" Hearing this, Kin Van just chuckled and sneered. "I said you're a stupid fool. All brawn and no brains." The large man was momentarily stunned. He didn't expect Deep Kin Van to be so calm. Then he couldn't help but laugh menacingly. "Looking for death? Do you know who I am?" Deep Kin Van wasn't intimidated by the large man. He looked straight at him and said, "Then, do you know who I am?" The young man heard this and felt very grateful. At the same time, he felt a bit puzzled. His voice is so familiar. The large man froze again. He began to hesitate. He's so calm, and his tone is so bold. He must have a powerful background. In that moment, his voice clearly weakened. He knew there were some people here he absolutely couldn't afford to offend. Who are you?" Deep Kin Van chuckled softly. His voice was full of mockery. "I'm your grandson." He had always been extremely protective. Now, someone dared to bully his family right in front of him. It was like asking for death. Under the mask, the large man's expression changed constantly. His face became ferocious. He roared in anger, "You're looking for death. You want to die? I want to know who you really are." Immediately, he attacked without hesitation. His body shot forward at extreme speed. He lifted his right leg and kicked hard. He kicked straight at Diep Kin Van, using the mountain-shaking kick. Diep Kin Van snorted coldly. He just lightly leaped up. His movements were like a ghost. He quickly dodged the opponent's kick. Diep Kin Van looked at the large man arrogantly. "You want to take off my mask? Do you think you're worthy?" Seeing this, the large man's pupils constricted violently. "Bastard, no matter who you are, I will kill you today. You're only at the 5th level of the spirit movement realm and you're this arrogant? Die." His cultivation had reached the 9th level of the spirit movement realm. Meanwhile, the person in front of him was only at the 5th level. Yet, he couldn't kill him in one move. Diep Kin Van shook his head. A broken sword appeared in his hand. The large man completely lost his reason. His anger exploded in an instant. He growled lowly, "You think that thing can do anything to me?" Diep Kin Van swung his sword. The blade landed precisely on the large man. Seeing fresh blood spurt from his arm, the large man was too shocked to speak. How is this possible?" Holding the emotionless sword, his aura instantly soared. His body flashed. The bright sword light flickered, striking fear into people's hearts. Diep Kin Van said in a cold, low voice, "Emotionless sword Dao." A middle-aged man in black armor strode forward. He shouted angrily, "Stop." The newcomer was one of the 4 deputy commanders, Hak Ba Thien. The madman saw the person and exclaimed in surprise. Diep Kin Van completely ignored the newcomer. He continued to slash at the madman. The large man screamed in pain. The bloody scene directly entered the commander's eyes. In an instant, his pupils dilated several times. A fierce killing aura erupted from him. His hands clenched so tightly they made cracking sounds. At this moment, the anger in Hak Ba Thien's heart raged fiercely, especially when he saw his brother being cut down. His eyes looked like they would spit fire. He roared in anger, "You audacious fool! Men, this person has disregarded the rules of the black market. Punish him with 10,000 lashes and throw him out to the dogs. The guards behind Hakba drew their swords. They all charged at Diep Kin Van. How ridiculous. When he was about to kill someone, you were nowhere to be seen. When he was about to be killed, you showed up. He easily blocked them. Diep Kin Van's face showed no fear. He was calm in the face of danger. He said nonchalantly, "So these are your rules?" Hakba roared in anger, his voice like thunder. "You killed my brother. Don't even think about leaving today." Diep Kin Van sneered. He replied arrogantly, "So you're brothers. No wonder you're both so arrogant. You're still talking big even when you're about to die." Hakba eyes immediately turned bloodshot. His facial muscles tensed. The hateful words were forced from between his teeth. "How bold! You dare to disrespect the Dark Shadow Hall." As soon as those words were spoken, the faces of the surrounding people changed. So the legend is true. The black market belongs to the Dark Shadow Hall. No wonder the three major families of Maknat Town don't dare to confront the black market. This guy is doomed. That madman was Hakba younger brother. That means he has offended the Dark Shadow Hall. Diep Kin Van held the broken sword. His long hair flew in the wind. A surge of thunder and ice erupted. It sent all the surrounding enemies flying. Cold light flashed. The people surrounding him were all cut down by his sword. Witnessing this, Hakba face turned from green to white. Since becoming the deputy commander of the black market, he had never been so humiliated. A bunch of trash. Diep Kin Van said contemptuously, "If you want to kill me, just do it. Stop pretending to be righteous. Stop talking nonsense." Seeing this, Hakba couldn't help but burst out laughing. "A broken sword? I'll kill you in just one move." The vicious words erupted from Hakba mouth. He held a long spear, exuding a powerful aura. The opponent actually wanted to use a broken sword to fight him. Seeing this, Diep Kin Van made a blunt assessment. All flash, no substance. The crowd immediately understood Hakba intention. Diep Kin Van had killed his brother right in front of him. This made Hakba feel like he had lost all face, so he wanted a quick victory. A quick victory to kill the chicken, to scare the monkeys. And at the same time, re-establish his authority in the black market. But they never expected Diep Kin Van to be so reckless. He dared to fight head-on. Wasn't he just looking for death? That's right. His opponent is Hakba. But in the next moment, Hakba face changed dramatically. His move was directly broken by the opponent's single sword strike. What was even more unbelievable was that the opponent's sword speed was as fast as lightning. It pressed in on him. The martial artist on the side exclaimed in amazement. So fast, Hakba hadn't even attacked yet. His weapon was already broken. "Who is this young man?" The masked man in black was surprised. "A young man?" Hakba gritted his teeth in anger. "That's a good broken sword you have. But from now on, it will belong to me, Hakba." Suddenly, Diep Kin Van glanced at the money bag on the table not far away. But it was gone. At this time, the mysterious masked man stared at Diep Kin Van and said, "This guy looks so familiar. I feel like I've seen him somewhere before. I just can't remember." Suddenly, Diep Kin Van turned his head and looked at him. The masked man was so scared that cold sweat broke out. He thought to himself, "It's him." The masked man immediately turned and ran. Diep Kin Van shouted from behind, "Stop! Don't run." The masked man cursed in his head, "Damn it, I'm so stupid. I just stole something and got involved in all this mess." Hakba blocked Diep Kin Van's way. His tone was extremely aggressive. "Brat, where are you running? Do you think I, Hakba, don't exist? I'll remember today's matter. We'll fight another day. I'll take your life then." Hakba roared in anger. "Do you think you can run?" His voice echoed throughout the entire black market. Hearing Hakba voice, the man in black turned his head in surprise. "Oh, how interesting. It seems people want to kill him everywhere. I want to see how he dies." Hakba stretched out his hand. A powerful sword aura radiated, shooting up into the sky. A phantom sword image appeared as if breaking through water. The surrounding crowd immediately started discussing. "Look, that's Hakba martial soul, the Hack Heart Sword. It seems Commander Hack is really angry. He has summoned his martial soul. He wants to kill him in one blow." Hakba stood there with his sword. A domineering aura radiated from him. He looked like a master swordsman. "With just one sword, I will take your life. I'll let you taste my superb swordsmanship." A thoughtful, interested smile appeared on Diep Kin Van's lips. An expert at the explosion realm, his cultivation is clearly higher than mine, but he's not using spiritual energy. He clearly wants to compete in swordsmanship with me. In my past life, my emotionless sword could sever dozens of heads. My understanding of the sword Tao was higher than anyone else's. Holding the long sword, his body flashed. In the next moment, the sword in Hakba hand lit up. It transformed into countless sword images. Each sword image contained a sky-shattering sword intent. It was accompanied by the sound of rumbling thunder. The aura was incredibly terrifying. Diep Kin Van held the broken sword. He swung it twice in the air. The sword light flashed, shaking people's hearts. Diep Kin Van sent Hak Ba Thien flying back with a single sword strike. His face changed dramatically. How is this possible? A cold chill ran up his spine. Cold sweat broke out on his back. He couldn't help but erupt with powerful spiritual energy. He used it to block the opponent's sword strike. At the same time, he retreated several steps, leaving clear footprints on the ground. Diep Kin Van suddenly turned and ran. I'm leaving first. I'll come back for your life another day. Diep Kin Van executed the shadowless breeze step. His figure flashed and disappeared on the spot. As soon as he left, Diep Kin Van ran into the man in black from earlier. Hey, why are you here? The man in black saw Diep Kin Van suddenly appear beside him and was terrified. He stammered, Before he could answer, Diep Kin Van snatched the money bag from his hand and left. The man in black could only lean against the wall and cry. From now on, I won't watch any more commotion. Hak Ba Thien gritted his teeth in anger. Chase him. Chase him for me. If I don't get revenge, I'm not a man. Whoever gets his head will be rewarded with 100,000 low-grade spirit stones. He was furious, completely unable to suppress the fire of rage in his body. Diep Kin Van not only killed his brother but also insulted him in front of everyone. The surrounding guards felt the anger radiating from him. They quickly nodded. Their figures flashed one by one and disappeared into the black market. The man in black heard this and couldn't help but exclaim, 100,000, there's even a bounty. A moment later, Diep Kin Van's figure appeared at the Diep family's pharmacy hall. Nu Ni's condition is critical. I must go to the pharmacy hall to concoct the Phoenix 9 Transformations pill. Diep Kin Van continued to think as he walked. Its effect is much higher than just using phoenix grass. The other medicinal herbs should be in the pharmacy hall. I'm just not sure about the heavenly immortal grass. Diep Kin Van pushed open the door. A servant quickly ran over and whispered, Young master, please be quiet. Alchemist Luong is refining a first-grade pill. Diep Kin Van saw an old man. The scolding coming from his mouth caught his attention. So this is the first-grade alchemist that the entire Diep family worships. The old man pointed angrily at a servant and hissed, More fire, more fire. Can't you hear me? You can't even do this? A bunch of trash. The old man shouted from the side while glancing outside. Luong Tru's anger flared. He immediately scolded loudly. The brat standing at the door, what are you doing? Why are you paying attention to him? If you get distracted again, I'll gouge out your eyes. The scolded servant immediately turned pale with fear. He stammered, Yes, yes, this lowly one deserves death. Diep Kin Van witnessed this scene and silently thought, biting the hand that feeds you. Diep Kin Van just shrugged. He didn't bother with the old man. After scanning the surroundings, his gaze landed on the herbs on the table. He recognized the heavenly immortal grass. Just as Diep Kin Van reached out to take it, Luong Tru grabbed his hand to stop him. His dissatisfied voice rang out. Wait, who gave you permission to take the heavenly immortal grass? Diep Kin Van was slightly stunned. He looked at the old man and replied bluntly, So what? I am the young master of the Diep family. Do I need your permission to take a few blades of grass? Scram! Luong Tru was immediately stunned. He clearly didn't expect Diep Kin Van to be so arrogant. This was also the first time anyone had dared to be so disrespectful to him. He flew into a rage. How audacious! Without my permission, no one can take the heavenly immortal grass. As soon as he finished speaking, a flame suddenly erupted from Luong Tru's hand. It shot straight at the heavenly immortal grass. The heavenly immortal grass was half burned by the flame. Looking at the remaining half, a light immediately flashed in Diep Kin Van's eyes. A cold light. He glanced at Luong Tru, his face extremely grim. You destroyed my heavenly immortal grass. His chilling words echoed throughout the Diep family's pharmacy hall. Anyone could hear that the young master was truly angry. Luong Tru said nonchalantly, I just discovered that this grass was already damaged. If used, it could create toxins in the body. Mild cases would result in poisoning, severe cases in death. You insisted on taking it, so I could only destroy it. Luong Tru spoke as if it were the truth, rambling on. He glanced contemptuously at Diep Kin Van, sneering inwardly. You're not an alchemist. How would you understand? I won't blame you for your insolence anymore. Thinking that he could fool this young master of the Diep family with just a few made-up sentences, he felt immense pleasure. What he said might fool a 3-year-old child, but how could it deceive Diep Kin Van? What subpar heavenly immortal grass? It can produce toxins? Diep Kin Van couldn't help but curse directly. Insolence, my ass. Heavenly immortal grass is a crucial ingredient for pills. There's only a certain amount each year. There's no such thing as subpar. Diep Kin Van stared at Luong Tru with a look of utter contempt. His voice grew louder. And there are no toxins whatsoever. Luong Tru, no wonder you're so old, yet your alchemy skills are still so trash. Hearing this, Luong Tru couldn't help but stumble back a few steps. His mind almost froze for a moment. What? Every word Diep Kin Van said was like a sharp needle piercing his heart. Luong Tru was stunned, then bewildered. He couldn't understand. How is this possible? He's not an alchemist. How does he know? But when he thought about losing face in front of so many people, his expression changed. He shouted coldly, "Nonsense! I am a first-grade alchemist. How could I not know the function of heavenly immortal grass?" Hearing that title, Deepkin Van just laughed mockingly. Is a first-grade alchemist the most noble? Luong Tru immediately burst out laughing. A first-grade alchemist isn't that noble. But didn't your deep family invite me here to make pills? A big family like this only has one alchemist. It's ridiculous just thinking about it. Luong Tru looked at the medicinal herbs in Deepkin Van's hand. His eyes darted around, and he snorted coldly. His tone was arrogant. Besides, you took these medicinal herbs. In the end, don't you still need me to refine them? You can't possibly go find an alchemist from another family, right? That would be too embarrassing for the Diep family. Actually, if you want me to refine pills for you, that's fine. Kneel down for me. Admit your mistake, bow, and apologize. I won't hold your previous insolence against you. Just thinking about the dignified young master of the Deep family kneeling before him made the old man ecstatic. If the Deep family head and the great elder also knelt before him, it would be even more satisfying. He rambled on and on. Before he could finish, Deepkin Van swung a fist and smashed it into the back of his head. Apologize to your head, you show-off. Luong Tru was an alchemist. He usually focused only on alchemy. He rarely cared about cultivation. This also made his body weaker than an ordinary person's. Moreover, he never expected Deepkin Van to dare to hit him. You have to know, in the entire Deep family right now, he was the only alchemist. Luong Tru felt a burning pain on his face. He let out a strange howl. Then he pointed at Deepkin Van. You bastard. You dare hit me. Do you know I'm a first-grade alchemist? Alchemists are noble. Even your Deep family head has to be respectful to me. Deepkin Van really didn't expect Luong Tru to be this shameless. He was beaten like this and was still proud of his first-grade alchemist title. He didn't want to look at that face anymore. He waved his hand and called the surrounding Diep family disciples. You guys, come here. A Deep family disciple pointed to his own face and asked in surprise, Us? Beat him up. A Deep family disciple said weakly. This doesn't seem right. The Deep family servant who had been scolded by Luong Tru earlier could no longer hold back his emotions. He said fiercely, What's not right? Think about how this old man usually treats us. He deserves a beating. Aren't you angry? Yes, we've had enough for a long time. Just thinking about it makes me furious. That's right. This is the young master's order. Beat him. Many Deep family disciples finally acted after a moment of hesitation. Luong Tru was ganged up on by the crowd. He could only scream continuously. Luong Tru shrieked in anger. Bastards. You bunch of fools. Have you all rebelled? I am the only alchemist in the Deep family. Without me, who can refine pills for the Deep family? Hearing him say that, the servants and disciples of the Deep family immediately stopped. Seeing this, the old man couldn't help but roar arrogantly. If the family head blames him, the young master will be fine, of course. But what about you servants? Will you still be able to live comfortably? Every one of you is resentful and wants to hit me. Let's see if you still want to hit me now. The servants and disciples of the Deep family all showed a submissive and fearful look. They bowed their heads and said, Old Luong, this lowly one was wrong. Please forgive this lowly one. From now on, this lowly one will obey you and won't dare to resist anymore. Good. Then half of your salary will be given to me. Any objections? The servants and disciples of the Diep family all replied. Kneeling at Luong Tru's feet, they nodded obediently. How could we have any objections? Luong Tru saw that he had the upper hand. So, he continued arrogantly, Now you know who feeds you, right? The servants and disciples of the Deep family replied in unison, meekly. It is old Luong who feeds us. An alchemist like you, my Deep family doesn't need. Deepkin Van snorted coldly. He completely ignored Luong Tru and started refining the pill. Today, he wanted to refine the Phoenix 9 Transformations pill. Although Luong Tru was beaten badly, when he saw Deepkin Van about to refine a pill, he couldn't help but sneer. Kid, you want to refine a pill yourself? Not everyone can do that. You think it's like lighting a fire to cook rice? Then open your dog eyes and watch. Deepkin Van glanced at Luong Tru, then shifted his gaze to the pill furnace and began the refining process. Alchemy was a very complicated process, but in Deepkin Van's hands, everything became much simpler. As Deepkin Van refined the pill, he thought, Alchemy is not like Qidao or artistic conception which needs a long time to recover. As long as there is enough fire, I can refine a 7th grade pill just like in my previous life. Not to mention the Phoenix 9 Transformations pill, which is just a low-grade pill. Not far away, although Luong Tru had just been beaten, his eyes were still fixed on Deepkin Van, his heart full of joy. With a mocking expression, he constantly pointed and sneered. Everything is wrong. Deepkin Van's alchemy technique was as smooth as flowing water. There was no hesitation. Although beaten, Luong Tru's expression remained arrogant. He even burst out laughing. But then, Lu Wangchu's eyes filled with astonishment. A reddish-brown pill was floating above the pill furnace. The people around were also dumbfounded. A third-grade pill sat neatly on a white porcelain plate. Soon after, a fragrant aroma spread throughout the entire Diep family pharmacy hall. The people around looked at each other, their eyes wide. They were stunned for a long time before they could react. It's great. The young master succeeded in refining the pill. It's unbelievable. Lu Wangchu's body trembled. The scene before him made him completely forget the pain. He was horrified to find that the opponent's alchemy skills far surpassed his own. No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't understand. The young master of the Diep family is a hidden alchemist master. Impossible. Impossible. I'm 50 years old and only a first-grade alchemist. A third-grade alchemist? How can that be? How can he be a third-grade alchemist? And just like that, Lu Wangchu directly fainted. Not from being beaten, but from being scared. Comparing oneself to others is truly infuriating. As night fell, Diep Kinvan went to his room. As he pushed open the wooden door, he found his sister lying on the bed. Diep Nu's soft body trembled slightly. Her beautiful face was flushed with a pinkish hue, but that pink was clearly abnormal. Diep Kinvan called out gently, "Nu Ni." Seeing her brother, Diep Nu weakly called out. Her current state was extremely bad. Her appearance was pitiable. Diep Kinvan's expression changed slightly. It seems the phoenix's killing aura in my sister's body is starting to act up. Don't say anything. Eat this pill. Diep Kinvan quickly handed the pill to Diep Nu. Diep Nu obediently put it in her mouth. After swallowing the pill, Diep Nu struggled to breathe. A phoenix seal appeared on her forehead. The seal of a heaven-tier phoenix must be. These words suddenly appeared in Diep Kinvan's mind. His face showed his shock. A phoenix cry rang out. A giant flaming phoenix quickly condensed in front of Diep Nu. The flame was not red, but black. Seeing this, Diep Kinvan couldn't help but think, black killing phoenix. The phoenix hovered above Diep Nu's head. Black light flickered. It actually radiated a vast amount of energy. Diep Kinvan's expression changed dramatically. This is bad. Nu Ni hasn't started cultivating yet. If she passively absorbs this energy, if she can't take it, her meridians will shatter. At that time, Diep Nu gritted her teeth in discomfort. The phoenix energy poured in more and more. Diep Kinvan grabbed Diep Nu's shoulders with both hands. He called out urgently, "Nu Ni." Diep Kinvan wanted to stop the black-killing phoenix, but this phoenix was as stubborn as an ox. It refused to leave. Diep Kinvan's eyes darted. He immediately came up with a plan. He sat down cross-legged and absorbed the black phoenix energy. Streams of energy like a surging ocean rushed towards his body. Diep Kinvan felt like he was trapped in a giant energy bubble. The violent energy was like a blade constantly cutting his body. His handsome face immediately contorted in pain. If it were my past life, I could have crushed you with a single finger. Even now, a small amount of energy like you can't threaten me. He was still worried his sister couldn't withstand the violent energy, so he absorbed 90% of it himself. The scorching heat continuously seeped out of his skin. The blood in his body surged violently like a raging sea, and in his bones, it felt like tens of thousands of ants were crawling. The ants were frantically gnawing without stopping. The pain was something an ordinary person could never endure. Diep Kinvan roared. He forced back the violent energy. "Get out of me!" Diep Kinvan took a deep breath. When he felt the last trace of pain in his body completely disappear, a hint of joy appeared on his face. Diep Kinvan supported Diep Nu and asked gently, "Nu Ni, how are you feeling?" Diep Nu woke up groggily. "I feel." Diep Nu realized something. She let out a gasp of surprise. Her face lit up with pure excitement. She clenched her small fist and pumped it. The third level of the spirit cavern realm. Her cultivation had soared. Seeing Diep Nu's excited look, Diep Kinvan couldn't help but laugh. "That's right. You're a warrior now." Seeing Diep Nu was safe, Diep Kinvan was overjoyed. He had also benefited. He had absorbed that killing aura. He had reached the 7th level of the spirit cavern realm. Diep Nu rushed over. She kissed her brother on the cheek. "This is amazing." She was absolutely ecstatic. Diep Kinvan was a little stunned. Just then, Bang Hoai opened the door. "Young master." Seeing the scene, Bang Hoai's expression turned a bit strange, but it wasn't really a problem. After all, Diep Nu wasn't his biological sister. Bang Hoai looked away and spoke. "Tomorrow, the Xuan Hack ore will be mined. Diep Thien used to manage it, but this time, it's been given to you." Diep Kinvan's eyes flashed. Xuan Hack ore was the Diep family's greatest asset. It was a vital material for forging weapons. Bang Hoai nodded eagerly. "Exactly. And the manager gets a 10% cut of the ore. The Diep family is counting on you. With you in charge, young master, you can finally make a name for yourself." Diep Kinvan thought to himself, the Xuan Hack ore could restore the Heartless Sword. He nodded slightly. "When do we start?" Bang Hoai answered immediately. "Early tomorrow morning." Diep Kinvan smiled at him. "All right, I'll see you then, Uncle Bang." The next day, at the Diep family mine, hundreds of powerful miners hauled heavy black stones. They were drenched in sweat. Complete your tasks today, and everyone will receive 1,000 low-grade spirit stones. Their eyes lit up. 1,000 stones. Work faster. Bang Hoai stood beside Diep King Van. His face was grim. His voice was filled with anxiety. Young master, this is a huge opportunity, but Diep Thien has been far too quiet. I have a bad feeling about the upcoming autumn hunt. Diep Kin Van answered calmly. Don't worry, Uncle Bang. Whatever he throws at me, I'll be ready. He knew that Diep Thien and his father wouldn't give up, but he wasn't afraid. The path of the warrior demands a fearless heart. If you fear your enemies, you'll never achieve anything. Your future accomplishments will be limited. But Bang Hoai couldn't hide his concern. He didn't want a repeat of what happened 3 years ago. But Diep Thien is a vengeful man. You crippled both of his sons. He will never let this go. I doubt they can wait much longer. You must be careful during the autumn hunt, young master. Diep Kin Van nodded indifferently. He didn't seem concerned. Understood. In that instant, a small dagger appeared. It blazed with killing intent. It tore through the air, making it tremble. The blade grazed Diep Kin Van's cheek. A split second slower and he would have been decapitated. Seeing this, Bang Hoai's gaze sharpened. Who dares to attack? To attack the young master in broad daylight, right in front of him. This person had a death wish. A figure flashed through the mine. In the blink of an eye, it was gone. Bang Hoai snorted and gave chase. He had to catch the assassin. This is Diep family territory. You can't just come and go as you please. Diep Kin Van watched the figure disappear. He thought to himself, that's strange. That person had no aura. He felt a dark, cold energy coming from his opponent. Diep Kin Van froze for a moment. On the mountainside, a figure slowly emerged. He stood tall, like a sharpened blade. A powerful aura radiated from his body. His cold, sharp eyes were fixed on Diep Kin Van. Huyet Kong II of the Huyet Sat Tong scanned the area. His eyes gleamed with cold light. I never expected your meridians to heal. You were lucky, but your luck runs out today. Diep Kin Van thought the figure looked familiar, but when he heard the voice, his pupils constricted. He stared intently. After a long moment, he roared in fury. It's you! Huyet Kong II tilted his head, avoiding his gaze. You must have me mistaken for someone else. Diep Kin Van's pupils shrank fiercely. It's you. I recognize you even if you return to dust. The man before him was the one who had destroyed his meridians. He was the cause of all his suffering. If Uncle Bang hadn't arrived just in time, he would have died in the Matniet forest years ago. After 3 years, he never expected to face him again, and this time, his enemy was clearly prepared. Huyet Kong II spoke with arrogance. 3 years ago, I only crippled your meridians. I never intended to kill you, but you didn't learn your lesson. So today, I'll take your life. I also heard you have a pretty little sister. After you're dead, I'll take good care of her for you. I can already imagine how much fun it will be. He laughed lewdly, thinking of what he would do. Diep King Van's gaze turned ice cold. He stared at Huyet Kong II. In his mind, his opponent was already dead. He was now on the list of those who must die. A dragon has a reverse scale. Anyone who touches it must die. To him, Diep knew was his reverse scale. No one was allowed to touch a single hair on her head. Huyet Kong II sensed Diep Kin Van's rage. He wasn't scared. He laughed smugly, but his smile quickly froze. Then let's see you try. Let's see who really dies today. Huyet Kong II drew a massive 5-meter sword. Diep King Van frowned. His intuition told him this man was stronger than he appeared. 9th level of the Spirit Cavern Realm. The blade's light exploded. A powerful aura erupted from him. Everyone nearby gasped in shock. Many Diep family disciples were crushed by the terrifying aura. They were reduced to skeletons. Screams of agony filled the air. Diep Kin Van drew his short sword and roared. All Diep disciples, fall back 100 meters. Diep Kin Van's eyes flashed. The Chi Path Unity Realm. Every warrior has a unique Chi Path realm for their weapon. This is completely separate from their cultivation realm. The first level of the Chi Path is Chi Condensation. It's the unity of man and sword energy. Diep Kin Van was at this first level. After reaching the Heaven and Man Unity Realm, a warrior can cultivate a weapon's heart. This could be a saber heart or a sword heart. There are many others, like a spear heart or an axe heart. Above that is the level of force. The entire body becomes a weapon. Then comes intent, emperor, saint, and monarch. Diep Kin Van looked at Huyet Kong II. You used an illusionary clone. You used it to lure Uncle Bang away, didn't you? No wonder you showed your hand so quickly. That clone can't last very long, can it? Hearing this, Huyet Kong II froze. Surprise flashed in his eyes. I can't believe you saw through my Chi Path intent, and you even know the Unity Realm can create clones. But what does it matter? I'll kill you before your butler gets back. Diep Kin Van replied with contempt. 17 years old, Chi Path Unity Realm. Your talent isn't bad, but soon, you'll be controlled by that blade. Let go of your hatred and repent. Huyet Kong II was stunned. Then he burst into arrogant laughter. He snorted. his face full of smug satisfaction. A wet behind the ears kid dares to lecture me? I reached Saber Path Chi condensation at 16. Chi Path Unity at 17. The Hoyet Sat Tong calls me a once-in-a-millennium genius. If my talent is average, what does that make you? If a senior had said this, he might have accepted it, but it came from a 15-year-old boy. This felt like a deep insult to him. Deep Kin Van spoke like a master teaching a novice. It infuriated Hayat Kong Tu. Bang Hoi arrived just in time. Villain, stop. Huyet Kong Tu's expression shifted. He gave Diep Kin Van a cold look. Another meddler. But stalling won't work. I only need one move to kill you. With that, he slashed his blade. A piercing sound ripped through the air. A blade aura like a giant silver serpent shot forward. Seeing this, Bang Hoai's face paled. He screamed, "Young master, a fatal blow." Huyet Kong Tu laughed wildly. In his eyes, Deep Kin Van couldn't possibly dodge this attack. His body flashed away. He left only a single, careless sentence. "Steward of the Diep family, I'll come for your life next time." The blade aura was too fast. It was like lightning. Deep Kin Van had no way to escape. The assassin was confident. He wanted to end this in a single blow. Deep Kin Van immediately activated the demonic blood armor. His defensive power multiplied. A protective layer of armor quickly formed. A loud explosion echoed. The armor in front of Diep Kin Van shattered instantly. Uncle Bang shouted in alarm, "Young master." Deep Kin Van drew the heartless sword. He used a double-layered shield to block the powerful attack. Deep Kin Van stumbled back several steps, but he wasn't seriously injured. Deep Kin Van spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing he was safe, Bang Hoai rushed to his side. "Young master." Deep Kin Van wiped the blood from his mouth, his gaze fixed on the distance. His eyes were dark. "Uncle Bang, I'm fine." Bang Hoai wasn't a fool. Connecting the dots, he immediately thought of Diep Vo Thien. It was Diep Vo Thien. Only family members knew about the mining operation, and that man hated him to the bone. No wonder things had been so quiet lately. He had already arranged for an assassin. If the assassin hadn't been so careless, Diep Kin Van would have died here. Deep Kin Van's eyes glinted. It seems he finally couldn't hold back. He really wants me dead. We'll settle all our scores, new and old. White clouds drifted across a clear blue sky. A flock of seagulls soared gracefully. A tall pavilion came into view. It had a wide balcony. Every pattern was intricately carved. It was a classical structure. The decorations were elegant. A tense voice echoed from within. A middle-aged man spoke with impatience. "My lord, is that little brat dead yet?" Then, another young man's voice replied. He sounded a little angry. "What? Are you two questioning my power?" "Absolutely not." Deep Vo Thien quickly responded. He knew Huyet Kong Tu's status was extraordinary. If he angered the man from the Huyet Sat Tong, he could be torn limb from limb. Diep Thien, usually arrogant, had to humble himself. He bowed his head deeply. He knew exactly who he was dealing with. Who was this Hayat Kong Tu? Seeing their reactions, Hayat Kong Tu nodded in satisfaction. He spoke nonchalantly. "Rest assured, no one has ever escaped from my grasp. Though he was only 17, many had died by his hand." Deep Vo Thien forced a laugh. "Of course, I trust in your strength, Huyet Kong Tu. It's just that he's very cunning, and he has a burst transformation realm warrior by his side. I was worried." Huyet Kong Tu snorted coldly. His words dripped with contempt. "I don't need your concern. He's just a 9th-level burst transformation warrior. My martial path is approaching the heaven and man realm. Killing him will be easy." Huyet Kong Tu is right, absolutely right. I wish for your chi path to reach the heaven and man realms soon. Just thinking about Diep Kin Van's death made Diep Vo Thien ecstatic. Diep Kin Van had been lucky. Otherwise, Deep Vo Thien would have torn him apart himself. "You despicable old man, Diep Vo Thien." Just then, an angry shout came from outside the door. The voice made Deep Vo Thien and Deep Thien freeze. That voice. It was a voice they knew all too well. Even Hayat Kong Tu was shocked. Impossible. The wooden door was kicked open with a bang. Deep Kin Van appeared in the pavilion, hands on his hips. His eyes were colder than ice. "Who were you just talking to?" The moment he saw Deep Kin Van, Deep Vo Thien screamed. "There's no one else here, just the two of us." "Diep Kin Van, are you a ghost or a man?" Diep Thien couldn't help but shout. "That's right, you're supposed to be dead." Huyet Kong Tu immediately found a hiding spot. He silently suppressed his aura completely. Deep Kin Van's eyes had grown completely dark. His uncle was truly ruthless. He really wanted to see him dead. Deep Kin Van's every word was a stab to the heart. "So you were the one who sent that assassin. Second uncle, I ask you, do you even care about the family rules? Do you two think you're the heads of this family now?" Bang Hoai, standing beside him, cracked his knuckles menacingly. Deep Vo Thien roared in anger. "Don't you dare slander me. Kin Van, you are my nephew. Why would I want to kill you? You're making things difficult for me everywhere, twisting the truth. Don't you know how to respect your elders? Though Diep Thien also hated Diep Kin Van, he knew Bang Hoai was there. He didn't dare to be too reckless. That's right. You're my cousin. My father always thinks of you, yet you keep saying he wants to kill you. How could you? If Bang Hoai wasn't here, he wouldn't mind teaming up with Hayat Kong Tu and his father. They would kill Diep Kin Van on the spot. Sunlight streamed in. It reflected off a sword leaning against a chair, creating a blinding glare. Diep Kin Van coldly scanned the entire pavilion. He looked at Diep Thien and his father. A flicker of contempt was in his eyes. He said flatly, "You know what you've done. I can't be bothered to argue. Just give this message for me. That assassin was too weak. My short sword alone could have killed him." After speaking, he turned and left with Bang Hoai. He didn't want to look at their faces for another second. He knew the mysterious assassin was still in the pavilion. He had said those words on purpose. It was the truth. It was all to provoke his enemy, Diep Vo Thien. Listen carefully. If the young master loses a single hair, Bang Hoai shot a look. His eyes were like ice as he glared at them. His voice was threatening. "I will break your legs. Both of them." Huyet Kong Tu stared ahead. His eyes could almost spit fire. How could this be? Diep Kin Van, I will definitely kill you. Diep Kin Van's words were clearly meant for him. He felt utterly humiliated. He had never failed to kill a target before. No one had ever escaped his grasp. But today, someone had not only escaped, but had brazenly come here, taunting him in front of everyone. The anger almost made Huyet Kong Tu lose his mind. "I'm going after him right now to kill him." Diep Vo Thien rushed to stop him. "You can't, my lord. The great elder of the Diep family is incredibly powerful. If you disturb him, the consequences will be unimaginable." This was Diep family territory, after all. If Huyet Kong Tu caused trouble, the great elder would surely intervene. With his current strength, Huyet Kong Tu was no match for the great elder. If something happened to him, what would the consequences be? He didn't dare to imagine it. Huyet Kong Tu's face darkened. He turned to look at Diep Vo Thien. He snapped coldly. "You think I'm afraid of him?" Diep Vo Thien nodded repeatedly. Yes, of course. Huyet Kong Tu's talent is extraordinary. How could an old man compare? But Huyet Kong Tu shouldn't be too hasty. The autumn hunt is coming soon. The people from the Hayat Sat Tong will be here shortly. Diep Vo Thien quickly added. It won't be too late to kill that bastard then. Hearing this, Huyet Kong Tu finally calmed down a bit. He nodded. Yes, that's right. On the side, Diep Thien said angrily. That's right, Huyet Kong Tu. Don't be angry. Let me deal with that bastard. I'll make sure he dies horrible. Before Diep Thien could finish, a slap landed squarely on his face. His left cheek immediately swelled up. Huyet Kong Tu's face was dark. His voice was filled with barely suppressed rage. Are you saying I'm not as good as you? He couldn't believe he had failed. If he hadn't run away, he could have taken Diep Kin Van's life. He could only blame his own overconfidence. Diep Thien clutched his face, furious. Diep Vo Thien feared his son would cause more trouble. He rushed to mediate. Huyet Kong Tu. It's my fault for not teaching him well. Please calm down. Please calm down. Huyet Kong Tu alone wasn't terrifying. The real terror was the power behind him, the Huyet Sat Tong. Hearing this, Huyet Kong Tu's expression softened slightly. Make your son remember. Words can get you killed. With that, he flicked his sleeve and turned towards the door. Diep Vo Thien felt a huge sense of relief. He nodded repeatedly. Yes. Huyet Kong Tu said coolly. On the day of the hunt, I will take his life myself. No one escapes from me. After he left, Diep Thien's face twisted with rage. He was a genius, yet he was being beaten everywhere. He was constantly suppressed. The humiliation was too great. Diep Kin Van, this is all your fault. I will kill you. Diep Vo Thien saw this and worried his son was losing his mind. He asked, Thien Ni, how is your absorption of the blood pill going? Don't worry, father. It's almost complete. Hearing this, Diep Vo Thien nodded in relief. Thien Ni, I promise you, at the autumn hunt. Diep Vo Thien's voice was filled with hatred. He couldn't wait. He wanted Diep Kin Van dead as soon as possible. I will kill that bastard. The sky was clear without a single cloud. In a dense forest, the trees were tall and sturdy. Their broad canopies shaded the ground. The lush green leaves blocked the sunlight. The space became cool and dark. The rough bark seemed to carry the marks of time. In the distance, towering mountains rose against the deep blue sky. Finding a clearing, Diep Kin Van held the heartless sword. He held it horizontally in front of him, assuming a defensive stance. He thought to himself, for now, I can't cultivate the heartless sword path, but the Thunder Sword art is possible. The Thunder Sword art has 9 levels. Each level has 1 thunderclap, 9 levels of thunder. Although it's only a high-grade Huang rank technique, it's worlds apart from the heartless sword path. But my current cultivation is at the 7th level of the Spirit Cavern realm. It's suitable for practicing the Thunder Sword art. As fast as lightning, his sword struck like thunder. The sword in Diep Kin Van's hand moved continuously. His swordplay was like a flash, as if it could pierce the sky. Booming sounds echoed from the broken blade. Soon, a bolt of lightning struck the broken sword directly. Quickly, the missing part of the heartless sword was formed by lightning. A silver light flashed, captivating all who saw it. A wave of sword energy exploded from the heartless sword. Where the energy passed, clear marks were left on the ground. Trees in the distance were also shaken by the sword energy, split apart. As time passed, he nodded in satisfaction. It's done. The first level of the Thunder Sword art. When the first rays of sunlight broke through the clouds, the Deep family was already awake. Today was the Deep family's autumn hunt. The location was the Matnat Forest. At this moment, outside the forest, it was crowded. Many Diep family disciples had gathered. The great elder, Diep Vohai, stood on high ground and announced heroically, "The purpose of the Diep family's autumn hunt is for you to gain combat experience. Without experience, even if you are talented and powerful, your achievements will be limited. Therefore, today's reward will be very precious. It is the third grade spirit fruit, the heavenly dream thunder fruit. Before you leave the mountain, whoever hunts the most will be the winner. A third grade spirit fruit, the heavenly dream thunder fruit. If this item were sold outside, it could fetch up to 100,000 low-grade spirit stones. It was unexpected that the Deep family would invest so much this time just to train its disciples well. Deep Kin Van looked at the young woman beside him and frowned slightly. Nu Ni, why are you here? Recently, Deep Nu had mostly stayed at home. Her presence today was surprising. It was even more unimaginable that she wanted to join the hunt. Deep Nu pouted. I will never forget the hunt 3 years ago. This time, I must protect you, brother. Deep Vohai scanned the crowd of disciples. His voice became stern. On the road, do not harm family members. If discovered, regardless of your status, you will be expelled from the Deep family. All right, the hunt begins. Seeing Deep Kin Van looking around, Deep Nu asked curiously, Brother, what's wrong? Deep Kin Van's face was full of vigilance, but he replied in the calmest tone, It's nothing. Let's go. 3 years ago, when he participated in the Deep family hunt, it was right here in front of them. He was ambushed, and all his meridians were destroyed. He was certain that person would appear again today. The surrounding Diep disciples were all excited. They gradually dispersed. Let's go. Deep Thien stared at Deep King Van with venomous eyes. He looked like a hungry wolf stalking its prey. Deep King Van, I have finished absorbing the blood pill. You probably don't know that my meridians have not only recovered, but I've also reached the burst transformation realm. And with the Hewitt Satong's help, you will definitely die this time. Meanwhile, in another part of the forest, Huyet Kong Tu was leisurely leaning against a tree. A servant rushed to report. My lord, a message has arrived. The Diep family's hunt has begun. Huyet Kong Tu spoke venomously. His hands clenched into fists. A murderous aura surged around him. Diep Kin Van, this time, I will cut you into 1,000 pieces. He had failed last time, but this time, he would not be careless. As they went deeper into the Matnat forest, Diep Kin Van focused all his attention. There were many powerful demonic beasts here. They were also experts at hiding, ready to launch a fatal blow at any moment. The sky suddenly darkened. He looked up and saw the head of a giant ape. Its body was so large it blocked out the sun, making it feel as if the sky had been swallowed by darkness. Brother, I'm scared. Diep Nu looked at the massive body, her face instantly turning pale. It's okay. Noon He. This is just a berserk ape. You can try fighting it. Deep Kin Van had intended to handle it himself. Dealing with this kind of ape didn't require much effort. But he thought about his sister, who had always been sheltered like a greenhouse flower. To grow, she needed to be tempered. The path of martial arts was bloody. The strong advanced by stepping on the corpses of the weak. The berserk ape saw a young woman approaching. It beat its chest powerfully, making the ground shake violently. In its eyes, Deep Nu's body was no different from a tiny ant. It immediately swung its hand towards her small figure. It wanted to crush this little ant. Diep Nu's voice trembled. Brother, I'm scared. Her face changed drastically. Her lively eyes filled with intense fear. She stood frozen, not knowing what to do. A sigh reached her ears. Then, a figure shot forward, blocking her way. The wind whipped through his long, dark hair. Seeing that familiar back, Deep Nu's desperate eyes regained their spirit. In Diep Kin Van's hand was a broken sword. Soon, lightning spread across the blade. Nu Ni, watch closely. The berserk ape paused in surprise. Deep Kin Van swung the heartless sword in his right hand. A terrifying power exploded in the air, like a lightning bolt shooting towards the ape. The next moment, the giant body was slashed open with a huge wound. Fresh blood spurted into the air. Diep Nu's eyes widened in amazement. Brother is so strong. She never expected him to be this powerful. He had killed the berserk ape in a single strike. In the darkness of the forest, Huyet Kong Tu hid nearby. His eyes were locked on Diep Kin Van. An unconcealed killing intent surged. Enjoy your final moments, Deep Kin Van. Your time is running out. This time will be different from 3 years ago. I don't have the patience to torture you anymore. This time, I'll kill you quickly. It'll be over in an instant before you can react. You will die to the screams of your sister. Now is the time. Diepkin Van, die. Huyet Kongtu drew his sword from its sheath. A cold light flashed and vanished. Diepkin Van scanned the area. His expression didn't change. His flat voice echoed. Who's skulking around over there? Show yourself. A figure jumped down from the canopy. Hey, it's me, Diep Thien. I didn't think you'd spot me hiding so well. As expected of Diepkin Van, Diep Nu was startled. Brother Diep Thien, why were you in the tree? Diep Thien landed on the ground, his face full of arrogance. Can't you see what's different about me? Diep Nu raised her sword defensively. Different? You look a bit hungrier, that's all. Diep Thien's expression changed instantly. His smug happiness turned to rage. He roared, what do you mean hungrier? It seems your eyes are failing you, little sister. Diep Thien laughed heartily. His unrestrained laughter echoed through the vast forest. Let me tell you the truth. Not only have my meridians recovered, but I can also climb trees. No, that's not it. The important thing is that I've broken through to the burst transformation realm. Huyet Kong too saw Diep Thien, and his anger flared. Diepkin Van, you're just a piece of trash. You're in the spirit cavern realm. Killing you is as easy as crushing an ant. Enough talk. It's time for action. Noisy. Just then, Huyet Kong Tu suddenly appeared in front of him. His long blade flashed out of its sheath. A cold light vanished, followed by a line of blood. Diep Thien's body was sliced in two. Poor Diep Thien. He hadn't even gotten his revenge on Diepkin Van before dying so tragically. Huyet Kong Tu said coolly, you ruined my plan and kept spouting nonsense. His expression was terrifyingly calm, as if nothing had happened. It showed just how cruel and cold-hearted he was. Huyet Kong Tu glanced at Diepkin Van with contempt. His arrogant voice rang out. All right, now it's your turn, Diepkin Van. Diepkin Van drew the broken sword in his hand. He glanced at his opponent. His voice was as calm as ever. We'll see who dies. Hearing this, Huyet Kong Tu paid him no mind. He spoke with a cold, arrogant tone, just a measly 7th-level spirit realm fighter. And you dare to be so arrogant. Despite his previous failure, he still didn't take Diepkin Van seriously. Huyet Kong Tu was slightly surprised. He thought to himself, he can condense his chi. I could only do that when I was 17. If I give him more time, his cultivation will become immeasurable. I must kill him. Huyet Kong Tu's heart pounded. He was a genius of the chi path. He had always considered himself a prodigy of the saber path. He thought no other swordsman or saber user could compare to him. Huyet Kong Tu looked deeply at Diepkin Van. His eyes showed intense jealousy. He and Diep Thien were the same kind of people. They had a terrifyingly strong sense of envy. They would never allow anyone with greater talent to surpass them. In other words, he couldn't stand even a speck of dust in his eye. Diepkin Van was completely unfazed. He spoke like a peerless master advising a junior. For a martial artist, jealousy is the biggest taboo. A person like you will probably never get past the hidden chi heart level. Huyet Kong Tu's pupils suddenly shrank. He roared in anger, shut up. Who do you think you are? You dare to lecture me? 3-inch wave saber slash. Huyet Kong Tu shouted. His entire body's spiritual power erupted violently. The great saber in his hand suddenly grew larger. A sharp, unstoppable blade aura surged forward like a tidal wave. It carved a deep trench in the ground, even kicking up smoke. A martial artist with such a sinister heart. Diepkin Van shook his head. He had overestimated him. Today, I will destroy your uni realm. Diepkin Van stood still. The broken sword in his hand then glowed with a brilliant silver light. A bolt of lightning exploded from the blade. Diepkin Van spoke in a low voice, his face confident, so you can't harm anyone else. His body moved with the sword. The sword energy raged, tearing through the void as he swung. Hearing this, Huyet Kong Tu was completely enraged. His voice was filled with fierce anger and deep-seated jealousy. How can he have such a fast sword technique? The feeling of being looked down upon enraged him further. I haven't even made my move yet. Damn it. A bolt of lightning roared like a fierce wave. It carried a terrifying energy straight forward. It collided violently with his opponent's 3-foot wave saber slash. The air exploded. Sword and saber shadows clashed continuously. The 3-foot wave saber slash was shattered by Diepkin Van's attack. It vanished into thin air, as if it were nothing. It was too weak to withstand a single blow. Huyet Kong Tu was sent flying 5 meters by the lightning. A roar echoed in Diepkin Van's mind. Thunder sword art. Fast as lightning, sword like thunder. His face was pale. He spat out a large mouthful of blood, his face contorted in pain. Huyet Kong Tu's heart was in turmoil. My chi path, intent realm. It's gone. His face twisted. He couldn't accept this devastating blow. He was a genius of the chi path. He was the prodigy valued by the sect master. He was hailed as a once-in-a-millennium talent. But now, the thing he was most proud of was about to be taken from him. Huyet Kong Tu roared in anger. You servants! What are you standing there for? Kill him for me. Deep Kin Van, I have to kill you today. The next moment, the men were roused by their young master's roar. They immediately drew their swords, a cold light flashing. They all aimed at Deep Kin Van. Deep King Van snorted coldly and took a step forward. A few pieces of trash want to kill me? Deep King Van swung his sword, slashing straight into one man's chest. A venomous voice came from Huet Kong too. Useless. A bunch of useless fools. Get his sister first. Hearing this, Diep Nu's delicate body trembled. Deep Kin Van's expression changed drastically. He used the Shadow Wind step. He charged directly at Hyet Kong too, speaking coldly. He rushed forward with the Shadow Wind step, shouting, "Die." In his heart, his sister held an irreplaceable position. Anyone who dared to target his sister was challenging his limits. For such people, Diep Kin Van had only one response: death. Huyet Kong too was so frightened by his gaze that his whole body trembled. He collapsed to the ground. In his mind, Diep Kin Van had become an unforgettable nightmare. What do you want? Diep Kin Van looked at Huyet Kong too thoughtfully. It seems destroying your chi path isn't enough. I'll destroy your spiritual power too. Witnessing this, Huyet Kong too's eyes filled with fear. No, don't. Stop. At the next moment, a figure descended from the sky. With a flick of his sleeve, he pushed Diep Kin Van back. Seeing the sudden intervention, Huyet Kong too's face showed not joy, but a dark scowl. He screamed, "You rotten old man! Why did you only show up now? Are you blind or stupid?" He was furious. He kicked at the old man. "Hack Saturday, my chi path is destroyed, and now you appear. A little later, and I would have been dead. If my father finds out, you're finished." Hearing this, the old man, Hacksat, didn't get angry. Instead, he knelt on the ground like a humble servant. This old servant knows his mistake. He immediately imagined the consequences if the young master was truly crippled. His own fate would be grim. To be honest, the reason he didn't intervene was because he simply didn't believe Diep Kin Van could defeat the young master. The young master was at the 9th level of the spirit cavern realm. In terms of spiritual power, he should have easily crushed him. Moreover, the young master was the top genius of the Huet Sat Tong. But who could have guessed that he would lose? Not only lose, but lose so miserably. This completely shattered his worldview. Huyet Kong too roared angrily, his tone demanding and unforgiving. He cut off the old man. Unexpected, "What? Kill him. Kill him for me right now." As soon as he finished, the old man Hacksat bowed his head and accepted the order. Understood. The old man's gaze immediately shifted to Diep Kin Van. It was cold and ruthless, like a beast locking onto its prey. Diep Kin Van frowned slightly, staring at the old man. He tightened his grip on the heartless sword, thinking, his power is probably even greater than Diep Vo Hai's. He has reached the chi path. But even so, his face showed no fear in front of a powerful enemy. Fear and terror only lead to defeat before the fight even begins. What you need in a fight is momentum and an unyielding spirit. The old man paused, a flicker of surprise in his cloudy eyes. "Kid, you're not afraid of me? It seems you have some understanding of the chi path. Very few can stand under my presence without trembling." The old man's face showed a hint of surprise. He shook his head and spoke again. "I have to kill you first, to avoid displeasing the young master." He held a long sword in his hand. A terrifying sword energy surged out like a tidal wave. A hint of surprise appeared in Diep Kin Van's eyes. "So you've reached the heaven and man realm." Diep Kin Van looked at Diep Nu hiding behind a large tree nearby and calmly instructed, "Nu Ni, stay there. Don't come out." Diep Nu obediently listened. "Okay." Diep Kin Van was a bit surprised, but it passed in an instant. Diep Kin Van's expression remained unchanged. The opponent was indeed strong, but he was not afraid. He looked at the old man Hacksat and spoke. "Old man, you're so old. Yet your chi path in 10th realm is only at the heaven and man level. It seems your chi path can't advance anymore. Right? That's why you're willing to be a servant, disgracing the sword in your hand." Hearing this, the old man frowned and suddenly looked up. His eyes locked onto Diep Kin Van. "What did you say? I disgrace the sword in my hand? I've used this sword to kill countless people in my life. How can that be called a disgrace?" He had dedicated his life to the way of the sword. Wielding it was his glory. Others could mock him, but they could never mock the sword in his hand. The old man's expression changed drastically. He gripped his sword tightly and roared, "Don't you dare talk nonsense. Let me tell you, in my life." Diep Kin Van burst out laughing, cutting him off. His voice was as calm as still water. He just laughed. "Killing people? Is killing people with a sword something to be proud of?" Diep Kin Van looked at the old man proudly and said calmly, "If you don't believe me, I'll test my broken sword against yours." The old man let out a sarcastic laugh. "Test your broken sword? Or are you afraid of me using my spiritual power?" Huyet Kong too, standing nearby, immediately shouted, "No, fine, I'll do as you wish. We'll compare swords." Huyet Kong too shouted in a commanding tone. "Old man," I said, "no. Are you defying me?" Normally, the old man would have respectfully obeyed, but thinking of Diep Kinvan's words earlier. He had already made a decision. Young master, step aside. I will use the sword in my hand to kill him. He can insult me, but he cannot insult my sword. Gripping the long sword, a powerful aura radiated from the old man. The old man's eyes were cold and dark as he stared at Diep Kinvan. The long sword in his hand hummed, "Use your strongest sword. One sword to decide the winner." Hearing this, Diep Kinvan smiled. He knew the old man's heart had been shaken. Otherwise, he would never dare to defy his young master like this. Diep Kinvan nodded slightly. All right, he gripped the heartless sword once more. In that instant, his aura soared. Although his chi path in 10th realm was only at the lowest level of chi condensation, the aura he emitted was no weaker than the old man's. The old man frowned. He had to admit that the young man before him was a genius of the chi path. It was a shame such a person was about to die by his sword. Your chi path in 10th realm is only at the chi condensation level. If I kill you, I'll be known as a bully. Before he could finish, Diep Kinvan interrupted him. Diep Kinvan shook his head. Don't worry, you're no match for me. The old man's eyes nearly shot out flames. This was the first time he had been looked down upon so much. Fine, I'd like to see what you're made of. With a long shout, he swung the golden long sword. The old man and the strange golden sword seemed to merge into one, like a giant golden bear roaring at the sky. Diep Kinvan watched the scene and sighed softly. He thought to himself, although his sword chi is unstable, it's still the power of the heaven and man chi path realm. Diep Kinvan closed his eyes, thinking carefully. It would be difficult to win using the Thunder Sword art. The only way is to try using the Heartless Sword path. I need to absorb some of the remaining lightning power in the Lightning Seal to level up. Without hesitation, he directly circulated his chi, absorbing a ball of lightning energy near his heart. As time passed, his cultivation soared, directly reaching the 9th level of the Spirit Cavern realm. Only by reaching the 9th level of the Spirit Cavern realm could he use the first level of the Heartless Sword path. He gripped the Heartless Sword tightly with his right hand. Heartless Sword path. As he spoke, the heartless sword in his hand shot out. The two swords clashed. The entire space seemed to tremble. The immense sword chi forced the old man back several steps. He fell to one knee, his long sword driven deep into the ground, and in front of him stood a young man in white, his expression proud, like a true master of the sword. Even if your chi path in 10th realm is much higher than mine, it's useless. Those words fell on the old man's ears, making his whole body tremble. The old man Haksat was shocked. Just now, that was. Diep Kinvan looked straight at him. If it weren't for his opponent's earlier actions, he wouldn't have bothered with this nonsense. Because you are not a true swordsman. A swordsman is born proud under the heavens and leaves a good name even in death. But you are willing to be a slave to others. Your sword does not submit, so how can it be one with you? Hearing these words, the old man's body trembled violently. He looked up, his messy hair revealing a pair of constantly shaking eyes. Senior. Hu Yet Kong Tu, standing in the distance, was stunned. He found it hard to accept. In a fit of rage, Hu Yet Kong Tu started screaming, "You useless piece of trash, old Haksat. I can't believe you're so worthless as to call a 15-year-old kid senior. I don't need your protection." The old man Haksat snorted coldly. He turned around, his eyes fixed on Hu Yet Kong Tu. He finally couldn't hold back his anger. He said everything on his mind. "You shut up. If it weren't for your father, I would have killed you by now." Hearing the word death, he was immediately scared and quickly shut his mouth. But anyone could see the fierce anger burning in his eyes. The old man Haksat actually bowed his head. His attitude became extremely respectful, completely different from his earlier aggressive behavior. Senior was right in his teachings. Diep Kinvan nodded slightly. A hint of anticipation was in the old man Haksat's eyes. He looked at Diep Kinvan. "I saw Senior's move once a long time ago. I wonder if Senior knows of the Mad Sword?" Mad Sword. Hearing this name, Diep Kinvan's heart skipped a beat. The familiar name brought back countless old memories. Seeing Diep Kinvan's reaction, a storm brewed in the old man Haksat's heart. His eyes lit up. "So you do know him? Could it be that Senior is a disciple of the Mad Sword?" Hu Yet Kong Tu, hearing this, his eyelids twitched. He thought to himself, impossible. The Mad Sword is the #1 sword god of the entire 8 Wastelands continent. If this kid is really a disciple of the Mad Sword, fear arose in Hu Yet Kong Tu's heart. Then even my father couldn't avenge me. No, it can't be. Diep Kinvan said lightly, his tone instantly returning to normal. "I am not a disciple of the Mad Sword." Hearing this, Hu Yet Kong Tu secretly breathed a sigh of relief. I knew it wasn't true. This old man is a fool. I almost believed it. He still remembered the proud face of the child that year. It was winter. A child held a long sword, practicing in the snow. "Little brat, we've been practicing this for months. Can you do it or not?" The little child called out to the figure, "Master." The figure smiled and clapped for the child. "Keep practicing. You are my 10th disciple. Today, I will teach you the mantra of the heartless sword path. Calm your mind and remember. Tham Ha Tam sat obediently in front of him. Are you going somewhere, master? Tham Ha Tam watched his master's back recede into the snowy haze, shouting desperately, Master. Tham Ha Tam collapsed to the ground, roaring, Master, I will never disappoint you. I will always train hard to become stronger. Then I will find you. Please wait for me, master. At that time, he saw the child's talent was not bad, so he taught him for a while. He even gave him a sword intent. He gave him a few mantras of the heartless sword path, then left. Diep Kin Van thought to himself, I didn't expect my 10th disciple to have achieved so much. If I can find him, my cultivation speed will definitely increase several times over. Diep Kin Van asked, the mad sword, where is he now? He didn't dare to offend Diep Kin Van and maintained his respectful attitude. He replied in a low voice, Senior, the sword god has been missing for a long time. I don't know where he went. The old man Haksat's eyes flickered. He absolutely did not believe the person before him was ordinary. Anyone who heard the words mad sword would tremble in fear, but this person didn't even flinch, and even showed a hint of pride. Diep Kin Van was a little disappointed and nodded, sighing. What a pity, the old man Haksat said. It seems Senior has a relationship with the sword god. Diep Kin Van replied vaguely, You could say that. Diep Kin Van walked up to Hayat Kong Tu, his face showing a thoughtful expression. Seeing him approach, Hayat Kong Tu stepped back. He took a few steps back and shouted, You, what do you want? I am the eldest son of the Hayat Sat Tong. You can't kill me. Diep Kin Van said calmly, What is the Huyet Sat Tong? Let alone the Huyet Sat Tong, even the powers of the gods on earth, he wouldn't give them a second thought. Old man, Haksat, save me. You're the one who watched me grow up. You can't just watch me die. Only now did Huyet Kong Tu remember the old man Hak Saturday. The old man looked emotional, turning to look. He looked at Huyet Kong Tu, sighed, and said, Huyet Kong Tu, from today onwards. He said calmly, I will no longer be a member of the Huyet Sat Tong. Huyet Kong Tu trembled and begged, Spare me. Just as Diep Kin Van's sword was raised, a voice called out, Senior. Diep Kin Van raised an eyebrow. The old man Haksat clasped his fists and bowed. I have a request. If Senior agrees, I will go through fire and water for you, without hesitation. Diep Kin Van spoke nonchalantly, his eyes like ice. For him? But on what grounds do you ask me to let him go? The old man Haksat replied, I once picked up a piece of a broken sword, but I couldn't identify it. I wanted to use it to forge a sword, but its killing aura was too strong, so I haven't touched it. With that, the old man Haksat quickly took out a broken sword piece from his clothes. The outside was covered by a green film. A green protective film was there to prevent the killing aura from leaking. I will offer this broken sword to Senior, hoping you will spare him. Diep Kin Van stretched out his right hand and directly shattered the protective film. Immediately, an extremely dense killing aura shot up into the sky. The old man Haksat's face instantly turned pale. Senior, be careful of the killing aura. When he saw this broken sword, Diep Kin Van's body trembled slightly, and he was ecstatic. Good, good. It's a piece of the heartless sword. I didn't expect to find 2 pieces in this small Matnat town. Diep Kin Van looked at the 8th piece of the heartless sword, a hint of excitement showing on his face. Senior. Feeling Diep Kin Van's excitement, the old man Haksat immediately knelt down, clasping his fists. He didn't forget to remind him to spare Huyet Kong Tu. Although Huyet Kong Tu was arrogant, he was still someone he had watched grow up. I don't understand why you treat him like this, yet you still plead for him. Diep Kin Van glanced at Huyet Kong Tu and said coldly, Don't worry, because of this sword piece, I won't take your life today. Huyet Kong Tu gritted his teeth, his heart filled with resentment. You dog, just you wait. When I get home, I'll tell my father to punish you, and this old man too. I'll tell my father about your betrayal. However, the death penalty can be waived. Hearing this, Huyet Kong Tu's face turned pale. You, what do you mean? But the crime cannot be forgiven. You still have to pay the price. With that, Diep Kin Van swung the heartless sword. Huyet Kong Tu let out a tragic scream, his face as white as paper. He was horrified to find that all the meridians in his body had been destroyed. For him, this was more painful than death. Huyet Kong Tu stared at Diep Kin Van, screaming repeatedly, Diep Kin Van, you bastard. You destroyed my meridians. I will definitely take your life in the future. After he was done, Diep Kin Van said impatiently, Get lost, before I change my mind. The old Haksat shouted to the people around him, Take your young master and go. The old man Haksat respectfully clasped his fists at Diep Kin Van, not daring to show any disrespect. Senior, thank you for your guidance. You helped me understand and leave the Huyet Sat Tong. I must go find my own path of the sword. We will meet again if fate allows. Diep Kin Van nodded slightly, not paying much attention to it. The disciples of the Huyet Sat Tong didn't dare to disobey. They hurried to their young master. A few strong men directly picked up Hu Yet Kong Tu. They quickly disappeared into the Matnat forest. Hu Yet Kong Tu arrogantly hit the head of a subordinate next to him and cursed loudly. Be gentle, you useless slave. It hurts like hell. Suddenly, a figure rushed over. Thien Ni, where are you? When he found Diep Kinvan standing there, he couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, Diep Kinvan, why aren't you dead yet? Diep Kinvan ignored him, just turning his head to look in another direction. Feeling ignored, Diep Vo Thien couldn't help but blurt out, what? Diep Vo Thien turned around. When he saw Diep Thien's body, his whole body trembled. He shouted, Thien Ni. He choked for a long time before looking up. His eyes locked onto Diep Kinvan. He screamed, Diep Kinvan, you broke the family rules and killed my son. Today, I want you to pay with your life. Diep Kinvan snorted coldly. You should know very well why your son ended up like this. This father and son duo had always tried to kill him. If he wasn't strong enough, he would be the one lying on the ground today. Then I will kill you. Diep Vo Thien, completely irrational with anger, roared. He charged towards Diep Kinvan like a madman, his aura surging wildly. Diep Kinvan frowned, shocked. A 9th-level burst transformation realm martial artist is indeed no small matter. Diep Vo Thien's icy palm aimed straight at Diep Kinvan. Just then, an angry shout echoed from the void. Stop! A figure quickly rushed over in an instant. A figure appeared in front of Diep Kinvan. A hand like dry bark emerged from the sleeve, striking out powerfully. The force of the explosion pushed Diep Vo Thien back. The newcomer was Diep Than, the great elder of the Diep family, an expert of the Yin Void realm. Diep Vo Thien stumbled back a few steps. After seeing Diep Than, his body trembled uncontrollably. Great Elder, why are you here? Although the Great Elder had just entered the Yin Void realm, he was far superior to a 9th-level burst transformation martial artist. He could kill him with a flick of a finger. Diep Than snorted coldly. Can't I be here? Diep Vo Thien's face paled. That's not what I meant. Weren't you in seclusion? At this time, Diep Than's gaze fell on Diep Kinvan. His face showed excitement. Good, very good. Diep Kinvan. Previously, the second elder told me our Diep family had another genius. I didn't believe it, so I observed you during today's hunt. When he felt that aura, Diep Kinvan was immediately surprised. Great Elder. So Diep Than had been hiding in the shadows all along, secretly observing him. His performance had far exceeded his expectations. You're not bad at all. But why are there so many bodies? Who are these people in black? That body looks a bit familiar. Soon, many Diep family disciples appeared around them. They all looked at the scene with confusion, especially when they saw Diep Thien's body cut in half on the ground. Everyone's expression changed. It's Diep Thien. Why is he dead? Was it Diep Kinvan? It's possible. After all, they had a lot of enmity between them, right? But this method is too cruel. Many Diep family disciples started whispering. When they looked at Diep Kinvan, a hint of fear appeared in their eyes. Diep Thuong and the others slowly approached. Diep Vo Thien's face was tense, his heart filled with panic. The Great Elder said he observed everything. Thien Ni's collusion with the Huyet Sat Tong probably didn't escape his eyes, but Thien Ni's death. Diep Kinvan frowned and stepped forward, saying calmly, This is all your own doing. He didn't intend to let anyone else speak. He continued, Besides, your son wasn't killed by me. If you want revenge, you can find Huyet Kong Tu. Don't ask me who Huyet Kong Tu is. You know best. Looking at the wound, it shouldn't be hard to tell. Hearing these words, a pained expression appeared on Diep Vo Thien's face. He mumbled, Thien Ni, my Thien Ni. Suddenly, Diep Tu Thien ran over. He pointed at Diep Thien's body and shouted, Father, kill Diep Kinvan and avenge my brother. At that moment, Diep Vo Thien remembered what Diep Tu Thien had said to Diep Thien before. Brother, now that all your meridians are broken, living like this is no different from that trash Diep Kinvan 3 years ago. Thinking of this, Diep Vo Thien's face turned purple. He trembled and said, Thien Ni, it was I who harmed you. Diep Vo Thien's hair was a mess. He lowered his head. It was me. Diep Kinvan asked back, What are you talking about? Diep Vo Thien suddenly burst into crazed laughter, revealing bloodshot eyes. It was me. It was all my fault. Diep Kinvan asked impatiently, What are you trying to say? Diep Vo Thien screamed, 3 years ago, the one who destroyed your meridians, it was my arrangement. I only regret not killing you than to avoid future trouble. Diep Vo Hai's eyes flashed fiercely. His whole body trembled. Vo Thien. Why? In fact, Diep Vo Hai had long suspected Diep Vo Thien. He just couldn't believe his son would do such a thing. Diep Vo Thien laughed fiercely and arrogantly. He looked at Diep Vo Hai and said calmly, Why? Do you know why my brother, Diep Kinvan's father, disappeared without a trace? Because 2 years ago, I sent people from the Huyet Sat Tong to kill him. By now, his body is probably gone. Hearing this, Diep Vo Hai's brow furrowed. Diep Vo Thien roared, his words filled with fierce jealousy. "You old fool, if he were still alive, would the position of family head ever come to me? If he were alive, would you ever think of me?" Deep Vothian's talent was not bad, but under his older brother's dazzling light, his talent seemed all too ordinary. He had always been jealous and resentful of his older brother, and seeing Deep Kinvan's talent was even stronger than his brother's, far surpassing his own son. The jealousy in his heart had reached its peak. Hearing these words, Diep Vo Hai was so angry he almost coughed up blood. He slapped Diep Vothian. "You animal. You didn't even spare your own brother and nephew. If you're not an animal, what are you? You're even worse than an animal." Half of Deep Vothian's face immediately swelled up, but his screams only grew louder. "You old bastard. You're so heartless. Have you ever considered me your son? It's always about my older brother. But what a pity. He's dead now. And my Thian Ni is so outstanding. Yet you don't care about him. Instead, you dote on that trash Diep Kinvan." He seemed to be in a frenzy. He charged towards Diep Kinvan, screaming, "I'll kill your other grandson too." Diep Than stepped forward. His long robe fluttered in the wind. The space around them seemed to freeze. "Stop. Great Elder, please wait a moment." Those sudden words stunned everyone. All eyes turned to the young master in confusion. Diep Than also looked at Diep Kinvan with confusion, curiously waiting for him to continue. Diep Than immediately stopped, causing Deep Vothian's expression to change repeatedly. He unconsciously stepped back. A Yin Void Realm expert was not to be trifled with. He could take his life in just one or two moves. Diep Kinvan's heroic words shocked everyone present. Everyone looked at Deep Kinvan with disbelief. "I can't let someone else avenge my father's death. Today, let me kill this animal. You said all that to provoke me into killing you myself, didn't you? All right, let's have a decisive battle." Diep Nu immediately screamed, afraid her brother would do something foolish. "Brother, don't be reckless." Uncle Bang knew the young master's character. He knew that once he decided on something, it was hard to stop him. His heart trembled. "Young master." The great elder frowned, worried for the Diep family's genius. "Kinvan, have you thought this through? He has reached the 9th level of the burst transformation realm." As he spoke, Diep Than kept his grip on Diep Vothian's neck. The 9th level of the spirit cavern realm is very different. Diep Kinvan's face grew darker and darker. In the end, it was almost dripping blood. "The revenge for my father's murder. If I don't avenge it, I'm not a worthy son." He said coldly, "I know, but I must avenge my father's murder. Otherwise, I wouldn't be a man." Hearing this, Deep Vothian acted as if he had heard the most ridiculous joke in the world. "It seems you're determined to die by my hand. Then I won't be polite anymore." Diep Vothian's body was now boiling with blood chi. The surrounding air was filled with the smell of blood. He said arrogantly, "You know, I have no way out now. I will kill you, even if it costs me my life." With that, he immediately charged at Diep Kinvan and launched an attack. Diep Vothian's eyes became venomous and fierce. He slammed his palm towards the ground. Diep Vothian summoned a 6th-grade vicious sand scorpion to attack Diep Kinvan. Diep Kinvan watched him calmly, his face showing contempt. "An insect. It suits you." In his hand, the broken sword reappeared, emitting cold, ringing sounds. "Heartless. One sword." Diep Kinvan's expression remained unchanged. Veins bulged as he gripped the heartless sword and slashed down. In the air, a swarm of vicious sand scorpions attacked. The heartless sword seemed to sense its master's anger. Its killing aura surged, as if freezing heaven and earth. Deep Kinvan stumbled back several steps, thinking to himself, "It seems I'm still underestimating the power of a burst transformation realm martial artist." The vicious sand scorpions, just a light flick, sent Diep Kinvan flying dozens of meters away. "Die now." Just the thought of a peerless genius dying with him made him laugh arrogantly. Deep Vothian, taking advantage of the situation, continued to press his attack. Seeing this, Deep Kinvan's face grew tense. Diep Vothian's palm strike snapped a tree trunk in two. He struck again. The ground trembled, and water burst from the cracks. Deep Nu panicked at the sight. Her high-pitched voice cried out, "Brother!" Bang Thuk, who was protecting her, also looked on nervously. He knew the young master's personality well. He would never retreat, not even half a step. "Young master." Deep Vothian laughed triumphantly. "A mere spirit realm cultivator is nothing but an insect to me. Watch me crush you." Deep Kinvan muttered under his breath. "Can I really not defeat him?" A 9th level violent transformation realm cultivation. His expression was like ice. A chilling aura erupted from his body. The way of the sword itself trembled. He let out a soft sigh. "I guess I have no choice," he thought, "even if it means damaging my own meridians, no matter the price." A broken sword shot forward. It became a streak of light in the void, then it fused into Deep Kinvan's body. "I will kill you with my own hands." In the next instant, a wave of killing intent erupted from him. Deep Kinvan's voice was like a great bell, deep and resonant, stunning everyone into silence. Diep Vothian let out a mocking laugh. Your talent far surpasses your father's. But in the end, both father and son will die by my hand." Deep Kin Van's eyes went wild. He roared in fury. "What did you say?" Deep Vo Thien threw his head back and laughed. "I want everyone here to be buried with my Thien Ni." With a long scream, a layer of blood mist appeared around his body. Diep Kin Van was shocked. He thought to himself. Diep Thon screamed in horror at the sight. Diep Vo Hai frantically shouted. "All Diep disciples, fall back. Diep Kin Van, come back here." "Old man, it's too late now." Diep Vo Thien laughed sinisterly. He knew he couldn't escape death today, so he chose to self-destruct and drag Diep Kin Van to hell with him. The young master remained calm, but beneath that calm, his eyes held a raging fire. Forbidden technique. Absolute soul sword. Diep Kin Van's expression didn't change. 4 words slowly left his lips. As the sound fell, the entire sky changed color. He reached out directly, then he pulled Diep Vo Thien toward him. Diep Vo Thien's tone was full of provocation. "Diep Kin Van, do you think you can save them all? Don't be so naive. Is that right?" Diep Kin Van's expression was ice cold. He stared straight ahead. The power difference was too great. He couldn't kill him with a single forbidden technique. His mind raced. He made a decision without hesitation. "There's no other way. I have to do this." Diep Vo Hai watched in confusion. What is Kin Van trying to do? Diep Than cried out in panic. Diep Vo Thien is self-destructing. We can't stop it. So the only thing Kin Van could do was. Diep Nu cried out worriedly. "Brother." Bang Hoai, standing beside her, was just as anxious. "Young master." Diep Vo Thien roared with laughter. "It's too late for everything." "Brother." Diep Nu screamed. She tried to rush forward to save him. Seeing this, Bang Hoai yelled in a panic. "Nuni!" But right at that moment, a massive explosion echoed. Thick smoke and dust billowed out. Everyone present was staggered by the shockwave. Diep Nu cried out, her voice filled with emotion. "Clan leader, did you see that?" Diep Vo Hai stammered. This is the Phoenix. The Phoenix bloodline. A mysterious Phoenix power radiated from around Diep Nu. "Brother." Now, thick dust completely obscured their vision. An hour later, the dust slowly cleared. The once green forest was now just a pile of ashes. Everyone split up to find Diep Kin Van. Suddenly, a subordinate shouted, "He's found. Look, over there." They saw Diep Nu holding an unconscious Diep Kin Van. Her face was pale, and her body was covered in wounds. Diep Kin Van's consciousness was submerged. He was completely unconscious. Diep Nu and Diep Kin Van were happily eating a meal together. Diep Kin Van asked, "So I was unconscious for a whole week?" Diep Nu replied, "Yes. So you should eat more to build up your strength." Diep Kin Van nodded slightly and asked, "Nuni, have you just been taking care of me these past few days?" Diep Nu's eyes widened. "Huh? How did you know that?" Diep Nu quickly patted his back gently. "Brother, eat slower, don't choke." Diep Kin Van said happily, "Nuni's cooking is delicious." Bang Hoai hurried in. "Young master, the great elder wants to see you." Diep Kin Van replied, still holding his rice bowl. "All right, I'll go right now." Inside a luxurious pavilion, a joyful voice rang out. "Kin Van, I knew you would come to see me, even if I didn't call." Diep Kin Van nodded gently. He didn't deny it. His gaze met the great elders directly. "That's right. The ones who killed my father and his son weren't just Diep Vo Thien's family. People from the Blood Fiend sect were also there. Without a doubt, the Blood Fiend sect was the mastermind." Diep Thon shook his head. When this sect was mentioned, his expression changed. He seemed a little uneasy. "But I don't know much about the Blood Fiend sect. I've heard the people of that organization cultivate demonic techniques. They feed on human blood." Hearing this, Diep Kin Van's face changed slightly. Human blood. This immediately brought a name to his mind. Could it be the Blood Palace? No, that's not right. The Blood Palace is a superpowered force in the lower god realm. Logically, it wouldn't develop in the lower world. Diep Thon replied, "No." His eyes flickered. He spoke in a low voice. "Kin Van, I know your father's death has caused you great pain, but until you have absolute power, don't mess with that organization. Based on the current situation, we can't touch them." Diep Kin Van nodded coolly. His heart darkened slightly. "I understand." With that, Diep Than said, "Good, you may go." Diep Kin Van thought to himself, "Can't touch them? I even looked down on the Blood Palace. What the hell is a Blood Fiend sect? I just hope they aren't too weak. Otherwise, it would be boring." Diep Kin Van turned to leave. A cold smile appeared on his lips. Diep Than held up the Heavenly Dream Thunder Peak fruit. He looked towards Diep Kin Van and said slowly, "Oh, right, because of the matter with Diep Vo Thien, the hunt ended earlier than planned. This champion's prize is for you. Take it." Diep Kin Van reached out and caught it. He thought to himself, the Heavenly Dream Thunder Peak fruit is even rarer than the Thunder Peak fruit. Moreover, the Heavenly Dream Thunder Peak fruit holds an even greater secret. On the 11th day, in the forest, Diep Kin Van didn't hesitate. He swallowed the Heavenly Dream Thunder Peak fruit in one go. He thought, using the Heavenly Dream Thunder Peak fruit with the Thunder Peak seal before using the forbidden technique will help restore my damaged meridians. The fruit's flesh was sweet and fragrant. Many rich people would just throw away the seed, but you shouldn't throw it away. If you break open the seed with force, there's a good chance you can get the martial art inside. Then, Diep Kinvan lifted a large rock. He slammed it down hard on the Thunder Peak fruit seed. On the seed of the Heavenly Dream Thunder Peak, electric light flickered. Tiny sparks of lightning appeared in the void around it. They looked like silver serpents coiling through the air. Diep Kinvan said with satisfaction, "The Thunder Peak clone can give me one or more additional clones. The number of clones will increase with my cultivation." A smile appeared on Diep Kinvan's face. "All right, I'll practice this then. With the Thunder Peak seal, my power will increase very quickly. Help! Is anyone there?" A cry for help echoed everywhere. It traveled for 1,000 meters. Several wolves with glowing eyes appeared. Their gaze was sinister and eerie. Countless wolves appeared in the valley. They all advanced towards the young girl. The one surrounded by the wolves was a young woman in a white dress. She held a sharp longsword in her hand. Don't come here," Diep Kinvan thought to himself. He looked down below. Dark Night wolves. Although they're only at the spirit realm, a pack this size is quite troublesome. How did this girl manage to provoke them? Diep Kinvan shook his head. His eyes were bright as torches. He saw every detail about the girl in a single glance. Oh, her qualities are extraordinary. Her swordsmanship is extremely high. This girl's understanding of the sword Dao must be excellent. Her cultivation is at the second level of the violent transformation realm, but dealing with this girl is, a pack of over 1,000 wolves is still quite difficult. Suddenly, she felt a gaze on her. She couldn't help but be startled. She looked up forcefully. She saw the young man standing on a tree branch. Her appearance was calm but pitiful. "Young master, please save me." The figure on the branch flickered for a moment and then vanished. Tu Am saw Diep Kinvan approaching and said, "Thank you, young master." Seeing the young man still staring blankly, Tu Am called out, "Young master." The girl before him was indeed beautiful. But that wasn't enough to make Diep Kinvan lose his composure. What stunned him was her appearance. Diep Kinvan thought to himself, "Lachlan, she looks so much like Lachlan." Diep Kinvan's body trembled. Images from his past life flooded his mind. "Young master," Tuam called to Diep Kinvan again. "Lachlan, you, Lachlan," who had mercilessly betrayed him. Lachlan's sword was sharp. She didn't hesitate to stab it straight into his body. "No, this is the Sunken Sun Town, not the lower god realm. Her temperament is different from Lachlan's. Her cultivation isn't the same either. That's enough. I asked for help because I saw your extraordinary skills." Tu Am said angrily, "I didn't expect you to toy with me." Tu Am raised her sword, shouting, "At worst, we'll die together." "My apologies." As soon as he finished speaking, he paid no attention to the girl's expression. He moved like a water snake, grabbing her waist. Diep Kinvan snatched the sword from her hand. A brilliant light exploded. A streak of white light appeared on the face of every Dark Night wolf. Soon, the white light turned into blood. Blood poured from their foreheads. All the Dark Night wolves died under Diep Kinvan's sword. Just one sword strike like that. No, it couldn't even be considered a single strike. Yet it reaped so many Dark Night wolves. The blurry, flickering figure carried her away from that place. "Your swordsmanship is truly amazing, young master." After about 4 or 5 breaths, they arrived in an open space. Tuam bowed respectfully and said, "Thank you for your help just now, young master. If not for you, I would have died under the claws of that Dark Night wolf pack. Your cultivation must have reached the chi condensation realm, right? With such outstanding talent, why are you willing to stay in Sunken Sun Town? What is your name, miss?" The girl was a bit surprised, but she still answered calmly, "My name is Tuam." Diep Kinvan finally came to his senses. He thought to himself, "She's not Lachlan." Tuam also politely asked back, "May I know the young master's name?" For some reason, when he saw this beautiful face, a hint of disgust flashed in his eyes. Although the girl in front of him wasn't Lachlan, her appearance was nearly identical to hers. He turned around and sighed softly. "It seems I was overthinking things." Tuam didn't understand how she had offended the young man. She quickly asked, young master, overthinking? Do you think that just because you saved my life, I'll repay you with my body? Then you really are overthinking it." Diep Kinvan said coldly, "I just felt that you look a lot like an old acquaintance of mine. I meant nothing else." Tuam replied, "Although I can't repay you with my body, I have 4 tier 4 demon cores. I can give you one as a thank you." Tuam took out a demon core that gleamed with a black luster. The power within it surged violently. At the same time, she thought to herself, "This man is so cold." However, recalling the young man's sword strike, she said from the bottom of her heart, "But his swordsmanship is truly excellent." Diep Kinvan looked closely at the demon core in her hand. He suddenly understood everything. A tier 4 demon core. No wonder you were being chased by the dark night wolves. From a distance, the sound of horse hooves grew closer and closer. Gradually, a few figures appeared ahead. They wore red armor. Each had a long sword at their waist. Their expressions were extremely tense. The leader was a handsome young man with a tall build. Behind him followed 8 large men. With each breath they took, the air seemed to tremble slightly. Feng Thieu, the town's guard. He glanced at Diep Kinvan. A look of contempt was clear in his eyes. The trash of the Diep family. Do you think you're invincible just because your meridians have recovered? The Sunken Sun Forest is no place for trash like you. Get lost. He didn't even bother to look at Diep Kinvan again. He immediately rushed to the girl's side. He quickly dismounted from his horse. He knelt on one knee. Young mistress, are you all right? The town lord sent me to pick you up since you hadn't returned. Tu Am nodded slightly. I'm fine, but if it weren't for him, if it weren't for this person, I would have died under the claws of the dark night wolves. Feng Thieu paused, his heart full of doubt. The person the young mistress is talking about is him? Tu Am replied with confusion. Yes, that's right. Feng Thieu shrugged his shoulders. His tone was full of contempt. Impossible, impossible. Young mistress, you must be joking. This guy is the trash of the Deep family. Everyone knows that. Although his meridians have recovered, he hasn't cultivated for years. Feng Thieu wanted to burst out laughing mockingly. He continued, similarly, his future is surely as dim as his prospects. Tu Am was stunned. She said, no, that can't be. He's a master swordsman. Feng Thieu burst out laughing again. Young mistress, you must have seen wrong. This piece of trash can't even catch up in cultivation. How could he practice the sword? Hearing those words, Tu Am immediately felt uncomfortable. No matter what, Diep Kinvan was her savior. Enough, don't say any more. He's not trash. I'm back this time on behalf of the Star Pavilion Academy to see if there are any talented people in town. I don't care about talent. She pointed her finger and said angrily, I think he is talented. I will bring him into the Star Pavilion Academy. As soon as he heard this, a trace of anger appeared on Feng Thieu's face. What? Him? A person like this can also enter the academy? With a tense voice, Feng Thieu asked, Then what about me, young mistress? Can I? I think I'm very suitable. Tu Am bluntly attacked him. You? I'm afraid. Although she didn't finish, Feng Thieu naturally understood her meaning. Anger immediately flared in his heart. The Deep family's trash can go to the Star Pavilion Academy, but I, a genius guard of the town mansion, am not even as good as a piece of trash, young mistress. Immediately after, he glared fiercely at the person who had just jumped on the horse's back. Fine, let's see what kind of skills the genius in the young mistress's eyes really has. Young mistress, look at this. After speaking, he completely ignored Tu Am's protests. He rode his brown steed and charged forward. His target was obviously Diep Kinvan. Feng Thieu was like a mad dog. He madly chased after Diep Kinvan. Walking ahead, Diep Kinvan felt a sharp killing intent approaching from behind, but his brows didn't even furrow. He had heard every word of the conversation between that young man and Tu Am. Looking for death? His right hand was already on the hilt of his sword. He could strike at any moment. The horse suddenly bucked. It neighed tragically. Fresh blood gushed from its 2 legs. Diep Kinvan's sword had only moved slightly. The horse lost its balance and stumbled. Feng Thieu also fell to the ground. Seeing his opponent fall face first to the ground, landing right at his feet, he said coldly, You enjoyed calling me trash, didn't you? Diep Kinvan stepped on his opponent's head with his right foot. So now that I'm stepping on your face, what does that make you? The thought of being humiliated by a piece of trash filled Feng Thieu with rage. His spiritual energy erupted violently. He roared with all his might. You piece of trash. You're worse than an animal. Wait, benefactor, please calm down. Please calm down. Tu Am rushed over. After all, Feng Thieu was her subordinate. She couldn't just watch him die without helping. Diep Kinvan looked at Tu Am coldly. Is this how you repay your savior? Tu Am hastily explained, Young master, you've misunderstood. Diep Kinvan frowned slightly. He glanced at the young man lying on the ground. Misunderstood? What's going on? Tu Am froze, not knowing what to say. Diep Kinvan had no interest in caring anymore. He turned and walked away. All right, I won't pursue it. Guard Feng, are you okay? Feng Thieu's heart was still burning with rage. Already consumed by anger, Feng Thieu became even more furious upon hearing this. The flames of anger in his heart reached their peak. He shouted, You bastard, I'll kill you. Feng Thieu jumped up like a mad dog, roaring at Diep Kinvan. Trash, don't even think about escaping. A golden rhinoceros appeared behind him. That was his martial soul. It specialized in defense. Ordinary weapons couldn't break through this layer of defense at all. At first, Diep Kinvan didn't want to bother with Feng Thieu, but his opponent insisted on looking for a beating. He had no choice. His hand once again rested on the hilt of his unfeeling sword. A blinding flash of light shone. It was like a shooting star streaking across the sky. In an instant, it vanished without a trace. One of Feng Thieu's arms fell to the ground. Feng Fu let out a blood-curdling scream like a pig being slaughtered. His right arm was gone. His body trembled uncontrollably. Next time, it won't be just an arm. Tu Am stood there, stunned. She watched Diab Kin Van's retreating back. For a moment, she didn't know what to do. So domineering. Everyone watched as their pupils trembled violently. A weak guard looked at the beautiful young woman, swallowing hard. Young mistress, what should we do, young mistress? Gradually, Diab Kin Van's figure completely disappeared from everyone's sight. Tu Am sighed softly. A light flickered in her eyes. Let's go back. Let's just leave this as it is. A few days later, at the gate of Hack City, Diab Kin Van thought to himself, old friend, for now, I can only give you a scabbard like this. He gently stroked the sword's body. Just stay in there for a while. Diab Kin Van put on a mask and continued to think. I don't know why, but the killing intent in Nu Ni's body has been strange these past few days. I have to prepare early. I'll go to Hack City again. La Tamban suddenly appeared. My friend, I advise you not to use that mask. Right now, wearing that mask in Hack City will only get you killed. I have a lot of good stuff here. He was holding up several masks to show off, but when he saw Diab Kin Van's face, La Tamban couldn't help but be startled. Immediately after, he quickly lowered the curtain of his stall. He scurried away like a frightened rabbit, shouting as he ran. It's you again? Then it's not a problem with the mask. If it's you, entering Hack City is just a death sentence. The whole of Hack City is hunting for you right now. But before La Tamban could get far, Diab Kin Van used his lightness skill to block his path. He placed his foot on the cart to stop it. You mean I can't enter Hack City? Although La Tamban was terrified, he still replied, that's right. You've done too many bad things. If you want to live, don't go in. Hack Bathien pointed at someone. You, in the front, stop for me. I've finally caught you, you bastard. Looking at your hair and clothes, I knew it was you. Hack Bathien had nearly gone mad trying to find the person from last time. As soon as he saw someone with a similar build to Diab Kin Van, he would immediately grab them and interrogate them repeatedly. He grabbed the person and pulled him back. The person cried out in fear, his face pale. I'm just a poor man, so I have to sell things. I haven't done anything wrong. Why are you arresting me? Sir, I wasn't selling on the sidewalk. Hack Bathien angrily turned and left. Don't wear clothes like that on the street anymore. Seriously, close that tight. Next time I see you, I'll beat you. Hack Bathien shouted angrily. Check carefully for me. Don't make a mistake again. The subordinate scurried away in fear. Yes, sir. He walked into the black market. Passing by a stall, he saw all kinds of medicinal herbs displayed. He spotted a pink fruit. Placed on a wooden rack, Diab Kin Van was secretly surprised. Oh, it's a fire fruit. A voice came from inside the stall. My name is Ko Dan, the manager of this place. An old man walked out from inside. He had a goatee and wore a long robe. On that robe were 3 flames. This was a specially made garment. The 3 flames represented the old man's status. A third-grade alchemist, the old man had one arm tied. Ko Dan chuckled lightly. Do you like the fire fruit, young master? Diab Kin Van nodded slightly. He glanced at the old man and said directly, How much is this fruit? The old man replied calmly, It's not for sale with money. Diab Kin Van immediately became interested. Then what do you need? Ko Dan still answered leisurely. Just an answer. Diab Kin Van took the paper. He glanced at it and couldn't help but laugh. Diab Kin Van asked, Do you have a pen? Ko Dan nodded. He waved his hand at the empty space and said, Kin An, bring out a pen. As soon as he finished speaking, a gust of wind was heard. Immediately after, a brush pen appeared in midair. A ghostly figure appeared beside Ko Dan. He caught the brush pen and handed it to Diab Kin Van. It was a young man with a slender build. He was dressed entirely in black. His skin was also extremely fair and smooth, like a woman's. He is Kin An, 9th level Violent Transformation Realm, Heavenly Human Realm. Ko Dan looked at Diab Kin Van with slight disdain. You can write now. Diab Kin Van started to write with the brush. All right, the fire fruit is mine. Soon, he had solved the problem. Then he handed the paper to Ko Dan. So fast? A look of surprise appeared on Ko Dan's face. He still had some doubts about Diab Kin Van, but he figured there was nothing to lose by checking. The old man took the paper and looked down. He looked and looked again. Suddenly, the old man looked up at Diab Kin Van. He said angrily, Nonsense. Everything you wrote is nonsense. Diab Kin Van's expression remained unchanged. He replied calmly, Nonsense? How do you know that? Aren't you just unwilling to sell the fire fruit? Ko Dan pointed to a spot on the paper and burst out laughing. Anyone can see that alchemy can only be done with external forces, specifically pill fire or strange fire. Who uses internal energy to perform alchemy? Aren't you afraid of damaging the ingredients? Diab Kin Van just chuckled lightly. A faint, mocking look appeared on his face. Kin An's brows furrowed tightly. His hand grasped the dark green longsword. The tip of the sword immediately pointed straight at Diab Kin Van's neck. Insolent. As Ko-dan's #1 bodyguard, he would absolutely not allow anyone to mock or disrespect his master. An unhappy look appeared on Diep Kinvan's face, but his eyes were still full of contempt. Old Ko, is this how you treat your guests? Your talent isn't bad. 16 years old, heavenly human realm. But you've been stuck at the heavenly human realm for about 2 years now, haven't you? Diep Kinvan's voice was as calm as boiled water left to cool. To gain something, you must give up something. You're too hasty. Kinane didn't get angry. Instead, he froze on the spot. What did you say? Diep Kinvan glanced at Kinane. He thought to himself, he's indeed a promising seedling. I just don't know if he can comprehend it. Diep Kinvan's expression remained unchanged. He pondered for a moment and said, all right, old Ko, if you don't like this answer. He turned to leave and continued, then I'll take my leave. We won't meet again. After just a few steps, the old man's expression changed dramatically. He shouted, stop. Diep Kinvan chuckled lightly. He leisurely turned and walked back. What? Is there something wrong, old Ko? Ko-dan was so angry that he had to shout. You know perfectly well what's wrong. Diep Kinvan continued to play dumb. Old Ko, I don't know anything. Old Ko didn't want to continue on this topic. A trace of pain appeared on his face. The old man flicked his sleeve. A reddish-brown fruit flew into Diep Kinvan's hand. The old man said angrily, I want an analysis. Diep Kinvan smiled smugly and replied, an analysis? I've already given you the answer. It's just that you don't understand. Diep Kinvan thought to himself, your question has touched upon the theories of high-level alchemists. I knew you wouldn't give up. He spoke in a strange tone. I can explain. As long as you can give me something similar, I'll tell you. Kinan immediately flared up. He cursed angrily. Bastard. How dare you say that? Ko-dan raised his hand to stop him. He spoke calmly. Fine. I agree. As long as you can analyze it, I'll give you whatever you want. Kinan, on the other hand, didn't react too strongly. Sir. Diep Kinvan's eyes lit up. A low-grade strange fire seed in the bag. The universe pouch trembled slightly. Is this for real? Old Ko flicked his sleeve, smiling as he replied, the Ko family never goes back on their word. Hearing this, Diep Kinvan nodded slightly. He said nonchalantly, all right. Your question mentioned the issue of coordinating various herbs in alchemy. The sequence is correct, Diep Kinvan said without stopping. His tone was still calm as he continued. But why is it that some medicinal ingredients can't be fully integrated and there's always a little left over? He understood alchemists very well. It was perfectly normal for them not to know about this issue, because this was a test of a 5th-grade alchemist's knowledge. Only a 5th-grade alchemist could use internal energy for alchemy. He asked, right? Ko-dan nodded slightly. That's right. I thought it was because the prescription had the wrong dosage. After all, this prescription is very old. Diep Kinvan continued, no, there's nothing wrong with this old prescription. The old man's face twitched slightly. What? For example, the iron leaf grass mentioned in this prescription. It seems that every time it's used, there's about 30 to 40% left over. Diep Kinvan continued, and the color of the pill isn't yellow, but a light green, right? Ko-dan confirmed. That's right. Diep Kinvan explained, that's because external fires can't fully bring out their effects. At that point, you need to condense the qi in your inner elixir to refine it. High-level alchemists call it qi fire. When the color turns yellow, it means you've successfully refined the pill according to the prescription. Ko-dan fell into deep thought. After a long while, the old man stared at Diep Kinvan. He asked from the bottom of his heart, then may I ask how to do it? How can I condense the qi in my inner elixir? Diep Kinvan didn't want to discourage the old man, so he explained carefully. This question is a bit off topic. Diep Kinvan's mind was racing, but thinking about the item he could get later, he couldn't help but say, how about you teach me how to cultivate to the violent transformation realm, and I'll answer that question. But one thing is certain, before condensing the qi in your inner elixir. At this point, Ko-dan was already deep in thought. Diep Kinvan continued to talk nonstop. You must completely condense the alchemy qi outside your body. Old Ko, but now it's time for payment, right? Diep Kinvan coughed lightly. He pointed at the seed on the old man's neck and said, I'll take that. I won't go back on my word. This is yours, senior. Ko-dan smiled, thinking Diep Kinvan was pointing at the object in front of him. He wanted to take a fire lotus herb. Although this fire lotus herb was valuable, it wasn't extremely rare. Seeing the old man reach for the fire lotus herb, Diep Kinvan frowned. He stopped beating around the bush and said directly, not that one. I want the strange fire seed on your neck. Ko-dan's expression changed dramatically. What? Diep Kinvan's voice was already laced with displeasure. What? You're not giving it to me. Ko-dan thought to himself, how does he know? Could it be that he has some kind of magic treasure that can sense the strange fire on me? A difficult expression appeared on Ko-dan's face, but in the end, he made up his mind. The Ko family always keeps its word. The old man tilted his head slightly. He took off the thin string and handed the strange fire to Diep Kin Van. "Senior, I won't hide it from you." Ko Dan was still a bit reluctant to part with this strange fire, because once he lost it, finding another strange fire would be like finding a needle in a haystack. It would be extremely difficult. He had no choice. The old man intended to tell the other party his future purpose. He wanted to see if there was any possibility of cooperation. But just then, another figure appeared in front of them. A large man, tall as an iron tower, strode over. Hakbathian's body was filled with killing intent. He arrived behind Diep King Van in one step. He placed a hand on his shoulder and scolded, "You've got some nerve. You dare to touch Grandmaster Ko? Die." He had seen the whole scene. He thought that Grandmaster Ko had been bullied and humiliated. So as soon as he appeared, he immediately scolded Diep Kin Van. He wanted to take the opportunity to make a good impression on old Ko. A first-grade alchemist was certainly not worth his effort, but a third-grade alchemist was completely different. Diep Kin Van didn't say a word. He just coldly turned and slapped his hand away. Ko Dan frowned. His voice carried a hint of displeasure. "Commander Hack, you've misunderstood." Although Hack Ba Thien's body was large, his mind was slow. He thought Old Ko was worried about himself. He calmly said, "Old Ko, don't worry. This is Hack City. On my turf, no one dares to threaten you." Diep Kin Van took a step forward. He looked at him with cold arrogance. He said thoughtfully, "Pig, do you recognize me?" Hack Ba Thien paused for a moment. He tried to search his memory. Soon, his expression changed dramatically. He let out a high-pitched voice, "It's you." Hack Ba Thien's hand clenched tightly. The chair next to him immediately shattered with a crack. "You bastard, you're dead for sure this time." Hack Ba Thien roared angrily. The Hackheart sword in his hand was already aimed at Diep Kin Van's head. If this sword strike hit, Diep Kin Van would surely die on the spot. But right after, his longsword stopped dead in midair. Diep Kin Van's hand had touched the sword. Beside Old Ko, Kin An looked at Diep Kin Van with burning eyes. He was secretly anxious. He drew his sword. Let's see how good his swordsmanship is. A wave of lightning erupted from Diep Kin Van's body. A rumbling sound echoed continuously. It quickly condensed into a sword. Hack Ba Thien's eyes widened. His body trembled slightly. He looked up. What appeared in his eyes was a figure. This figure was identical to Diep Kin Van. The only difference was that its entire body was covered in lightning. Its aura was long and extremely violent. "What is this?" The figure quickly rushed forward like a bolt of lightning. It madly attacked Hack Ba Thien. Thunder Peak. Diep Kin Van chuckled lightly. He sheathed his sword. "Clone." Kin An was shocked. He blurted out, "What?" Unable to suppress the question in his heart, Hack Ba Thien's eyes trembled as he looked at the masked person. "You? Who are you? You want to kill me?" "I'm one of the 4 deputy commanders in Hack City. Commander Lam Ba Tai is like a brother to me. You dare?" A voice full of disrespect came from his mouth. "So what? Are you threatening me?" The expressions of many people around changed one after another. "I heard that Commander Lam Ba Tai is no simple character, right? I heard he reached the peak of the violent transformation realm before he was 23. He's also a second-grade disciple of the Star Pavilion Academy, just an intern. But he rarely comes to Hack City. Most of Hack City is controlled by the 4 deputy commanders." Hearing the surrounding discussions, Hack Ba Thien immediately felt proud. This was his biggest backing. It was the protection from the commander of Hack City, Lam Ba Tai. Seeing his expression, Hack Ba Thien immediately burst out laughing. Thinking his threat had worked, he immediately forgot his status. He became even more arrogant. "Scared now? No matter how strong you are, there are some people you can't touch. Cut off your own arm and kneel down to apologize. I'll spare your life." Diep Kin Van's gaze towards Hack Ba Thien had turned completely ice cold. To be honest, at first, he had only planned to cripple him completely, cripple his meridians and his spiritual energy, but now he had changed his mind. Diep Kin Van's right hand suddenly moved slightly. The unfeeling sword immediately left its sheath. A cold light flashed, streaking past Hack Ba Thien's eyes. Hack Ba Thien's eyes widened. His face was filled with intense fear. Even in death, he couldn't believe Diep Kin Van really dared to kill him. "You." The tip of the sword drew a perfect arc. It landed steadily on Hack Ba Thien's neck. Fresh red blood seeped out. It flowed down his clothes and dripped onto the ground. In the distance, Kin An stared blankly at this scene. The image of the masked person drawing his sword was still fresh in his mind. The sword stroke was very fast, very precise, and he's clearly only at the chi condensation realm. Diep King Van quickly left using his lightness skill. How could he do that? "Old Ko." Kin An was about to open his mouth to ask, but the old man beside him smiled mysteriously. "What do you want to ask? Did he really have a magic treasure that could sense the strange fire on you?" "Don't worry, as long as the strange fire seed is still on him, I'll find it." In a striking red pavilion with a red-pointed roof of the same color, the windows and architectural structure were complex but not simple. An angry voice with a pattern suddenly rang out. "Who did this? A frightened, somewhat trembling voice replied, "I don't know. I only know that the person wore a black hat and was dressed in black." The first deputy commander, with a cultivation at the second level of the violent transformation realm, his face changed drastically. He said angrily, "How could this happen? How could someone dare to openly injure a deputy commander of Hack City? They're clearly looking down on our dark city." The third deputy commander, with a cultivation at the first level of the violent transformation realm, had a shifty-eyed appearance. A trace of fear appeared on his face. "Hakbathian is dead. The master won't take it out on us, will he?" Beside him was the second deputy commander, at the second level of the violent transformation realm.